As the mist envelopes the surroundings and the otherworldly creatures howl outside the window, all the players huddle in their dilapidated sanctuary, trembling. Yet, Bai Yi finds himself transported to the visage of a great entity, composed of endless flesh and blood. Witnessing the horrifying banquet of this fleshly planet being devoured by a more terrifying existence. The splattered remnants of flesh and bone become Bai Yi's sole novice gift pack. Some endeavor to upgrade their sanctuaries with mysterious seeds, aiming to forge a world tree. Others utilize unknown statues in their attempts to establish a grand church. While yet others employ hallucinogenic substances to shroud reality in lies. Bai Yi, however, merges the infinitely proliferating bones and flesh with his sanctuary, crafting a unique sanctuary of blood and bones. Chapter 1. A face-to-face transcendence. Welcome to the land of mist. Whether you are affluent or bedridden, here, everything shall commence anew. You possess a relatively equitable starting point. Regardless of age or gender, your deficiencies will be forcibly compensated to the mean. Cherish this new opportunity. The sanctuary log is of paramount importance, as it will expedite your understanding of this world. Above all, survive. The voice gradually fades, its gender indeterminate. No. It is even debatable whether it is a voice at all. It seems to emanate from a profound realization within. Bai Yi lies motionless on a small wooden bed. After a considerable pause, he nearly begs himself, cautiously opening his eyes. Before him lies an array of unfamiliar colors. Without windows, the sunlight is not blinding, rendering time indiscernible. He reclines on the bed, his eyes darting greedily to absorb everything within sight. The ceiling, walls, and doorframe are merely wooden skeletons, while the rest is precariously thatched. He endeavors to muster strength in his upper body, gradually rising from the bed, and now Bai Yi perceives the entirety of the room. It is modest in size, roughly 20 square meters, containing a rickety single bed cushioned with straw, a table adorned with a book and a candle, alongside an iron box and a weathered stone axe by the table leg. The door, tightly shut, is also crafted from thatch, though devoid of windows. A faint light seeps in from outside, barely illuminating the space. At this moment, Bai Yi attempts to stand and make his way to the small table. 1 step. 2 steps. Delight floods his mind, and his body trembles with excitement. Suddenly, his legs give way, and he collapses onto the floor. Fortunately, he has reached the table. Recalling the voice from his mind, he grasps the sanctuary log. He reaches out for the sanctuary log and opens it. The first page contains important notes. 1. The shelter is unique and irreplaceable. 2. You must fortify your shelter to withstand dangers. 3. Daytime may not guarantee safety, but do your utmost to explore. 4. Nighttime is perilous. Refrain from venturing out. 5. Newcomers enjoy a 7-day grace period during which players within the shelter will not suffer any physical harm. This protection expires after 7 days. The journal, composed of some leather material, is turned to the second page, which details the weather, while the third page reveals information about the shelter. Thatch hut. Level 1. Durability 1010. Capacity 50 units. Traits none. Upgrade 30 wood. Description: a thatch hut devoid of any protective capabilities. It cannot even withstand a gentle push, so please refrain from attempting it. The fourth page contains personal information. Players can view personal information at any time. Other details require the journal to be held. Bai Yi. Health. Age 30. The average value for adult attributes is 3, with a maximum of 10. Strength 3. The strength that can be summoned from the entire body. Greater leg strength increases speed and agility, originally 2. Only capable of sustaining minimal physiological activity, a forced compensation. Mental state 9. Constitution 3. Originally 5. Only capable of sustaining minimal physiological activity, a forced compensation. Sanity 100. Sanity below 70 results in slight hallucinations. Below 50 leads to severe hallucinations accompanied by minor aftereffects. Below 30 induces insanity, distorting perception with significant aftereffects. Below 10 results in permanent madness, with all cognition utterly warped and irretrievable. Reaching 0 leads to aberration. Talent, steel-spined will. Effect 1. Active upon activation. As sanity decreases, the hardness index of your spine increases, potentially rivaling steel. Both strength and constitution will significantly augment, up to 3-fold, lasting for 10 minutes. Afterward, all lost sanity is fully restored, entering a cooldown period of 12 hours. Effect 2. Passive 1. When sanity drops to 1, sanity is forcibly locked. 2. You are immune to all negative states related to sanity. However, your consciousness will endure immense suffering, which diminishes as sanity recovers. Once sanity exceeds 30, the pain dissipates. Description: during a decade where all senses were stripped away, you remained unbroken, envisioning countless times how your existence might have been had that steel rod not pierced your spine, compressing your brainstem. In countless longings, your soul responded to you. As Bai Yi traced the words with his fingers, his eyes gradually blurred, tears cascading onto the journal. That dark decade is one he shall never forget. Unable to see, hear, or touch, he could do nothing but reflect and fantasize. Now a new beginning. A slow smile crept across Bai Yi's lips. Regardless of where this might be, he sincerely expresses gratitude to the entity that has granted him this second chance. Turning the page, he found the player forum and plaza, both devoid of any presence or discourse. Further ahead lay the chat channels, divided into 3 sections: World Channel, Regional Channel, and Personal Channel. The world and regional channels were ablaze with a flurry of messages, ceaselessly refreshing. Is this a reality show? Where am I? I want to go home. Dad, Mom, where are you? I am so scared. Child, I am here. Crawl to me. The precise number of individuals present remained undisclosed, and Bai Yi was unaware, remaining silent as he focused on the small text below. The World Channel stated, each individual may send a maximum of 10 messages per day, while the regional and personal channels impose no restrictions, refreshing at midnight daily. Bai Yi noticed an additional page behind this one and was about to turn it when a gust of wind swept through. The air carried a pungent scent of blood, tinged with a hint of crimson. Bai Yi looked up, only to discover that a crack had mysteriously formed in the door. Hadn't it been tightly shut just moments ago? A sense of unease washed over him. Though he was uncertain of his surroundings, the logs indicated that even daylight offered no guarantee of safety outside. Nevertheless, he rose slowly and approached the door. The logs asserted that the sanctuary was utterly secure, impervious to physical attacks. But wait, could there be a possibility of mental assault? Uncertain of the sanctuary's protective measures, he hesitated. What if the protection failed upon opening the door? For safety's sake, it seemed prudent to close the door instead. Bai Yi murmured to himself, analyzing the situation while bolstering his resolve. He moved cautiously, silencing his footsteps, acutely aware of the malevolent presence lurking beyond the door. The closer he drew, the more uncomfortable he felt, as if the very air around him began to recoil. A faint breeze seeped through the crack, and Bai Yi sensed the air he inhaled becoming increasingly viscous, almost solid, taking root within him. Finally standing before the door, he chose not to gaze outside, fearing the unknown dangers that lay beyond, and instead hurriedly closed it. His movements were deliberate. The door, made of thatch, was of poor quality, and a forceful slam could lead to calamity. The door creaked shut, and nothing untoward occurred. Yet, Bai Yi did not relax. He meticulously scanned the room for any vulnerabilities. As his gaze fell upon the table, his pupils constricted sharply. The log had inexplicably turned a page, revealing a dense array of warnings. With a mere thought, the words materialized. Warning, warning, warning. An unseen presence lurks outside. Ensure all doors and windows are tightly sealed, and do not gaze outside. During the novice protection period, the system is expelling threats. Time remaining, 10 seconds. Upon reading the first part, Bai Yi felt a chill settle in his heart, fearing that after just rising, he might soon find himself lying down once more. However, the latter part provided him with a measure of relief. The unseen existence, though shrouded in mystery, had been warned against gazing upon it, a testament to the belief that such an act would lead to dire consequences. Bai Yi felt a flicker of trepidation. Fortunately, his caution had spared him. Yet, was it merely 10 minutes? Just as this thought crossed his mind, words materialized once more. 9, 8, 7, it was indeed seconds. At last, Bai Yi felt a sense of relief wash over him. He stepped back from the door, exhaling deeply. 5, 4, this breath seemed to be the final straw that broke the camel's back. As he inhaled, an abundance of air surged into his body, reviving the dissipating atmosphere within him, causing it to rapidly solidify and expand. You have been lightly contaminated by the unseen existence. Sanity, 21, in that instant. He sensed something amiss within his body and realized he had made a critical error in the last moment of carelessness. He immediately held his breath and retreated. 3, but it was too late, as if sensing his presence or merely swaying casually. 2. The next moment, a piece of flesh, no larger than a fingernail, connected to shattered bone, arced gently toward the door. A cluster of thatch fell slowly, and the door was punctured by this morsel of flesh. 1 at this point. Bai Yi found himself unable to control his body. He was being manipulated, desperately peering through the small hole to glimpse the outside world. Chapter 2 the following day. The hole in the thatch door was no larger than a jar. The surrounding void was suffused with fragments of flesh, and Bai Yi felt as if his eyes might burst, yet he found himself utterly unable to control his body. In the next moment, his perspective shifted back to the sanctuary. He retched violently as his stomach convulsed, while rising in his throat. Before he could revel in his survival, Excruciating pain coursed through him like electric currents. He staggered backward, colliding with a wooden table, which emitted a dull thud. The metallic sound of his spine echoed in the air as sharp, angular bones protruded beneath his skin, akin to a steel blade pressing upward from his coccyx. He curled up on the floor, his nails digging deeply into his palms, yet not a single drop of blood emerged. Every capillary in his body constricted, rendering his skin an eerie shade of ashen blue. Each breath felt like swallowing shards of glass. And Bai Yi could not fathom that such overwhelming agony could be so terrifying. With the last remnants of his strength, he managed to turn over, after which the entire world descended into darkness. When Bai Yi regained consciousness amidst the throes of pain, dawn had already begun to break. He found himself still curled up, his back drenched in cold sweat, clinging to his rigid spine. As he attempted to shift his body, a tearing pain shot from his coccyx to the crown of his head. Bai Yi bit down hard on his lip, the metallic taste of blood flooding his mouth. His spine felt as though it had been cast in molten steel. With each breath, he sensed the phantom agony of metal searing his insides. An information panel in his mind indicated that his sanity was recovering, 30,100. With great effort, Bai Yi raised his head and observed the room, which was marred by deep claw marks, remnants of dark red tissue lingering in the uneven grooves, as if scraped repeatedly by some barbed instrument. As his gaze drifted to the surface of the table, his pupils dilated in shock. The wooden handle of a stone axe bore 5 indentations, the edges still smeared with flakes of shed skin. Was it me? Trembling, he lifted his right hand, discovering wood shavings embedded beneath his nails. A dawning horror washing over him. What kind of struggle had his body endured during those long hours of unconsciousness? Yet, almost immediately, he erupted into laughter. I have survived. I am alive. I will not perish. I must endure. It was not until the first light of dawn that Bai Yi could precariously lean against the wall to stand. Upon checking his log, he realized it was already the next day. His attention was drawn to a pile of straw near the door, which glimmered with a dark red light. Using a stick he found nearby, he poked through the straw, revealing a piece of flesh the size of a fingernail, accompanied by some bone fragments. This was from yesterday, when he had wrapped the shattered bones in straw, only to hear whispers upon touching them. A cacophony of voices as if millions were murmuring in his ears. You see the endless proliferation of flesh and bone. Sanity 8. Sanity 22100. A piercing pain surged through his mind once more, though it was not as intense. Bai Yi was startled, nearly dropping the stick. Until the items were meticulously placed into the storage box, the eerie whispers finally subsided. Such a minuscule piece of flesh occupied 30 units? Bai Yi exclaimed in astonishment. Although he was unaware of its purpose, an innate intuition informed him that this was indeed a remarkable find. Ah, the sensation of pain. It seemed he must maintain his sanity above 30 from now on. A growl emanated from his stomach, reminding Bai Yi that he had spent an entire day and night here without consuming anything. He needed to venture out in search of sustenance. Remaining within the confines of the shelter, even with the novice protection period, would not allow him to survive beyond 2 days. Stretching his limbs, Bai Yi discovered he was largely unscathed, and thus he grasped his axe, pausing momentarily to take his journal with him. Surveying his surroundings, Bai Yi noted that the white mist enveloped the entire world like congealed milk. Wisps of indistinct shapes floated within the fog, and the trees merely presented twisted silhouettes 10 meters away. Visibility was severely compromised. He hoped for a fortuitous outcome. Bolstering his resolve, he stepped into the haze. Bai Yi walked at a measured pace, ever vigilant of the slightest rustle around him. However, the profound silence was disconcerting. Even the wind was absent. In this manner, Bai Yi circumnavigated several hundred meters around the shelter, yet found no food. This left him feeling somewhat anxious. While the lack of food was manageable, 2 days of hunger could be endured with only mild weakness. The issue of water was pressing. He had not drunk any water for nearly 2 days, and it was imperative to locate a source today. Feeling the early signs of dehydration and recalling his innate abilities, Bai Yi gritted his teeth and resolved to explore further afield. He proceeded in a specific direction, occasionally marking his path. At last, fortune smiled upon him. He heard the sound of flowing water and quickened his pace towards it, discovering a small stream. After sampling the water to confirm it was fresh, he finally replenished his hydration. Subsequently, he scoured the stream's banks, finding no living creatures, yet he did encounter some wild fruits and a carcass. It was a rabbit, relatively intact but already decaying, its gray fur mottled with dark green mold, and translucent maggots wriggled from its hollow eye sockets. Discovered a minor contamination source, rabbit carcass. Sanity -1. Discovered wild fruits, non-toxic, edible. Faced with the choice between the fruits and the rabbit, Bai Yi decisively opted for the fruits. After satisfying his hunger, he gathered a bountiful collection of wild fruits to carry back. As he prepared to leave, He reconsidered and decided to take the rabbit by its ears as well. During this process, Bai Yi discovered that while holding his journal, he could access item information and decompose animal carcasses. However, he was unable to open forums, squares, or directly place items into the shelter's storage box. Upon returning to the shelter, Bai Yi had no intention of venturing outside again, for the journal indicated that it was already afternoon, though the exact time remained unknown. However, Bai Yi took a moment to browse the forum, where he discovered a highlighted post stating that the duration of daytime was 8 hours. He did not have the luxury to read it thoroughly, as time was of the essence. He was already a day behind others and needed to expedite his efforts to avoid elimination. With the remaining time, Bai Yi commenced chopping trees to gather timber. He attempted to decompose logs directly, but to no avail. Only felled trees could be broken down. It was truly a situation devoid of any loopholes. Even a gentleman must be wary. Bai Yi grumbled in frustration. The quantity of timber produced from a tree's decomposition was contingent upon its size, and after a busy afternoon, he had managed to gather 25 units of wood. As dusk approached, he realized he still had not collected enough timber to upgrade. Casting a glance at his status panel, he noted, Rationality 50100. In the next moment, he shouted, Steel spine will activate. Suddenly, a sound akin to gears turning emanated from his spine. Bai Yi felt a surge of electricity coursing through his joints, as his muscles expanded at a visible rate. Steel spine will activated, Rationality 40. Current Rationality 10100. 25-fold amplification gained. Warning, your rationality is below 30. You are descending into madness. Your perception is distorted. Exemption granted. A wave of pain originating from his soul engulfed him, yet compared to the previous night, it was bearable. At least Bai Yi could withstand it. He raised his hand, and even the ordinary stone axe he wielded cut through the air with a whoosh. Crack. A pine tree, as thick as a bowl, snapped cleanly. Observing the smooth surface of the break, he gauged his stamina, his breath becoming increasingly labored. He attempted to strike continuously, and indeed, each swing was a critical hit. In a mere 3 minutes, Bai Yi collected 20 units of wood. He could sense that this was not his limit, but rather the axe was what held him back. Subsequently, he refrained from further tree felling and opted to check his attributes. Bai Yi. Health, age, 30, strength, 753, mentality, 9, constitution, 753, rationality, 10,100. Through experimentation, Bai Yi marveled once more at the potency of his innate abilities. His strength, speed, and neural reflexes had all received substantial enhancement. Simultaneously, he understood the absence of agility. A forceful push from his legs propelled him several meters in an instant. Maneuvers such as sudden stops, sharp turns, and instantaneous acceleration were executed with astonishing swiftness. Moreover, his constitution of 75 allowed him to perform these high-difficulty actions with remarkable ease. 10 minutes later, Bai Yi returned to the shelter, feeling a sense of satisfaction. Now, the main event awaited. Shelter upgrade conditions met. Would you like to upgrade? Yes. Chapter 3. A Forum of Talents. Shelter upgrade successful. Bai Yi gazed at the newly refurbished wooden cabin. The decayed thatch walls had transformed into slanted wooden planks, and the previously drafty gaps were filled with dried grass stems, expanding the area to 50 square meters. Although it remained quite rudimentary, at least it was no longer so drafty, and Bai Yi felt content. Bai Yi opened the log and turned to the shelter information. Rundown cabin, level 2. Durability, 100-100. Capacity, 76-150. Traits, none. Upgrade, 200 wood, 50 stone. Description, a dilapidated house constructed of thatch and wooden planks. Its only advantage being its sturdiness. New. Window, wishing well function. Items can be exchanged for random replacements, limited to 5 exchanges per item. Description, a gambler's favorite. A boon for the destitute. The newly added window resembled a murky eye embedded in the eastern wall through the frosted glass. One could glimpse the stone well that appeared mysteriously 3 meters away. Bai Yi assessed the wishing well through the window, feeling a slight urge to venture outside. But the ominous reminder of nighttime dangers brought to mind the unseen presence that hovered close to him. A shiver ran down his spine, dispelling that thought. Lying on his rickety wooden bed, he decided to browse the forum. At that moment, the chat channel of the log flashed with a red indicating 99 new messages. Upon opening it, the world channel information refreshed at an astonishing rate of 1,000 messages per second. Help. There's something scratching at my door. I just traded a rotten apple for a golden legend. Damn it, foolish wishing well took my good axe. Hey, I hit the jackpot. What did you win, beast? The chat channel was filled with a jubilant atmosphere. Switching to the forum section, the previously barren forum was now brimming with posts, accumulating at a rate of 10 new entries per minute. Among them, many pinned gilded posts stood out. each with over 100,000 likes. At the very top was a post regarding time. Theorem of day and night duration in the Misty world author. Unaware, players can set their own name. Likes, 13.7 billion. On the first day, I did not engage in any strenuous activities and only maintained basic metabolic functions, ensuring my heart rate remained steady. I calculated that the cycle of day and night in the Misty world alternated between 1,002 hours of daylight and 1,398 hours of night. This means that the relatively safe period for activities is from 8 a.m. to 6 o'clock p.m. Thus, we can roughly infer the onset of darkness based on the morning and afternoon displayed in the log, preventing players from being caught outside when night falls while exploring or gathering resources. Below is my proof process. Due to time constraints, I only conducted a one-day trial, so the conclusion is for reference only. I will carry out multiple rounds of retesting to ensure minimal error. Here, I share my training methods. Others can also learn and verify these inferences for themselves. First, the human heart. Finally, I sincerely hope everyone can survive. Goodbye. The post concluded, and Bai Yi continued scrolling down, where the comments awaited. This is a legendary post. The preface has been comprehended, the conclusion is clear, and the epilogue is understood. However, the remaining content eludes my grasp. Spare me the trivialities. As a warrior, I seek only the essence of the matter. Thus, I inquire, why is the comment section filled with adulation, gratitude, and expressions of confusion? Bai Yi endeavored to explore the method of measuring time, only to find it utterly perplexing. Scratching his head, he pondered how humanity had evolved to such a state after a decade of slumber. Leaving behind a remark of reverence for the esteemed, he continued to scroll down. The second highlighted post bears the title, Dangers and Precautions in the Misty World, authored by Bai Yi, boasting an astounding 9.3 billion likes. The text is broadly divided into 5 sections. 1. Within a kilometer of the shelter. The probability of encountering wild beasts is minimal. 2. Beyond 1 kilometer from the shelter, wolves and grizzly bears roam, with the possibility of other beasts lurking. Attached are photographs of the carcasses of wolves and bears. 3. Beyond 1 kilometer from the shelter, one might chance upon aberrant creatures. A photograph, taken in the underbrush, reveals a faint humanoid silhouette in the distance. 4. At night, within 1 kilometer of the shelter, there is a significant likelihood of encountering wild beasts and corrupted corpses, a type of aberrant creature. Note, it is advised that individuals with attributes below 8 refrain from confronting aberrant creatures. I have learned this lesson the hard way. Attached is an image of a decayed corpse, partially obscured for modesty. Bai Yi, intrigued, clicked on the high-definition display in the lower right corner. You behold the grotesque visage of a decayed corpse, sanity 8. An image of a robust man, with deep, visible wounds on his arms and thighs. Attribute screenshot, strength 75, constitution 7, spirit 6, sanity 511005. Do not become enamored with exploration. Prioritize upgrading the shelter to level 2. Most wild beasts and aberrant creatures hunt by scent. A thatched hut leaks odor, and the beginner's protection for the shelter only activates when the shelter is intact. An image of a thatched hut missing its roof, with a decayed corpse standing outside. Upon reading this, Bai Yi chuckled, although misfortune befell him. Witnessing the calamities of others was truly amusing. Simultaneously, he became aware of the existence of aberrant creatures, while he remained uncertain if the entity that had approached him was one of them. The appearance of the decayed corpse made him realize that there could be vast differences among aberrant beings. Bai Yi did not examine each post meticulously, but rather browsed through them intermittently. When one highlighted post piqued his interest, some conclusions on the wishing well. It offered an analysis of the lucky well, which closely resembled the descriptions found in his journal. However, the amusing aspect was the comments section below the post. Aranum, retire the weapon. You, I, the wishing well, I. You, I love you, lucky well. Ha ha ha. A piece of wood exchange for a fine weapon, moi. Below, an image depicting the attributes of a two-handed greatsword. The vitriol in the comments escalated. Bai Yi continued to read, and upon discovering that a player had once sacrificed a decayed corpse to obtain a fine weapon, he instinctively glanced at the fragments of bone and flesh within his box. As I scrolled down, a myriad of titles dazzled my eyes. How players can efficiently utilize the unique advantages surrounding shelters for rapid development. A brief discussion on the correlation between rational deductions and the danger levels of otherworldly beasts, exploring the 108 methods of utilizing shelter logs. The most suitable exercise methods for ordinary people in the foggy world, classification of item quality, and comprehensive guide to outdoor cooking techniques, among others. After a moment of browsing, Bai Yi found himself drawn to the player's square, where thousands of product listings hung in the air. Anonymous, selling a worn stone axe, common quality, in exchange for 10 units of purified water. 8848 titanium phone. 1 hemostatic herb for 5 units of wood. Wang Dabo. High prices for armor blueprints. Private message with offer. Bai Yi lingered the longest on the post titled The Most Suitable Exercise Methods for Ordinary People in the Foggy World. This post had recently been published and was gaining likes at an astonishing rate. The authors comprised dozens of individuals, their names forming an extensive and dense list that appeared genuine. The post proposed that a specific breathing rhythm combined with a scientific exercise regimen yielded remarkable results. Furthermore, it suggested that in the foggy world, the human body's recovery abilities would experience a slight enhancement. The post mentioned the potential existence of an unknown substance in the air, which would prevent exercise from incurring the various negative effects commonly seen on Earth. They temporarily named this substance spiritual essence. Following this, the post presented several exercise methods, encouraging individuals with different attributes to adopt the corresponding techniques. In conclusion, the post reflected on humanity's journey, when primitive humans braved the icy winds of the Ice Age to emerge from the caves of Africa. When the people of the Xia and Shang dynasties inscribed the first pictographs on bone. When Gagarin broke through the atmosphere to gaze upon the blue planet. These moments all serve to affirm that humanity's most potent survival weapon has never been sharp claws, but rather the exploration courage and collaborative wisdom etched into our very genes. It continued, the crisis we face now may be more perilous than any before. We have traversed into an entirely new world, engaging in a dangerous yet absurd game. But remember, the Iliad was born from the collapse of Troy. The Renaissance blossomed in the shadow of the Black Death, and a peaceful constitution was rebuilt from the ruins of the East. Every dire circumstance is an upgrade for civilization. Let us transform fear into motivation, condense wisdom into weaponry, and rewrite the survival narrative of the fog into a prologue of dawn. For it is humanity alone that defines the moment of its own demise. Fear is an instinct of living beings, while courage is the anthem of humanity. Long live humanity. Initially, the comments section featured a variety of voices. Uft, is this motivational talk useful now? What a farce, I am a valiant general. AUV, is that not general brother? However, gradually, the comments began to unify. Long live humanity. Long live humanity. Long live humanity. Bai Yi silently observed as the comments flooded the screen. A soft hum escaped his lips, and in the dimly lit room, his expression remained obscured. He had lain in bed for a decade, struck down during the prime of his youth by a most grievous blow. He often felt a profound chasm separating him from contemporary humanity. To his dismay, he found that a decade later, humanity still exhibited such naivety. He murmured to himself, yet his hands stirred with resolve. Long live humanity. Chapter 4. The lottery. Upon successfully sending the message, Bai Yi felt a twinge of discomfort. He quickly shook his head, casting aside extraneous thoughts, allowing the determination for survival to reclaim his mind. Closing the journal, he reflected on the rapid progression of the top players, who had distanced themselves significantly from the ordinary players in just 2 days, not to mention his own lag of an entire day behind the others. He surmised that he was among the last cohort, compelled to strive to catch up. Steadying himself, Bai Yi rose to his feet, intent on trying the prescribed exercise regimen. He began with breathing techniques, meticulously following the instructions from the post, which claimed that this method would thoroughly exhaust his muscles, maximizing the efficacy of his workout. Before long, he grasped the essentials and commenced his warm-up and exercises. The movements were simple, comprising the most common bodyweight exercises, yet Bai Yi approached them with fervor. He continued to train until the deep hours of the night, halting only when the pain in his muscles became excruciating. Exhausted, he climbed onto the wooden bed and succumbed to slumber. Weather, clear. Location, the land of mist. Time, morning. Temperature, 18 to 20 C, as dawn broke. Bai Yi awoke feeling remarkably refreshed. Stretching his limbs, he relished the satisfying pops and cracks throughout his body. He moved about, marveling at the veracity of the post's claims. Despite the intense fatigue, a single night's sleep had restored him completely. With this thought, he accessed his status panel. Bai Yi, health, age, 30, strength, 31, mentality, 9, constitution, 31, reason, 100. Had he gained 0, 1? An elation surged within him. It seemed imperative to incorporate exercise into his daily routine, for who does not revel in the sensation of becoming stronger? After a brief warm-up, Bai Yi approached the wishing well, where 5 wild fruits, 5 wooden pieces, 5 stones, a bundle of straw, and the carcass of a tainted rabbit lay, his entire fortune. Rubbing his hands together in excitement, he prepared to draw from the well. A faint gray mist hovered over the well's opening, obscuring its depths, while moss clung to its interior walls. Glancing around, he first picked up a wild fruit and tossed it into the well. A splash echoed from the bottom. Wild fruit exchange count, 45. Moldy bread, a darkened loaf of bread ejected from the depths, landing at Bai Yi's feet. The second wild fruit arced gracefully through the air. Wild fruit exchange count, 35. 500 milliliters purified water. With the third and fourth fruits, he continued. Withered reed 1, wood 1. Wild fruit exchange count, 15. Hey! Bai Yi raised his brow, pondering the misfortune he had encountered. After a moment of contemplation, he placed the last wild fruit down and exchanged it for wood. 1 unit of wood descended into the well. A crumpled paper ball emerged from the well, which Bai Yi deftly caught. Was there writing upon it? He unfurled the paper and retrieved the log. Delicate stone pickaxe, blueprint quality, good durability, 2020 description, 1 wood. 3 stones, isn't it quite simple? Wood exchange count, 45. A successful yield, and a substantial one at that. Bai Yi felt a surge of good fortune. 4 pieces of wood were tossed in. What a letdown. Bai Yi, irate, hurled the 4 pieces of grass onto the ground. Wood exchange count, 05. Well then, wood shall not be used for wishes anymore. Bai Yi turned and began to lift stones, pouring them in one by one. Withered reed 1, wood 1, stone 2. Wild fruit 1. He closed his eyes, pretending not to see the detritus. In the next moment, a gun materialized. In an instant, Bai Yi's reflexes kicked in, and he grasped it tightly, unwilling to let this treasure fall to the ground. Shepherd's compassion, damaged, quality, exquisite durability, 55 description, once the pride of a master craftsman. This gun is now severely damaged. Only a flicker of brilliance remains. Each shot reduces durability, and upon reaching 0, the weapon becomes obsolete. Each hour, the weapon naturally recovers a bit of durability. Each bullet has a 5 chance to trigger a painful wail, stunning the target for 1 second. This was a tarnished silver revolver, with a chamber capacity of 10, 5 of which were blocked by an unknown object and rendered unusable. Stone exchange count, 05. Bai Yi's breath grew labored. This was precisely the weapon he lacked the most, despite his formidable abilities after unlocking his talent. It did not alter the fact that he was merely a weakling with a power level of 3. With determination, Bai Yi unhesitatingly tossed the tainted rabbit carcass into the well. The water surged and boiled, the force of the eruption tousling his hair. The clanging of exchanged items caused Bai Yi's pupils to constrict, revealing a pulsating heart. You have discovered a beating heart. Reason, 15. Without a moment's hesitation, Bai Yi seized the revolver, aimed, and fired in one fluid motion. Bang! His hand went numb from the tremendous recoil, nearly causing him to lose grip on the weapon. The heart exploded into fragments. With a sigh of relief, Bai Yi suddenly found himself holding his breath. He poked at the remnants with a stick, ensuring they were thoroughly still before cautiously inhaling. Only after he was certain of his safety did he begin to breathe freely once more. Bai Yi took a moment to calm his emotions and continued with the lottery. Behind him lay the thatch. He drew forth the wild fruits he had previously gathered and cast them into the fray. As he gazed upon the last wild fruit, an intuition stirred within him. Something significant was about to emerge. He received a withered thatch in return, having exchanged 5 wild fruits. Bai Yi nonchalantly caught the thatch and tore it to shreds. Having exhausted his prepared offerings, he suddenly produced a moldy piece of bread. He had perused the forum and discovered that items exchanged from the wishing well could also be utilized. Naturally, the logs were an exception. They seemed unique and would return directly to the shelter. With a flick of his wrist, Bai Yi cast the bread away. A windproof lighter appeared, marked as ordinary with a durability of 100. It was a fine acquisition. At least he would no longer need to consume raw meat. Satisfied with this round of the lottery, Bai Yi contemplated withdrawing, though he had other items at his disposal for potential exchanges, such as a piece of bloody flesh or the gun in his hand. The former carried too much risk of yielding an unpleasant surprise. As for the latter, recalling the lamentations of the gamblers on the forum, he resolved to stop while he was ahead. No longer intent on chopping trees, his meager attributes would yield little wood in a day's labor. Bai Yi decided instead to craft several stone pickaxes. Especially after having acquired the crafting blueprint, he intended to sell them at the square. It was the 3rd day, and many players were in dire need of stone for upgrading their shelters. However, they were limited to a single, worn-out stone axe of ordinary quality, lacking even pickaxes. This situation had driven the prices of common pickaxes to exorbitant heights, let alone those of superior quality. With this thought, Bai Yi felt reassured. Armed with a stone axe in his left hand, a log in his right, and a revolver recently reloaded at his waist, he was fully equipped and ready to explore his surroundings in search of prey. From the forum, he had learned that the log would not be lost. Even if damaged or left behind, it would return to the shelter. Fear of damage was alleviated, as it would not be lost. And he could check item information, truly an essential remedy for exploration in the Misty lands. Bai Yi treaded carefully over the decaying leaves. Advancing slowly into the depths of the forest, the silver barrel of his revolver gleaming coldly at his side. After spending half a day surveying a 1-kilometer radius, he had discovered little in the way of game, only a collection of fruits and a few sources of fresh water. Moments ago, he had ventured beyond the 1-kilometer safety zone, and caution now weighed heavily upon him. Suddenly, Bai Yi felt something snag at his feet, a thorny bramble hidden beneath the leaves. As he stumbled forward, a shadow darted from the fog behind him. At the first sound of a low whimper, a sense of foreboding washed over Bai Yi, causing the hairs on the back of his neck to stand on end. In a reflexive motion, he fell forward, releasing the log and extending his right hand in front of him. As he made contact with the ground, he bent slightly, channeling his strength to roll to the left. A dark shadow swept across the upper right of Bai Yi, causing a tingling sensation in his right arm, followed by a warm stream trickling down his limb. There was no time for him to dwell on this. Leveraging the inertia, he rolled and swiftly regained his footing, his revolver now firmly in his right hand. A missed shot prompted the shadow to rapidly pivot and charge at him once more. Bai Yi aimed carefully, resisting the urge to fire immediately. For one unaccustomed to shooting, the likelihood of hitting a target with such a powerful weapon from a distance was exceedingly slim. As the adage goes, a gun is quick from 7 paces, yet accurate and swift within 7 paces. At this moment, Bai Yi's gaze sharpened, and he pulled the trigger. The shadow's head erupted like a watermelon, its body collapsing feebly at his feet, its forelegs twitching involuntarily. The creature that lay lifeless before him was none other than a gray wolf. Bai Yi stood motionless. A surge of adrenaline coursing through him dulled any sense of pain. His gun hand trembled slightly. This was his inaugural battle, a surprise ambush, yet he had emerged victorious. A fleeting glance at his right arm revealed a 10-centimeter wound, not particularly deep, but bleeding profusely. He retrieved a prepared strip of cloth and wrapped it around his upper arm, tying it with the assistance of his left hand and mouth. Howling echoed through the mist. 1 wolf, 2 wolves, 3, until a total of 10 wolves emerged, crawling from the fog, their drool dripping from their fangs onto the decaying leaves. Encircling Bai Yi with deliberate calmness, he remained silent, taking no further action as he continued to tie the bandage, with a tug from his left hand and mouth. He staunched the flow of blood from his right arm. Subsequently, he exchanged the axe for his gun, now wielding the firearm in his left hand and the axe in his right. Bai Yi opened his mouth, his voice low and slightly hoarse, tinged with a grim determination. Unfortunate. Chapter 5. Blood battle. Bai Yi's demeanor was icy, his right hand straining against the wooden handle of the stone axe, producing a faint, crackling sound. 10 pairs of emerald beast eyes flickered in the mist, the heavy breaths of the 10 gray wolves weaving an impenetrable net around him. Outside the encirclement stood a wolf larger than the others, the Wolf King. Upon sensing Bai Yi's gaze, the Wolf King emitted a deep, rumbling growl, causing the backs of all the gray wolves to arch, poised for attack. Steel Spine will activate. Steel Spine will activated, Sanity 99, current Sanity 1100, receiving triple enhancement. Warning. Your sanity is below 10. You have succumbed to permanent madness. Your perception is distorted. Exemption granted. Bai Yi held nothing back, depleting his sanity entirely. The sound of metal grinding against his spine resonated as excruciating pain surged forth, akin to a relentless affliction, yet it was forcefully suppressed by his will. Strength 9331. Constitution 9331. Casting a glance at his status panel, Bai Yi sprang into action. He launched himself toward the Wolf King like an arrow released from its bow. At the forefront of the encirclement, a gray wolf lunged at him, and he could even discern the quivering of its tongue in its throat. Bang! The gunfire erupted in the mist, blooming into an orange flower. The bullet pierced through the mouth of the gray wolf, creating a gaping hole in its skull. Shepherd's Mercy, damaged. Durability, 35. Having accomplished this, Bai Yi did not pause. Instead, he crouched and rolled. 5 sharp claws grazed his scalp, and the stench of wolf blood splattered onto the back of his neck. Utilizing the momentum of his roll, he hurled his stone axe, embedding it into the eye socket of a flanking assailant. With a howl, the Wolf King moved. It did not charge directly at Bai Yi, but began to maneuver, its massive form agilely concealing itself within Bai Yi's blind spot. At this moment, Bai Yi had already drawn his axe, swinging it backhandedly toward another gray wolf. The tremendous force of the swing sent a whistling sound through the air, aiming directly for the wolf's spine. With a crisp crack of breaking bone, the axe cleaved through, leaving only the handle protruding. As blood gushed forth, Bai Yi felt a sharp pain in his left shoulder. A gray wolf had pierced through flesh. Its fangs lodged against his collarbone, emitting a disconcerting grinding noise. Bai Yi's pupils dilated in response. He swiftly assessed the situation, his left hand pivoting as he pressed the gun's barrel forcefully against the wolf's fangs. The moment metal clashed against ivory, he squeezed the trigger. Shepherd's Mercy, damaged. Durability, 25, bang. The wolf's head exploded into a mist of blood from within, but the recoil from his improper shooting stance dislocated his left wrist. He stumbled against a tree trunk, his right leg scratched open by branches. Seizing the opportunity, the Wolf King lunged from the shadows. In this vulnerable moment, Bai Yi found himself in dire straits. He had not retrieved his stone axe from the nearby carcass, and with his left wrist dislocated, it hung limply. In this critical moment, Bai Yi could only raise his left arm to block. The Wolf King sank its teeth into his left arm, its immense body pinning him against the tree, rendering him immobile. Simultaneously, the Wolf King's forepaw pressed against Bai Yi's chest, its sharp claws piercing flesh. And as the Wolf King exerted pressure, 3 deep gashes were carved into his torso. Gritting his teeth, Bai Yi released his left hand, seizing the revolver with his right. Aiming and firing, blood sprayed forth, and Bai Yi felt a momentary release, finally able to catch his breath. Shepherd's Mercy, damaged. Durability, 15. The recent shot had only severed one of the Wolf King's forepaws. It quickly evaded, preserving its life. The assault of the pack faltered, with the Wolf King now licking its wounded limb, while the other gray wolves began to growl at one another, stirred by the scent of blood. There were still 6 wolves remaining, and the gun could only be fired once more. It was imperative not to waste the sole weapon unless absolutely necessary. Bai Yi recognized that this was his final opportunity. He bore the pain, pressing his dislocated wrist against the tree trunk, and with all his weight, he forcefully pushed down. The sound of his joint resetting was drowned out by the howls of the wolves as he charged toward the Wolf King, retrieving his axe as he passed by it. If he could kill the Wolf King, the remaining gray wolves would likely scatter. The amber eye of the Wolf King reflected a chilling light as it pushed off the ground with its hind legs. In that instant, Bai Yi hurled the axe into the midst of the wolf pack. Instinctively evading the impact of the weapons, the 5 gray wolves found themselves confronted by Bai Yi, who had already seized the journal at his waist. The leather cover struck the Wolf King's snout with a resounding thud, eliciting a heart-wrenching howl from the beast. Seizing the moment, Bai Yi leapt onto the wolf's back, clamping his legs tightly around its ribs. The Wolf King twisted and turned, attempting to dislodge Bai Yi. But upon realizing his tenacity, it charged violently towards a tree trunk. With a swift roll at the last moment, Bai Yi evaded the collision, causing the Wolf King's skull to dent against the bark. In that instant, he lunged forward, using the journal to constrict the wolf's neck, exerting every ounce of strength until he heard the sickening crack of its vertebrae. The Wolf King was dead. Bai Yi rose to face the remaining pack. The howls of the 5 gray wolves transformed into whimpers as they tucked their tails and began to retreat slowly. Remaining talent effect, 7 minutes 17 seconds. Bai Yi's clothing was in tatters, his left shoulder bore a bite that exposed bone, and his left arm was punctured by the Wolf King's fangs, with his wrist swollen and bruised. Blood oozed from claw marks on his chest as he tucked away his revolver. Yet, as the remaining 5 gray wolves advanced again, this bloodied figure broke into a smile. The metallic spine emitted a high-frequency tremor, revitalizing Bai Yi's speed once more. Executing a slide to evade the attack, he found himself beside the axe. With a swift motion, he drew the stone axe and charged forward again, swinging the axe down with all his might. The tremendous inertia and impact embedded the blade deeply into the skull of one gray wolf. As he exerted force while rotating to the right, Bai Yi held onto the axe, spinning it along with the wolf, sweeping aside the other wolves. With a vigorous yank, the axe returned to his grasp. Executing a sharp turn, he lunged towards the gray wolf at his left rear while forcefully hurling the journal. The gray wolf instinctively leaped back, but by then, Bai Yi was already at its side. Taking advantage of the wolf's momentary vulnerability, he brought the axe down with the precision of the Grim Reaper's scythe. The second wolf's neck was nearly severed, and without time to retrieve the axe, he rolled away from a third wolf's attack and positioned himself beside the second. Grasping the axe handle, he extracted it and swiftly thrust it into the neck of the third gray wolf, causing 3 to collapse. The last 2 gray wolves finally grasped the reality that they were not prey to be slaughtered, but rather a ruthless hunter. They promptly turned and fled. Remaining talent effect, 6 minutes 13 seconds. Bai Yi had no time to catch his breath. The sky had darkened, and he needed to return to the shelter without delay. Thankfully, his talent effect was still active, allowing him to drag all the wolf carcasses he could manage. Those he could not transport were left behind, with hopes of returning for them later, praying the bodies would remain. Stumbling as he opened the door to the shelter, he dragged his spoils inside. The scent of blood permeated the space, yet Bai Yi had no time to concern himself with such matters. The effect of the steel spine has dissipated, and sanity has been restored to 100. Bai Yi collapsed into a pool of blood, numerous wounds across his body oozing simultaneously. He propped himself up with a stone axe, trembling as he maneuvered to the table where the discarded journal reappeared. Pain coursed through his body relentlessly, yet Bai Yi remained unfazed. Compared to the agony inflicted by his talents, this was but a mere drizzle. Bai Yi felt a weakness overtaking him, a warmth enveloping his body. He understood this was due to excessive blood loss, yet he possessed no medical supplies and resolved to check the plaza for any available medicines. Suddenly, he recalled the wooden and stone prizes he had won in today's lottery, still resting by the wishing well. He had only brought back the lighter and the schematic for the stone pickaxe. Gazing at the strips of cloth adorning his body, he decided to improvise and staunch the bleeding. First, he addressed the penetrating wound in his left shoulder, placing a larger piece of cloth in his mouth. Then he took the longest strip, straightened it, and wound it around his finger, forcefully packing it into the deepest part of the wound. A low, guttural groan echoed within the dilapidated shelter. This was not an inclination towards masochism. Rather, the depth of the wound meant that blood was not flowing excessively outward, but rather pooling within his body. Inserting the gauze into the wound could seal the cavity, preventing further blood loss. Having staunched the left shoulder wound, Bai Yi proceeded to treat the Wolf King's bite on his left arm with the same method. After catching his breath, he began to tend to his other injuries, which were minor and required only basic first aid. However, the 3 deep wounds on his chest posed a challenge. 1. The injuries were too profound, exposing flesh that required suturing, and 2. He lacked sufficient bandaging material and had to leave them for the time being. After performing the rudimentary treatment, Bai Yi glanced outside at the fading light. With great effort, he rose and exited the shelter, closing the door behind him. At the wishing well, he struggled to lift 3 units of stone, knowing that his wooden shelter had reserves, eliminating the need for further transport. He resolved that any materials collected in the future would be promptly stored in the storage box. Bai Yi muttered to himself, recognizing that despite his cautiousness, there were limits to what one could observe, and missteps could occur at any moment. Just as he was about to return, he suddenly heard a rustling sound emanating from the depths of the fog, reminiscent of a slippery, swallowing noise drawing near. His expression shifted, and he sprinted back toward the shelter. Simultaneously, a figure emerged from the mist, a rotting corpse that Bai Yi had seen on the forum, moving with a speed that rivaled even that of a seasoned athlete. You have encountered a rotting corpse. Sanity decreased by 5. This corpse had followed the trail of Bai Yi's blood and that of the wolf. Chapter 6. The first transaction, the corpse's ashen fingertips grazed the doorframe, the stench wafting towards Bai Yi's neck, causing the hairs to stand on end. At the instant he swung the bolt shut, the sharp clang of metal met the sound of scratching in a violent crescendo. Through the gaps in the timber, Bai Yi glimpsed that decayed visage pressed against the door. Maggots tumbled from the hollow eye sockets of the corpse, yet it continued to claw at the door as if impervious to pain. The relentless impacts causing the entire wooden cabin to tremble. System, you wretched thing. Bai Yi muttered furiously, quickly assessing that the shelter could withstand no more than 4 minutes. The rookie protection period was utterly useless. Without a moment to lose, he staggered towards the wooden table, grasping the schematic for the stone pickaxe. He gathered the necessary materials and set to work. Using exquisite stone pickaxe schematic, durability 1, crafting countdown, 0059. Upon seeing the countdown, Bai Yi spat blood onto the table in frustration. Time was his most pressing scarcity. With each tick of the countdown, the scratching outside grew more frantic. He ripped a blood-soaked strip of cloth to bind his wrist, trembling fingers navigating the marketplace interface, where dozens of offers for stone pickaxes cascaded before him. Good quality. 200 wood? Not enough. He fixated on a transaction record, thoughts racing, as the first stone pickaxe solidified in a glow of blue light. He barely glanced at it before listing it under the tag, good quality stone pickaxe 1 for 50 stone. Almost instantly upon clicking confirm, the system chimed in. Transaction successful. The accumulated stones materialized from the void, nearly shattering Bai Yi's molars with the intensity of his determination. Continue crafting. Durability 1, durability 1. The crafting list unfolded before him in rapid succession, the countdown clock fracturing within his vision into 3 overlapping images. Bai Yi struggled to suppress the dizziness as he focused on the log's notifications. Shelter durability, 5100. The moment the second stone pickaxe took shape, he promptly packaged both and listed them. Good quality stone pickaxe 2 for 200 wood and 50 stone. This transaction alert arrived even more swiftly, accompanied by a private message vibrating from an anonymous user. Anonymous user 9527. Brother, do you have stock for direct supply? Bai Yi's expression tightened. He had no time to respond, his fingers gliding rapidly across the screen. Shelter durability, 2100, just as the upgrade materials filled the corner of the room. He confirmed the upgrade. A radiant light enveloped the wooden cabin, and the wails of the corpse pierced through the walls. He fell back onto the newly refreshed oak floor. watching as the complex structure of the mortise and tenon ceiling gradually formed. The crackling of sparks from the fireplace was more melodious than any symphony. The original wooden bed expanded to 180 by 200 centimeters, and the house's area increased to 80 square meters, the polished wooden boards reflecting light from the resin. Exquisite wooden cabin, level 3. Durability, 500,500. Capacity, 0-500. Traits, none. Upgrade, 0-300 stones, 0-30 mud. Description, finally, a semblance of a sanctuary has emerged, barely capable of withstanding the incessant assaults of the undead. Unlocks fireplace, unlocks wooden fence, 1 wooden fence, 3 wood, 4 thatch. Unlocks bathroom, bedroom, living room. The scratching sounds outside the door have diminished significantly. Bai Yi, supported by a brand new solid wood table, rose and gazed through the double-glazed window, observing the undead relentlessly battering the door, yet the durability of the sanctuary no longer waned. The threat of the undead had seemingly passed, but Bai Yi had no time to rest. His injuries were grave, and he had lost considerable blood. His vision was darkening, and a persistent buzzing echoed in his ears. The crafting list continued to flicker, and Bai Yi set aside the newly produced stone pickaxe to pursue further production. He then intensified his search for medical supplies. Surgical scalpel, anti-inflammatory medicine, painkillers. The items were varied, yet they offered scant relief for Bai Yi's severe injuries. He rummaged through the supplies until, suddenly, one item caught his eye. Wound healing injection. Quality, good. Description, a restorative agent for wounds, particularly effective for cuts, lacerations, and punctures. This medicine can only heal flesh. To prevent infection, please cleanse the wound of dirt before use. Seller's note, private message for quotes. Those who bid randomly will be blocked. Bai Yi opened the private chat. Lone Wolf, a high-quality stone pickaxe. Interested in a trade? Detailed attributes of the pickaxe. Seller, 1. No, medical supplies are of greater value. Lone Wolf, 2. Seller deal. Bai Yi finalized the transaction, and the potion appeared on the table. He did not use it immediately, but continued his search for disinfectants. Ultimately, Bai Yi procured a medical kit using a stone pickaxe, 500 milliliters medical alcohol, 5 bandages, 5 gauzes. Bai Yi soaked the gauze in alcohol, then carefully extracted the cloth strips from his left shoulder, biting down on a piece to stifle any cries of pain. He took a deep breath, grasped the gauze, and pushed his fingers deep into the wound. The sting of the alcohol caused cold sweat to erupt, and the repeated handling of the wound only exacerbated its size. However, he now possessed the medication. He merely needed to cleanse the dirt and sand lodged within. The weather was clear in the misty lands. The time was afternoon, and the temperature hovered around 20 degrees. After a prolonged slumber that stretched over a night and half a day, Bai Yi finally awakened. He felt parched and achy, as if his body were on the verge of disintegration. After quenching his thirst with a few sips of fresh water, he felt considerably revitalized. He had survived. The healing serum had proven remarkably effective. All his minor wounds had completely healed, and the injuries on his left shoulder, left arm, and chest had formed scabs. However, this serum only addressed the healing and neglected the aftermath, leaving Bai Yi with an array of scars, both large and small, scattered across his body. Though he paid them little mind, rising to stretch his limbs, he noticed a lingering soreness in his shoulder, chest, and arms, those areas most severely injured, while the remaining blood scabs marked the remnants of those terrifying wounds. Observing his personal status panel brought a smile to Bai Yi's face. His struggles had not been in vain. Although still somewhat sore, he was confident that his attributes would enhance further once he fully recuperated. With his current attributes, activating his innate talent would elevate his strength and constitution to an astonishing 114, surpassing the limits of human capability. The thought of such extraordinary power filled him with contemplation as he gazed at his hands, then tightened his fists. Everything was for the sake of survival. Despite it being afternoon, Bai Yi felt no anxiety. He had no intention of upgrading his shelter through logging or quarrying. His recent transaction had illuminated the critical importance of the stone pickaxe. From level 3 onward, upgrading the shelter no longer required wood, while stone would become increasingly valuable. However, the system had not provided a pickaxe at the outset, complicating the extraction of stone and rendering the axe's yield disappointingly low. While some survival experts could manually craft stone pickaxes, their highest quality reached only the ordinary level, and demand exceeded supply. Players on the forum had calculated that the efficiency gap between ordinary and good tools was nearly a factor of 2. In other words, within the same time frame. An ordinary pickaxe could extract 10 units of stone, while a good pickaxe could yield 20. Presently, good quality tools could only be obtained through wishing wells or crafting blueprints. Yet as time progressed, more players would acquire stone pickaxes, thus seizing the opportunity while the price of stone pickaxes remained elevated. Bai Yi planned to upgrade his shelter through trade. Furthermore, the latest news indicated that a player had managed to elevate their shelter to level 5, but found themselves unable to advance further. Presenting Bai Yi with a chance to catch up, he couldn't help but express relief for the existence of the logs. Without them, players would be left to fend for themselves, and many lives would likely have been lost in the process. Chapter 7. Talent. After confirming multiple times that the decaying corpse outside had departed, Bai Yi donned the garments acquired through trade, fully equipped, and stepped out of the shelter. With his talent now recharged, Bai Yi felt invigorated once more. He began to scour the vicinity of the shelter in search of the foul creature's traces. As the saying goes, one fears not only the sight of a spider, but is even more alarmed when it suddenly vanishes. This encapsulated Bai Yi's current mindset. Having witnessed the corpse's agility the previous night, he feared that during his labors, it might stealthily return, posing a grave threat that could lead to his swift demise. Despite meticulously scouring a kilometer radius, he found no sign of the corpse. As darkness began to descend, he reluctantly decided to abandon his search. With a heart heavy with apprehension, he gathered fresh water and some thatch before returning to the shelter. He first traded a stone pickaxe for 200 units of wood, crafting a wooden fence to encircle the shelter. Satisfied with his work, he clapped his hands in approval. Next, he placed the wolf carcass he had dragged back the previous day in the yard, methodically disassembling it with logs and discarding the inedible entrails into the wishing well. As noted, only intact corpses could grant wishes, according to forum summaries. The wolf pelt was laid upon his bed as a mattress, while the fangs were arranged on the table as decoration. After salting the meat with the trade-acquired seasoning, he strung it up with ropes made of thatch to dry in the cool air. Upon returning to the shelter, he prepared the extinguished fireplace with wood and ignited it with thatch. He placed the wolf meat on the fire to roast, turning it occasionally. At last, after a day of labor, on the 4th day since his arrival in this world, Master Bai savored a steaming portion of roasted meat. Grateful for the strategies shared by the esteemed contributors on the forum, he resolved that should he achieve prosperity, he would invite them over for a grand feast. With a piece of wolf meat consumed, Bai Yi felt warmth enveloping his entire being, a surge of strength coursing through him. Fully satisfied, he noted that darkness had enveloped the outside world. Wasting no time, he commenced the crafting of stone pickaxes. Refined stone pickaxe crafting blueprint. Durability 1320. He intended to produce them in full, selling 10 while retaining 3 for his own security. With determination, he proceeded, opening his log as he awaited the completion of his work. Upon reaching the chat page, he discovered several private messages from 2 users. Anonymous user 9527. Do you still have any stone pickaxes, brother? Anonymous user 9527. Are you still there, brother? Lonely Wolf. I have stock. 10 available. Are you interested? Anonymous user 9527. Wow. Brother, you must have struck lucky with the blueprint. Would you like to join our mutual aid group? In the Misty world, having more friends means more paths. Lonely Wolf. Mutual aid group? Anonymous user 9527. It's about helping each other out, like trading items. There are discounts for internal trades. Moreover, we assist each other in times of difficulty. Intrigued, Bai Yi straightened his posture. Lone Wolf, do you have a way to meet? Or have you all gathered together? Anonymous user 9527. Not yet, but I believe that one day we will. Bai Yi sat down again. Lone Wolf, I'm not interested for now. Go ahead and make your offer. Anonymous user 9527. Brother, we are all striving to survive. It's not easy for any of us. Our meeting is fate. Could you possibly give me a 50% discount? Bai Yi promptly blocked him and proceeded to check the next message. Anonymous, are you in such a hurry to buy medicine? Have you been injured? Anonymous, friend, are you still there? Bai Yi, puzzled, remarked, Another anonymous? He glanced at anonymous user 9527 and then back at the other anonymous. What was going on? He activated anonymous mode himself and tried chatting. Anonymous, agriculture in Africa is underdeveloped. We must use golden fertilizer. What is going on, brother? This joke is at least a decade old. Bai Yi suddenly realized. This old trickster is named anonymous user 9527. Ugh, how boring. He then opened the chat window again. Lone Wolf, I'm still alive. I encountered a pack of wolves during my exploration. Thank you for your medicine. Anonymous, you managed to escape from a pack of wolves? Impressive. Can I add you as a friend? Player Wang Zi requests to be your friend. Friends are required to use real names. Bai Yi pondered for a moment and clicked to agree. Wang Zi, hello, brother Bai. Bai Yi, hello. Wang Zi, could you share how you managed to escape? As a reward, if you need medicine next time, I can offer a 10% discount. Bai Yi, well, I didn't run, they ran away. Wang Zi, huh? Did you scare them off? Is your talent in the mental realm, instilling fear in other creatures? A fear aura? Mental talents are quite rare. Bai Yi, my talent ISN team mental. I merely killed 9 wolves, including the Wolf King, and the remaining 2 fled. The chat fell into an eerie silence. Noticing the prolonged silence from the other side, Bai Yi felt a bit awkward. 10 years of paralysis had severely degraded his social skills. Although his interactions over the past few days in forums, plazas, and channels had made him less rigid, such silence still induced discomfort. Just as he contemplated saying something, a message arrived from the other side. Wang Zi, amazing. Wang Zi, big brother. Are you interested in more collaboration? Bai Yi had no immediate thoughts on collaboration. He felt content on his own, even if he needed something. He could shop directly from the forum. Bai Yi, I think I'll pass. Before he could finish his sentence, Wang Zi sent a screenshot of her information panel. Wang Zi. Talent, plant resonance. Passive significantly increases the survival and growth rates of plants. Seeds you personally plant are guaranteed to sprout. You are a friend of plants, and they will never attack you. Bai Yi's actions came to a halt as he widened his eyes. Such a talent was extraordinary. He could be certain that with such a talent, Wang Zi would be the most well-protected prodigy, no matter where she was. Wang Zi, so what do you think? Are you interested? Currently, besides ordinary potatoes, leeks, and wild vegetables, I also have some special plants. Wang Zi resembled an enthusiastic salesperson, promoting herself to Bai Yi. Before Bai Yi could respond, she sent several chat screenshots. Wang Zi. Lingdao. Consuming it gradually enhances biological constitution. Capable of surpassing human limits. Hemostatic grass. After mashing the grass and applying it to a wound, it can disinfect and stop bleeding. While also possessing a trace healing function, detoxification grass can neutralize common toxins with a mini flavor. Wang Zi. Image of a patch of cultivated soil, sprouting numerous small buds. What? This time, Bai Yi stood up, pacing the room with his journal in hand. The other special plants did not overly excite him. But one particular item stirred his emotions. Lingdao. Chapter 8. The limits of humanity. The scene shifts to the evening, where Bai Yi's wounds had completely shed their scabs, and the muscle soreness had vanished without a trace. Strength, 4. Mentality, 91. Constitution, 4. These were Bai Yi's current attributes, and he immediately activated his talent. Activate. Steel spine will activated. Rationality 95. Current rationality 5100. Attained a 275-fold amplification. Warning. Your rationality is below 10. You are plunged into permanent madness. Your perception is distorted. Exempted. The familiar, excruciating pain was something Bai Yi found himself growing accustomed to. He clicked on the panel. Strength, 104. Mentality, 91. Constitution, 104. With a 275-fold enhancement, strength and constitution should have surged to 11, yet they remained at 10. Was this due to having reached the limits of humanity? Bai Yi pondered, finding it difficult to articulate this sensation. It was as if the world had become clearer. The fine textures of the trees 8 meters away were now vividly discernible to him. Various subtle sounds were keenly captured by his ears, the creaking of the wind against the door, the gentle rustle of leaves falling to the ground, and the faint whisper of swaying branches. His sense of smell was equally heightened, detecting the slight moldy scent from the decaying leaves, the metallic tang of blood near the shelter, and the mingled odors of his own sweat and blood. He realized how distinct the scents of different animal blood could be. The most pronounced change was in his brain. His vision, taste, hearing, and smell. An overwhelming array of information was continuously collected by his mind, swiftly analyzed, organized, and then relayed as useful insights. Taking a deep breath, Bai Yi redirected his focus to his body, feeling an overwhelming surge of power. Approaching a tree, he prepared to test his jumping ability. Without any preparatory actions, merely a simple crouch and leap, Bai Yi effortlessly reached a branch nearly 4 meters above the ground. Bai Yi hung there, releasing his left hand, followed by his thumb, index finger, middle finger, and ring finger of his right hand, ultimately supporting his entire weight solely with his little finger. After executing 10 pull-ups with just 2 fingers, he exerted force with one hand, effortlessly pulling himself up, his feet firmly planted on a branch. With a single leap, he demonstrated remarkable balance, descending from the branch without any deceleration, his legs merely bending slightly. Rising to his feet, Bai Yi assessed his knees, finding no discomfort. The nearly 4-meter drop had not harmed them. Next came speed. Bai Yi marked 2 points, a distance of approximately 200 meters for a round trip. He estimated his time based on his heartbeat, 18 seconds. This duration accounted for his deceleration, turning, and reacceleration. Astonishingly swift. Much of this was attributed to Bai Yi's exceptional control over his body, reaching his maximum speed within 2 seconds of starting, with an impressively brief acceleration phase. Then there was strength. Bai Yi returned indoors and retrieved the Wolf King's head, originally intended for hanging at the door for protection, but it also served for testing purposes. Once secured, he delivered a powerful punch, the Wolf King's skull producing a crisp sound. Crack. Upon hearing it, Bai Yi abruptly halted his second punch, mindful of the limited materials. Damaging others would hinder further testing. Steadying himself once more, he delivered an elbow strike, shattering the Wolf King's skull, his elbow penetrating deep within, brain matter splattering. Satisfied, he retracted his elbow and excitedly brought out the other two wolf heads. Turning, he executed an elbow strike, high knee lifts, and flying knees. Steel spine will effect concluded. Sanity restored to 100,100, the talent effect cooled down. Gazing at the three mangled heads, now devoid of any semblance of wolves, Bai Yi captured the moment in his journal. Leaving with a sense of fulfillment, time returned to the present. Bai Yi's excitement surged. Afterward, he scoured forums. Discovering no one had mentioned the inability to increase attributes beyond 10, likely because no one had yet reached that threshold. If only he could obtain the spiritual rice. He could break through the confines of 10. His exhilaration soon waned, reason reclaiming its dominance. Coincidentally, if spiritual rice existed, there must be other means to shatter limits. The current absence of such might be due to unmet conditions. It seemed prudent to keep an eye on the trading square in the future. With this in mind, Bai Yi settled back, reflecting on Wang Zi's importance. She must not perish. However, the pressing issue was his inability to protect her. If she were to die while gathering materials, the nearest method for him to grow stronger would vanish, necessitating a fresh search. Contemplating this, Bai Yi opened his journal. Meanwhile, in an exquisite villa, Wang Zi, wrapped in a cotton blanket, clutched her journal, passionately engaging in a chat group. Wang Zi, I have encountered a formidable individual. Xiesu, yet another formidable individual? How many have you met today? Wang Zi, humph, none of your business. Xiesu, indeed, none of your concern. Wang Zi, I lack the mood for quarrels with you at this moment. Uncle Zhang, are you there? Come forth. Wang Zi, Uncle Zhang, should we consider bringing him into our fold? He single-handedly faced 11 wolves, vanquishing 9 and fleeing from 2. Such remarkable prowess is precisely what we require. Zhang Zhan, little Wang, I am currently engaged in training. Please refrain from excitement. How can you ascertain the truth of his claims? Do you possess any screenshots? Oh, Wang Zi's expression of joy faltered. Wang Zi, no, but he wouldn't deceive me, would he? Li Zihua, Sister Wang, even if there were screenshots, would you invite him without inquiry? Would he even consent? Xiesu, exactly. Even if he is as capable as you claim, can you guarantee his character? Remember, the next phase is critical. Zhang Zhan, all right, let us temper our words. Little Wang has good intentions. Our team is well equipped in logistics, but lacks combat personnel, which has been a source of distress for everyone. Little Wang has spent an entire day on the forum. Wang Zi, everyone has aided me so much. From upgrading the shelter to providing seeds. I do not wish to receive such kindness without contributing. As she noted everyone countering her, she withdrew into her blanket. Xiesu, why the silence? Are you hiding under the covers and weeping again? Wang Zi, if you remain silent, no one will regard you as mute. Xiesu, I shall cease my banter and address the matter at hand. We are all aware of our talents. While it may not be a matter of 1 in a billion, it is certainly 1 in tens of millions. The addition of a combatant is indeed crucial. Yet it is a mutually beneficial arrangement. Our contributions to him are equally formidable. Thus, there is no need to eagerly flatter others, as that would only diminish one's own worth. Zhang Zhan, precisely. Wei Fun. Indeed, little Wang, your diligent care for the plants has not gone unnoticed. No one will fault you. Wang Zi, humph, even a dog's mouth can produce ivory. Observing the messages from the group, Wang Zi managed a faint smile. Fortuitously, she had encountered them. Otherwise, she might have perished from hunger in that thatched hut. At that moment, her journal vibrated, and upon inspection, she found a message from the formidable individual. Bai Yi, your talent is of great significance, and the special plants are also of my interest. We can deepen our collaboration. Wang Zi, absolutely. By the way, do you have any photographs of wolves? I have yet to see one. Bai Yi chuckled softly, shaking his head. It seemed she did not believe him and was merely testing him. He lifted his journal and snapped a picture of the array of dried meats, sending it forth. After a moment's contemplation, he also sent images of the 3 wolf heads. Bai Yi, dried meat. Bai Yi, wolf heads. Bai Yi, I sustained some injuries. I managed to bring back 3 wolves, all of which have been processed. Once the meat has dried, I shall send you a piece to taste. Wang Zi gazed at the abundant jerky before her mind buzzing with excitement. Although she had anticipated this moment, the reality of it stirred her emotions. What if he were to join us? Hold on, is that a wolf's head? Wang Zi scrutinized the second image from various angles. But it bore no resemblance to a wolf. Dear sir, may I inquire if the second image is indeed a wolf's head? She asked. Bai Yi responded, ah yes. It was struck during training. During training? Struck? Wang Zi lay frozen in her bed, astonished by such brutality. It seemed that the words of that dog-like figure held some truth. One must ascertain character, no need to rush. She murmured to herself as she forwarded the images and texts to the group chat. An eerie silence enveloped the chat. After a while, a message appeared. Zhang Zhun, ahem. Xiao Wang, it would be best if you could engage with him more. If he wishes to join us, that would be ideal. Wang Zi replied, huh? Uncle Zhang. What if he is reluctant? Siesu interjected, what is that person's name? Wang Zi answered, the Lonely Wolf. Siesu remarked, you could exchange that information. I have no objections. Upon reading this, Wang Zi felt a jolt of realization. Her companion was indeed intrigued. Chapter 9. A bountiful harvest. Bai Yi waited for a response from Wang Zi, but none came. He dismissed it and sent a message to stay in touch. Then set aside his journal to commence his daily exercises. All 10 exquisite stone pickaxes had been sold during the chat, providing just enough to acquire 200 units of stone. However, due to the lack of sufficient water sources in the shelter to mix mud, the upgrade would have to wait until the following morning. For now, Bai Yi intended to focus on his training. During his workout, an idea struck him. What if he trained at the highest difficulty after activating his talent? Unfortunately, his talent had already been utilized, but he resolved to try it tomorrow. After finishing his exercises, Bai Yi, drenched in sweat, collapsed onto his bed and fell into a deep slumber. Weather: heavy rain. Location: the Misty Lands. Time: morning. Temperature: 1013. Achoo. Bai Yi sneezed twice, jolting himself awake. Who was thinking of him? He mumbled as he rose, first roasting a small piece of meat to satiate his hunger before engaging in some basic warm-up activities. He then opened his personal panel. Bai Yi: health, age, 30, strength, 42, mentality, 91, constitution, 42, rationality, 100, talent, iron spine. Will his strength and constitution had increased by 0.2. Was it due to his training, or something else? Bai Yi stared at the enhanced attributes, a smile spreading across his face as he began to contemplate the cause. It could not be the training. Its effects were quite stable, typically yielding a 0.1 increase each time. Could it be the wolf meat? Suddenly, Bai Yi recalled the warm sensation that enveloped him after consuming the meat yesterday. That must be the reason. He picked up his journal, and indeed, a post in the forum analyzed how consuming the flesh and blood of the creatures in this world can gradually enhance one's physical prowess. Although this post is of high quality, the number of players capable of independent hunting remains scarce, thus it hasn't gained much popularity. After giving it a thumbs up, Bai Yi exited the forum. Is it raining outside? At that moment, preparing to step out, Bai Yi glanced through the window and observed the gentle patter of raindrops outside. The rainfall was not heavy. It was permissible to venture out. Shepherd's compassion, damaged. Durability, 55. The revolver's ammunition had long been replenished. Bai Yi held the gun in his left hand, and in his right, he grasped a stone axe. While a logbook was tucked at his waist, the stone axe was in a sorry state, with the wooden handle stained by indelible dark red blood, and the blade was pitted from excessive chopping. Off he went. Bai Yi intended to check the location of the wolf carcass from earlier that morning. If the body remained, he would drag it back, although even he held little hope. Relying on his memory, Bai Yi navigated to the site of the previous battle, only to find that the 6 wolf carcasses had indeed vanished. Deep drag marks marred the ground, smeared with the blood of wolves. Something had taken the bodies away. After contemplating, Bai Yi decided to follow the trail. At that moment, he was in peak condition. Not a single shot had been fired from the revolver, and his abilities had fully cooled down. Even if 10 more wolves appeared, Bai Yi felt confident in their annihilation. After traversing approximately 700 or 800 meters along the traces, Bai Yi encountered a massive stone wall, beneath which lay a stone cave. He had ventured nearly 2 kilometers from the shelter. At the mouth of the cave, a gigantic black bear was dragging a wolf carcass inside. Bai Yi felt a surge of excitement. He yearned to hunt this bear. It was unwise to enter the cave, as it was too dark, and one could never tell who would prevail inside. Moreover, there was no certainty that the bear would emerge once it entered. The safest approach, therefore, was to wait. At that moment, the black bear, contentedly hauling the carcass, wandered through the forest and stumbled upon a multitude of corpses scattered about, a veritable feast. It simply wished to return swiftly and enjoy this bountiful meal. Suddenly, its ears perked up, as faint rustling sounds emerged from the bushes behind it. Instantly alert, it stood upright and turned to investigate. Nothing was there. Roaring defiantly, the black bear's growl echoed, accompanied by the rapid clacking of its teeth. The underbrush shook violently as a peculiar creature stumbled out, darting away in panic. In its haste, it tripped and fell, then clumsily scrambled back to its feet. A fresh meal delivered right to its doorstep? The black bear's interest was piqued. Although the previous feast was free, it was hardly fresh. Now, with a new prey presenting itself, It felt fortunate indeed. Without a moment's hesitation, it charged towards the quarry. That creature was rather foolish, unable to escape. It stumbled after just a few steps. Was it simply overwhelmed by fear? The black bear swiftly pursued its prey, which faced it, collapsing onto the ground and sliding backward while emitting strange cries. The bear detected the scent of fear, rather than hastily attacking its quarry. It rose on its hind legs to display its formidable and terrifying stature. However, upon standing, it noticed that the prey had suddenly ceased its cries and was brandishing an object towards it. Bang! Bang! Two large holes were instantaneously blasted into the bear's head and chest. The lifeless body slumped to the ground. Was the bear so foolish? Fearing that a strike to the head alone might not suffice, it had presented itself, allowing for a shot to both its head and heart. Bai Yi was taken aback, though the outcome was fortuitous. He couldn't help but marvel at the bear's size, having risen to an impressive 3 meters. While reflecting on this, he dragged the bear to the cave entrance, intending to explore within. The entrance was spacious, and as he stepped inside, a pungent odor assaulted his senses. He gagged a few times, suppressing his nausea as he ventured deeper. The cave was not extensive. After a few meters, he reached its end. It was small, with the corpses of 5 wolves piled nearby. 3 had been largely devoured, while the remaining 2 were relatively intact, albeit somewhat decayed. Next to the bodies lay a heap of bones, and as Bai Yi kicked at them, he uncovered something. He swiftly cleared the bones aside to reveal a book. Picking it up, he casually flipped through its pages, most of which were damaged and illegible. After searching, he found half a page that remained somewhat clear. The text faintly discernible. Bai Yi squinted in the light, attempting to decipher the contents. What is this? He was certain it wasn't a human language. Could there have been another civilization here? Unable to understand, he decided to scan it with his log. Tang Dao crafting blueprint, damaged. Quality, good. Durability, 33. Description, 1 wood. 5 coarse iron. This book is a compilation of the essence of an entire civilization's tool forging techniques, though regrettably, only half a page remains. What a treasure. I've struck gold. Bai Yi felt a surge of excitement. Weapons of good quality were rarer than medicines, let alone a knife, which was most suitable for beginners. Alas, this book was damaged, and one could only imagine the quality it would possess if intact. After a moment of reflection, Bai Yi set aside such thoughts and eagerly resumed his exploration of the cave. This time, he searched meticulously, almost turning the cave inside out, but regrettably found no further treasures. Having already struck it rich, he reassured himself as he began to transport the bodies. It took considerable effort, but he eventually managed to bring the black bear back to the shelter's yard, followed by another trip to retrieve the 3 wolf corpses. Phew, I'm exhausted. After completing his labor, Bai Yi sat breathlessly at the entrance of the shelter. However, he dared not rest for long, as the rain had started to intensify. Following his previous steps, Bai Yi commenced the process of dissecting the black bear. Before the dismemberment, Bai Yi took a photograph of the black bear. Due to its immense size, the bear's meat yielded a staggering 200 units. Bai Yi replicated the process, transforming the meat into jerky. His roof was now adorned with provisions, resembling a hoarding hamster. The carcass of the wolf, having decayed, was discarded into the well for a chance draw. As for the retrieved items, they were rather satisfactory. Large plastic barrel, metal water bottle, wood 1, gray wolf exchange count, 25. Although the items were not particularly precious, they held considerable utility. Seizing the opportunity before the rain turned into a deluge, Bai Yi filled the barrel and bottle with fresh water. Once his tasks were complete, it was already noon. Observing the intensifying rainfall outside, Bai Yi murmured, "It seems I shan't venture out this afternoon." He placed the water bottle on the hearth to heat, while simultaneously roasting bear meat and perusing his journal. World Channel, it's pouring here. I can't go out now. It's raining here too. I've only chopped half the trees. The rain has driven me back. What about my shelter upgrade? I must brave the rain to chop more trees. You'd better stay indoors. Catching a cold in this weather isn't something that a few trees can remedy. The World Channel buzzed with discussions about the sudden downpour. It appeared that the rain was not confined to just his location. Bai Yi was lost in his thoughts when he suddenly noticed a post rapidly gaining traction on the forum. Aptly titled, "Tested, mud after being soaked by rain can be used for shelter upgrades. Hurry and collect." How could I have forgotten this? Bai Yi exclaimed, slapping his thigh. He had initially planned to use the collected water to mix with the mud, but now that it was readily available, he had to gather it promptly. He hastily consumed the bear meat, which was only partially cooked, and promptly rose to seek tools. Glancing around, Bai Yi awkwardly paused. His entire inventory consisted solely of jerky. A worn stone axe, a firearm, a bed, a plastic barrel, a water bottle, and the blueprints for a stone pickaxe and Tang's sword. Notably, he also had 1,200 units of stone outside. He had been so preoccupied with upgrading his shelter that he had no surplus resources for constructing a bedroom or restroom. Nor did he possess common tools like a shovel. After some contemplation, Bai Yi took out the blueprint for the stone pickaxe along with the necessary materials. Exquisite stone pickaxe blueprint. Quality, good. Durability, 320. Using exquisite stone pickaxe blueprint. Durability 1. Crafting countdown, 0059. Once crafted, he opened the trading square, edited the content, and sent 1 good quality stone pickaxe for 2 ordinary quality stone axes and 1 ordinary quality shovel. Chapter 10. Rapid upgrades. Trade successful. After being posted for several minutes, the stone pickaxe was finally purchased. Compared to previous trades, this one was significantly slower, indicating that many players were no longer in need of pickaxes. As players continued to advance, the most valuable period for the stone pickaxe had passed, and its premium was no longer as high as before. Players had begun to unearth iron and engage in trading at the square. However, Bai Yi remained unperturbed, as he had already utilized the majority of his stone picks, reserving the remainder for his own use. With his equipment prepared, Bai Yi exchanged 1 unit of wolf meat for a raincoat, for he wished to avoid catching a cold. He ventured into the yard, eagerly beginning to gather mud. Before long, 30 units of mud were amassed beside the shelter. Yet, Bai Yi did not cease. He had previously gleaned the necessary materials for upgrading the shelter from level 4 to 5 while perusing forums. He swiftly accumulated 130 units of mud, forming a small mound. Subsequently, he ventured back inside and traded 10 units of meat for 100 units of stone. Now came the pivotal moment. Bai Yi, clutching his log, stood in the yard, exhilarated as he opened it, intent on upgrading the shelter directly to level 5. Would you like to upgrade the shelter? Yes. A familiar white light enveloped him as the shelter, along with the wooden fence surrounding the yard, expanded once again. Standing in the yard, Bai Yi could only retreat in tandem with the radiance. When the light dissipated, he stood transfixed before the newly transformed structure. The wooden house, originally crafted from resilient timber, had metamorphosed into a grayish-white stone edifice, with fine patterns faintly visible upon its surface, reminiscent of a unique type of rock. Bai Yi reached out to touch the wall, experiencing a paradoxical sensation of cold hardness infused with an unusual warmth, a texture particular to the system's compression and reformation of the stone. Circling the stone house, he noted its approximate area of 100 square meters, yet the outer walls boasted a thickness of 30 centimeters, impervious to the torrential rain that failed to leave even a trace. He opened the log. Exquisite stone house, level 4, durability 1000. Capacity 2001000. Traits none. Upgrade 1000 stone, 100 mud. Description: congratulations. You have successfully navigated the novice phase, demonstrating your initial ability to survive in this world. Unlocks low stone wall, workshop. Low stone wall expands your territory range. Cost per unit 10 units of stone. Workshop. Crafting tools in the workshop accelerates the process by 20%, can simultaneously synthesize multiple tools, and allows for automatic synthesis without requiring player input. Raw materials are deducted directly from the warehouse, enabling scheduled, pinpointed, and quantified production. Construction cost 300 stone. Bai Yi glanced over the information. The significance of the stone wall and workshop was self-evident, both being essential constructions. However, the most pressing matter at hand was to continue upgrading the shelter. Would you like to upgrade the shelter? Yes. After the familiar white light, the shelter successfully upgraded. The materials of the level 5 shelter did not differ significantly from those of level 4, save for a deeper hue. Moreover, the former single-story stone house had transformed into a 2-story villa. The eastern wall of the villa extends into a structure made of the same material, originally a warehouse. Starting from level 5, the warehouse transforms from a mere metallic box into a fully functional storage facility. Stone villa, level 5. Durability 20002000. Warehouse capacity 2011000. 5 stones expand 1 unit of capacity. Traits none. Upgrade locked. Upgrading can only be initiated after reaching level 5. Following the conclusion of the novice protection period. Description: during the novice phase, you may relax. Players may customize rooms, only valid for the first time. Upon seeing this, Bai Yi once again traded 50 units of jerky for 400 units of stone and 10 units of rough iron, simultaneously designating the workshop and restroom on the first floor, while relocating the bed and table to the second floor. Once the arrangements were complete, Bai Yi proceeded to the warehouse, which is conveniently adjacent to the shelter, allowing access from both the exterior and interior. The internal space of the warehouse is divided into 10 orderly squares, within which a few units of rough iron, several pieces of wood, and an abundance of jerky are scattered, while the remaining squares sit empty, awaiting supplies. In one corner of the warehouse, an unknown mass of bone and flesh lies curled within a metal box, its surface texture weakly twitching upon closer inspection. Having witnessed this many times, Bai Yi no longer lost his composure merely by gazing at it. He instinctively sensed that the upgrades for the shelter might require it. Subsequently, he entered the newly unlocked workshop, and upon observing the contents, his breath quickened. In the several dozen square meters of the room, a black metal workbench emitted a cold glow, with a pale blue holographic interface hovering above the surface. The most captivating feature was a pyramid-shaped processing device in the corner, with 3 mechanical arms quietly folded between its edges. Achoo! In order to gather enough mud, Bai Yi braved the torrential rain outside, and at that moment, he sneezed violently. He hurried back to the shelter and approached the fireplace to warm himself. A pot of hot water simmered over the flames, and upon glancing at the downpour outside, Bai Yi realized he could not venture out in the afternoon. He then recalled that since arriving in the mist-laden world, he had yet to take a bath. And with renewed enthusiasm, he carried the kettle towards the restroom, intending to indulge in a hot shower. Before bathing, Bai Yi visited the workshop and placed the blueprint for the Tang Dao on the workbench. Detected Tang Dao blueprint, damaged. Would you like to load it? After Bai Yi clicked yes, a pale blue virtual panel projected a 3-dimensional schematic. He set the desired quantity for production and watched as the mechanical arms suddenly unfurled, automatically retrieving rough iron and wood from the warehouse. In an instant, 2 Tang Daos began to take shape at a visible speed. In the newly constructed restroom, Bai Yi entered to find the showerhead crafted from hollow bamboo segments. After pouring hot water into the tank, he fetched some cool water to adjust the temperature. Scalding hot water surged forth from the bamboo joints, and amidst the rising steam, Bai Yi's well-defined silhouette became faintly visible. Water droplets cascaded down his prominent trapezius muscles, flowing along the line of his spine. As he gazed down, the once frail and emaciated abdomen now revealed the distinctly contoured outlines of muscular definition, akin to the gnarled roots of an ancient tree, while the scars adorning his body exuded an aura of primal ferocity. With clenched fists, his biceps bulged as if forged from steel. In merely a few days, he had transformed from a weak patient into a seasoned warrior. After bathing, Bai Yi felt a newfound lightness in his body. He donned dry garments made of animal hide and stepped into the workshop. 2 Tang swords stood silently on the weapon rack, and he casually drew one, examining it with meticulous attention. The blade still bore the warmth of its recent forging, and the hilt was wrapped with tightly woven leather made from wolf sinew, effectively preventing slippage. Approaching the doorway, Bai Yi suddenly slashed at the torrential rain, the silver streak of the blade cutting through the curtain of water, only to be filled in by the subsequent downpour. What a fine blade, he exclaimed, contemplating that had he not possessed a revolver, he might have ventured into dual wielding. He carefully compared the 2 identical swords, selecting the one that felt more comfortable for himself while planning to sell the other. Once on his bed, Bai Yi eagerly reached for his journal, murmuring to himself, "This time, I shall strike it rich." Chapter 11. The Unexpected Invitation. Tang Sword. Quality: good. Durability: 100/100. Description: draw the sword to sever water, yet the water flows more freely. Seller's note: seeking to exchange for medicines, basic materials, and high-quality tools. After listing the sword, Bai Yi opened the forum, creating a post to share his discovery regarding the attribute limit of 10. The forum has assisted me countless times. Now it is my turn to give back. With swift keystrokes, he birthed a new post titled, A Tale of My Attribute Points. Author: The Lonely Wolf. The content roughly conveyed, through personal testing, I have found that once strength and constitution reach 10 points, they can no longer increase. According to the system, this is due to reaching the human limit. I currently know that high-quality food can assist humans in surpassing this limit, but I have yet to acquire any, thus cannot provide further information. I merely aim to spark discussion. If others have made discoveries, feel free to share in the comments. After finishing the post with a flurry of typing, Bai Yi felt no shame for this seemingly unnutritious and glaringly provocative title. Rather, he brimmed with confidence, believing it to be the next sensational thread. The comment section swiftly filled with responses: a chicken's head and a phoenix's belly. Brother Wolf is quite the character. Is the author truly this lackluster? In a single phrase that could encapsulate the essence, so many words have been unnecessarily expended. In summary, once attributes reach level 10, alternative methods for enhancement are required. No need for thanks. AUV, gather around, everyone. This formidable wolf brother is the true warrior, though his writing is painfully unrefined. Let us refrain from deriding him. Should we not focus on the astonishing fact that someone has indeed attained dual attributes at level 10? Astonishingly, amidst laughter, it only dawned on me upon your mention just how formidable wolf brother truly is. I retracted my earlier jest. As the readership of this post swelled, The initial mocking voices gradually diminished, leaving predominantly lighthearted banter. Evidently, one's formidable prowess inspires calm discourse. Respecting the strong is an intrinsic human nature. Bai Yi continuously scrolled through the comments, beaming at the praise, while scoffing at any mocking or questioning remarks before swiftly passing them by. Though his achievement of level 10 was attributed to innate talent, does that render it deceitful? Bai Yi shamelessly pondered. And only after a while did he remember that his weapon still hung in the air. Reluctantly exiting the forum, he discovered his post had metamorphosed into a highlighted thread. Upon opening the merchandise comments, Bai Yi first blacklisted all those soliciting connections or inviting him to join various organizations, before he began to respond to the messages. Blade, friend. Would you trade for a first aid kit? Blade, first aid kit. 1L disinfectant, 10 bandages, 10 gauzes, 20 painkillers, 20 anti-inflammatory medicines, 20 cold medications. This was precisely what Bai Yi sought, a versatile medical supply suitable for various scenarios. Lonely Wolf, 300 wood for the medical kit. Blade, that is unfeasible. 50 wood for the medical kit. Lonely Wolf, 200 wood. Take it or leave it. Otherwise, I shall sell it to another. Bai Yi was merely setting parameters. He had perused the other medical supplies, some of which were potent yet lacked versatility. It would be absurd to consume an entire healing potion for a mere cold, given its exorbitant cost. Blade, may I inquire if that post in the forum was authored by you? Instead of hastily negotiating a price, Blade posed this question. Lonely Wolf, it was not me. You have mistaken the identity. Blade, haha, Wolf brother, you are quite humorous. I agree to the trade for the 200 wood medical kit. May we add each other as friends? I often seek good items. Bai Yi contemplated for a moment. Lonely Wolf, sure. Upon successful trade, the supplies were automatically transferred to the warehouse, relieving Bai Yi of any concerns. Subsequently, a request popped up. Player Tiandong has requested to become your friend. Accepted. Tiandong, greetings, Wolf brother. Bai Yi, hello. Is there something you need? Tiandong, is Wolf brother a lone wolf? Would you consider joining our team for mutual support? Upon reading this message, Bai Yi fell into deep contemplation. He did not harbor any aversion to forming alliances, undoubtedly. A well-equipped team could provide him with substantial assistance. Bai Yi inquired, what type of team do you have? Is it more combat-oriented or supportive? Tiandong replied, currently, we lean towards combat. The brothers frequently venture out to hunt and share their spoils. Upon hearing this, Bai Yi shook his head. He favored teams that included support personnel and thus declined, stating, I am not inclined to join a team at the moment, my apologies. Tiandong responded, no worries. The doors of our Iron Brotherhood will always remain open for you, Wolf brother. If you have anything of value, feel free to reach out to me. I will purchase it at a price 10% above market value. Bai Yi, intrigued, asked, so generous? Tiandong replied, it is merely a privilege of the strong. Bai Yi assured him, I will prioritize reaching out to you in the future. Market price is sufficient, as I do not wish to take advantage of others. After a brief exchange, Bai Yi decided to conclude the conversation and pondered for a moment before opening his friend list. Bai Yi asked, do you have any surplus of that potion? Wang Zi responded, oh, yes, Wolf brother. Bai Yi, I do have some. Bai Yi felt a wave of frustration wash over him. He warned, just take a look at that post. Do not delve into the comments. Bai Yi was puzzled as to why all other exquisite posts had discussions beneath them, while his was filled with references to him as Wolf brother. Wonderful. Now I have become Dog brother. Wang Zi reassured him, no, I haven't looked at the comments. Rest assured, Dog brother. Bai Yi proposed. Would you accept one bear paw in exchange for a syringe? His reasoning for trading the bear paw was straightforward. It was extraordinarily unpalatable. He had previously roasted one with great enthusiasm, only to nearly regurgitate his last meal after a single bite. He vowed never to consume bear paw again. Wang Zi replied, please hold on for a moment, Dog brother. I will ask my friend. Bai Yi had come to terms with the situation and thought to himself, let them call him whatever they wished. He inquired, can your friend produce syringes? Indeed, Dog brother, Wang Zi confirmed. All right, my friend has agreed. One bear paw will suffice. Bai Yi became alert, sensing that this was not a favorable situation as he realized Wang Zi's social circle seemed quite formidable. From her previous photo, he noted that her shelter had reached level 5, and it was surrounded by stone walls. Furthermore, with so many seeds, it was improbable for one individual to gather such a diverse collection in such a short span of time. Had she also joined a team? It made sense. With her talents, many teams would be vying for her. Bai Yi contemplated how to exchange for the spirit rice from her. Is it really that simple? He mused. Wang Zi teased. Dog brother, would you like to join our little squad? As if fearing his rejection, the next message promptly followed. Wang Zi, after joining us, potions, weapons, armor, and even my delicacies can be traded at discounted prices. It certainly won't be a loss for you, dog brother. With such a complete inventory. Is this the logistics department? Bai Yi's lips twitched slightly. He then began to weigh the pros and cons. As he had previously contemplated, he was not averse to banding together for warmth. It was merely that he had yet to encounter a suitable team. Bai Yi did not require the comfort of camaraderie, for his loneliness and fear had long been exhausted during his days as a vegetable. On the contrary, if he were to join a team, it would be because the members could provide him with substantial assistance. This is where Wang Zi's invitation diverged from Tian Dong's. According to her current assertions, her squad could produce food, potions, weapons, and armor, each of which Bai Yi desperately needed. Thus, the invitation from Wang Zi's team was exceedingly enticing. It was precisely the kind of team he had been searching for. However, a question lingered. Yet, reciprocity is always essential. What must I contribute? This was the only aspect Bai Yi found perplexing. He could only fight a little, and in this world, mere combat prowess was merely a means of survival. He could not teleport to aid others. Why would they invite him? Bai Yi never considered himself the protagonist destined to be surrounded by loyal companions. This only suggested that Wang Zi and her team must have ulterior motives. With this thought, although Bai Yi felt somewhat tempted, he decided to decline for the time being. At that moment, Wang Zi sent another message. Wang Zi, one more thing, dog brother, can you listen before deciding whether to join us? Bai Yi speak. Wang Zi, in the near future, players will be able to meet briefly. Chapter 12, Torrential Rain. This news struck Bai Yi like a thunderclap, dispelling the clouds that loomed over his heart. Everything fell into place. He understood why so many organizations and guilds were recruiting players. Whenever news arises, it inevitably leaks. A significant portion of players must already be aware of this information. As for why no one has mentioned it in the forums, Bai Yi could not say. Perhaps not everyone possesses a spirit of altruism. Compared to earning a reputation by speaking out, quietly amassing wealth might be the choice of many. Similarly, Bai Yi grasped why Wang Zi and her logistics department were making such an effort to recruit him. His combat strength could provide them with protection. Now, Bai Yi had little to worry about. Bai Yi, let me clarify, my base attributes are not high. My strength stems from my weapons and talents. So please consider this carefully. I do not wish for our partnership to end on a sour note. There was a moment of silence on the other end, and Bai Yi speculated that she was discussing this with others. Wang Zi, it doesn't matter. Strong is strong, regardless. Welcome, brother dog, to join us. Bai Yi, wait a moment, I have one more request. I will only join once the method of our meeting is confirmed. For I am uncertain of the authenticity of this news and abhor taking advantage of others. Wang Zi, agreed, it is settled. This time, she responded instantly, seemingly untroubled by Bai Yi's concerns. It appears she possesses considerable confidence in this information. Bai Yi refrained from further conversation. After acquiring the syringe and gifting Wang Zi a piece of jerky, he set aside his journal and commenced his exercises for the day. I hope the rain will cease by tomorrow. To the sound of the rain outside, Bai Yi peacefully drifted into slumber. Weather, torrential rain location, foggy realm time. Morning temperature, 10 to 15 C, thunder rumbled, rousing Bai Yi from his sleep. He gazed out the window. The thunder split the heavens, and the rain poured down, enveloped by the wind's wailing, creating a cacophony as it struck the roof and the ground. Nearby, the tree bark was washed away, revealing deep brown, twisted patterns, while moss, saturated with water, had wilted into trembling patches of green velvet, the particles atop them quivering incessantly upon closer inspection. They appeared to be writhing. Moreover, the torrential rain did little to dissipate the eerie fog. In fact, it thickened it further. It enveloped the earth and sky, rendering it impossible to discern the passage of time. Observing this scene, Bai Yi realized that venturing outside today was futile. He rose, performed a brief warm-up, had a few bites to eat, and began his workout. This morning, his attributes had increased once more. Bai Yi, health, age, 30, strength, 44, spirit, 91, constitution, 44, reason, 100, talent, steel will. A sufficient intake of meat and diligent exercise had led to a significant enhancement of Bai Yi's attributes. However, he had noticed last night that he struggled to see clearly in the dark, and extensive patches of dead skin had appeared on his feet. Initially, Bai Yi feared he had contracted some peculiar ailment. Ultimately, it was the omniscient forum expert who provided the answer: a vitamin deficiency. The post also suggested that animal organs could replenish vitamins. This left Bai Yi dumbfounded, as he had previously discarded all the organs into the wishing well. With no other option, Bai Yi exchanged 2 units of meat for a bottle of multivitamin tablets. Presently, he had a total of 105 units of meat, all of which had been dried into jerky. It was now the 6th day, with only 2 days remaining in the novice protection period. As he could not venture outside today, and the rain's cessation remained uncertain, a sense of urgency enveloped Bai Yi. plunging him into deep anxiety. He could only continue exercising relentlessly, striving to strengthen himself beyond reliance on that mere 10 minutes of talent. A day passed amid the sound of rain. Today, Bai Yi exercised 3 times, dedicating the remaining hours to consuming meat to rapidly restore his vitality. Perseverance rewards the diligent. Bai Yi's strength and physique have successfully risen to 47. Yet, his mental fortitude remains at a mere 91, with the earlier life-threatening crisis only contributing an incremental increase of 0.01, after which his mental state stagnated. The discussions within the forum regarding mental resilience are rife with speculation. The prevailing theory suggests that mental fortitude can be enhanced by overcoming various negative states such as near-death experiences, suffering, and loneliness. This notion becomes intriguing. For Bai Yi harbors no psychological negativity. In fact, his mindset is remarkably optimistic, embracing a day-to-day survival. He cannot actively seek out near-death experiences. A misstep could lead to an irreversible demise, leaving him with no avenue for lamentation. Furthermore, Bai Yi finds this theory somewhat flawed. Despite his repeated utilization of his innate talents, accompanied by considerable suffering, he has not observed any significant growth in his mental resilience. Contemplating this, Bai Yi shakes his head, resigning himself to a step-by-step approach. The rain continues to fall, albeit with diminished intensity, and the log indicates that night has fallen. Today has been devoid of peril, prompting Bai Yi to put his earlier thoughts into action. He decides to activate his innate training. Steel spine will activate. Steel spine will activated. Rationality 90. Current rationality 10100. Gain a 25-fold increase. Warning. Your rationality is below 30. You are descending into madness, experiencing slight cognitive distortion. Exemption granted. Strength 1047. Physique 1047. With no time to spare, Bai Yi immediately commences high-intensity training. As the forum's highest recorded strength and physique stand at 85, he resolves to double that, executing each movement to the point of exhaustion before transitioning to the next. Steel spine will effect concluded. Rationality restored to 100,100. 10 fleeting minutes pass. As the innate effect dissipates, Bai Yi collapses onto the ground, overwhelmed by the lactic acid accumulating in his muscles, teetering on the brink of unconsciousness. He attempts to rise, but finds himself unable to control even a single finger. Simultaneously, he senses the sustenance consumed earlier that evening being rapidly digested, decomposed, and distributed throughout his body. His brain signals an impending state of dormancy. Thankfully, he had replenished himself sufficiently prior to this endeavor. This is the last thought that crosses Bai Yi's mind before slumber claims him. Weather, clear. Location, Misty lands. Time, morning. Temperature, 15 to 18 C. Bai Yi awakens in bed. After being roused by the cold on the floor last night, he had managed to drag his barely functional body to the bed. He experiences slight muscle soreness, yet it does not hinder his normal activities. Satisfied, Bai Yi nods and opens his status panel. Strength, 55. Physique, 55. The astonishing results leave Bai Yi somewhat taken aback. He had not anticipated such effectiveness from his training. He resolves to seize more opportunities to engage in this practice. With this thought in mind, Bai Yi begins his warm-up exercises. Today marks the final day of the novice protection period, and the rain outside has ceased. Bai Yi must endeavor to stockpile as many resources as possible in the dwindling time, for no one knows what perils they shall face once the protection period concludes. Shepherd's Mercy, damaged, durability, 55, Tang Dao, durability, 100,100, Worn Stone Axe, durability, 1050, standing at the entrance of the shelter. Bai Yi twirled the gunflower in his left hand while gripping the knife in his right. A journal hung from his left hip, and a stone axe was secured at his right. Fully armed, Bai Yi stepped out of the shelter. He ventured forth, ready to hunt. Chapter 13. The final preparations. Bai Yi tread carefully upon the muddy ground, his boots crunching through the decaying leaves and the newly sprouted mushrooms among the underbrush. He had been wandering outside for several hours, yet had found nothing. No animals, not even a scrap of iron. A chilling howl pierced the air, accompanied by a creaking sound from the left side of the woods. Bai Yi's heart quickened as he stealthily approached the source of the sound. Before him, 2 gray wolves were fiercely tearing at a snow-white comrade. The white wolf bore a gaping wound, half a meter long, inflicted by sharp claws. Its entrails sprawled across the littered ground, yet it valiantly resisted the onslaught of the gray wolves with its forepaws, attempting to protect its throat. Its left eye was blind, and the right was matted with blood, but the dark golden iris blazed with a furious fire. Were these the 2 gray wolves that had escaped before? Bai Yi slipped behind a tree, plotting to ambush. The howling intensified as the white wolf finally succumbed, toppled to the ground. Its throat pierced by one of the gray wolf's fangs. Blood gushed from the artery, spraying half a meter high. coalescing into a bizarre red mist. As the two gray wolves prepared to feast upon the fallen white wolf, Bai Yi's gun barrel emerged from the thicket. Bang! Bang! Shepherd's mercy, damaged. Durability, 35. His diligent practice bore fruit. One bullet precisely shattered the skull of a gray wolf, while another lodged itself in the shoulder blade of the second. The wounded beast howled in agony as it lunged towards him, prompting Bai Yi to thrust his knife upward. The Tang Dao sliced through the white mist, its glint colliding with the wolf's claws, sending tremors down the blade and causing his hands to tingle. Before the gray wolf could react, he had already raised his gun once more. Bang! This time, Bai Yi aimed deliberately at the gray wolf's torso to avoid a misfire. Shepherd's mercy, damaged. Durability, 25. The roaring bullet tore a gaping wound through the gray wolf's body. In that moment, the wolf recognized the man before it. The very butcher who had slaughtered its kin days prior. It yearned to flee, yet its body froze in place. Each bullet has a 5 chance to trigger a painful howl, rendering the target immobilized for 1 second. With an expressionless demeanor, Bai Yi approached the wolf. Reversing his grip on the Tang Dao, he plunged it into the gray wolf's neck, and with a swift pull, half of the wolf's head detached from its body. I nearly forgot this gun possesses a skill. Bai Yi chuckled softly. That 5 chance truly seemed rather low. As he collected the corpses, he murmured to himself. He found himself increasingly inclined to engage in soliloquy, a stark contrast to his prior state of being a mere vegetative existence, where speech was inconsequential. Now, with the ability to articulate words, he found himself surrounded by an absence of listeners, left to converse with himself. The sight of the white wolf was indeed majestic. How splendid it would be to nurture one. Standing before the lifeless body of the wolf, Bai Yi mused aloud. Yet the thought of actually raising one was far from his mind. Otherwise, he would not have awaited the creature's demise before appearing. While possessing a wild beast might exude a certain allure, the reality of it being a carnivore, incapable of comprehending human speech, posed a considerable risk should it ever turn against him. As Bai Yi dragged 3 corpses back to the courtyard, a faint whimper reached his ears from behind. To his astonishment, the wolf's paw twitched in the pool of blood, the fatal wound to its throat having ceased to bleed. It was still alive. Such tenacity in life. Pointing his Tang Dao at the wolf's head, Bai Yi intended to deliver the final blow. Alas, if only you could comprehend human language, I would genuinely consider raising you. Just as the blade was about to descend, the bloodied wolf head suddenly nodded twice with great effort. Bai Yi's hand trembled, almost losing his grip on the weapon. Can you understand? The wolf nodded again. How extraordinary. Bai Yi's curiosity was piqued. If you acknowledge me as your elder brother, I shall spare you. He crouched down, prodding the wolf's ear, his fingertip coming into contact with the icy blood. Summoning its last reserves of strength, the wolf barely nodded. It seemed to be on the brink of death. Dare to bite me, and I shall turn you into a wolf meat hot pot. Bai Yi, somewhat pained, retrieved a first aid kit. Pouring alcohol over the wound caused a white mist to rise, and the wolf's muscles tensed. A low whimper escaping its throat as fresh blood oozed forth. Be silent. Bai Yi slapped the wolf's head, admonishing, the bleeding has just stopped. Do you wish to perish? The whimpering ceased abruptly. The wolf buried its head in its forepaws, large tears dripping onto the sterilized gauze. Unable to bear the sight, Bai Yi found a twig and wedged it into the creature's mouth. The wolf's sharp teeth clamped down on the half-stick. Wood shavings mixed with blood spilling from the corners of its mouth. By the time he finished tending to the wound, dusk had arrived, the setting sun casting an amber hue upon the mist. The wolf curled up beside the hearth, each breath causing the fur beneath to become stained with blood. Its pristine white coat was matted with crimson scabs, resembling a dandelion drenched by a torrential downpour. Bai Yi understood that the wolf's chances of survival were slim. Such grievous injuries could not be remedied by mere rudimentary treatment, unless he hesitated, rationality urging him to eliminate the wolf to procure sufficient sustenance for barter. While emotion clamored for him to save the creature, desiring companionship in this fog-laden world. Should he kill or save, waver or decide? How could one survive in this obscure realm? Resolving his indecision, Bai Yi rose and retrieved a syringe. Wound healing injection. Quality, good. Description, a restorative agent for wounds. Exceptionally effective for cuts, lacerations, and puncture wounds. However, this medication can only heal flesh. To prevent infection, please cleanse the wound of any debris prior to use. Bai Yi approached the white wolf, which appeared increasingly feeble, its formerly fierce dark golden eyes now shrouded in a veil of gray. Bai Yi extended his hand, the injection shimmering with a ghostly blue hue in the firelight. The white wolf struggled to lift its paw, gently nudging his wrist holding the syringe. This gesture drained its last vestiges of strength, and its paw fell limply. I saved your life, and henceforth, your life belongs to me. The needle pierced the vein, and under the effect of the injection, the white wolf slipped into a deep slumber. Bai Yi picked up his journal. Bai Yi, do you have iron? 5 pieces. The message from Wang Zi flickered in the firelight. Wang Zi, what does dog brother need iron for? Bai Yi, to make a wish. He tossed 5 pieces of coarse iron into the wishing well. An ancient tome with a bronze cover emerged from the ashes. The spine was adorned with dark red crystals that revealed vascular patterns upon touch. Elementary alchemy, fragment, quality, exquisite, unlocked recipe, rationality potion, requires spiritual materials, description, forcibly reading will result in a significant decline in rationality. This book may hold little value for others, but for Bai Yi, it was a treasure. Rationality? I can forfeit that. The novice protection period was nearing its end, and no one knew what this termination would entail. Perhaps a more brutal hell awaited him. As midnight approached, it was destined to be a sleepless night. Bai Yi sat beside the fireplace, the flickering sparks illuminating his pitch-black pupils. The white wolf, its wounds nearly healed, lay quietly at Bai Yi's feet. Its solitary dark golden eye reflecting the man's silhouette. Its tail unconsciously brushed against the young man's ankle, its fur tickling the skin. The global channel pulsed like the heartbeat of a dying man. Some were posting farewell poems, others uploading templates for suicide notes. While an ID named Mist Merchant was peddling gravesite selection services. Bai Yi chewed on a vitamin tablet while perusing alchemical formulas. The text suddenly morphed into an eye pattern, compelling him to snap the tome shut and pop a mint into his mouth to quell his nausea. Bai Yi attempted to access the shelter's logs, only to discover they were inaccessible, likely due to an update. Approaching the window, he noticed that the once white mist had transformed into a dense black fog enveloping the shelter, obscuring all vision. The white wolf seemed to sense something amiss. Restlessly pacing on the ground, Bai Yi beckoned it over, saying, "Come here, you still lack a name. Let me bestow one upon you. How about Bai?" The white wolf nuzzled Bai Yi's hand with its head. Seating himself on the ground, Bai Yi wrapped his arms around Bai. "Do not worry. It's merely a system update. It's nothing to fret over. What if there's no protection period? Just watch as I lead you through the fog." A howl echoed, "Woo woo woo. Let us pierce through the mist. Woo woo woo. Rise up. Woo." Laughter erupted, "Ha ha. Woo woo woo." The morning light, like a rusted blade, struggled to cleave through the thick fog. Bai Yi's fingers rested against the glass, and through the window, he beheld a collapsed office building piercing the mist, its steel rebar protruding from the concrete like the rotting ribs of a colossal beast. At that moment, the shelter stood amidst the ruins of a city, and 2 wooden barriers outside had inexplicably fallen. What is happening? Before Bai Yi could ponder further, the system notification chimed. Beginner protection period ended. Cognitive protection disabled. In an instant, the flames dancing in the fireplace grotesquely morphed into countless pale arms. The stone walls began to ooze crimson droplets, each reflecting the eerie grin of the white wolf behind him, which was slowly extending its claws towards the nape of his neck. With a swift motion, the tang knife embedded itself into the wall, shattering the illusion like a broken mirror. Cold sweat trickled down Bai Yi's cheek, the knife's hilt vibrating with intensity. Bai looked up, bewildered, its tail brushing against the floor where dried blood still lingered, remnants from yesterday's stitching of wounds. Anomaly shield disabled. The sudden clang of the iron door shattered the stillness. Peering through the crack, he saw 3 decayed fingers clawing at the doorframe, maggots crawling from the joints. A corpse clad in a courier's uniform hunched forward, its dislocated jaw dangling to its chest, the badge of the happy community delivery eroded by mold. Following the first corpse, another emerged from the fog. Bai Yi strode purposefully towards the shelter's exit, determined to eliminate them before more could be drawn in. Shelter isolation disabled by Xiao. You. Just as Bai Yi began to instruct, he suddenly realized his voice had vanished. In his line of sight, Bai was barking at him, yet no sound emerged. Simultaneously, he felt an increasing chill enveloping him, as if he were transforming into a block of ice. What is happening? A surge of panic coursed through Bai Yi as he surveyed his surroundings, finding nothing amiss. Thus, the issue lay with him and Bai. As he contemplated rapidly, the coldness intensified. He began to inspect his body, finding everything seemingly normal. The problem arose from an unseen source. He quickly approached Little White, focusing on its back and hips, yet found nothing amiss. Little White trembled like a sieve, while Bai Yi felt his limbs growing increasingly rigid. As if he were succumbing to frost, his thoughts slowing to a crawl. The voice of the cancel basic resources system slightly roused Bai Yi's consciousness. He realized he had unknowingly collapsed onto the ground. Little White circled him incessantly, its mouth opening and closing, but no sound emerged. The mouth. Due to the angle, Bai Yi finally discerned a dark mass lodged within Little White's mouth. So it was hidden here. As his fingertips probed into the throat, the black mass emitted a shrill cry akin to a baby's wail. Bai Yi seized the slippery tendril and yanked it out, the viscous slime dripping onto the floor. With a swift slash of his tang knife, the dark mass let out a piercing scream before drooping lifelessly. You have witnessed the shadow of 1,000 throats, rationality 8. Bai Yi replicated the action, extracting and dispatching the mass from Little White's mouth. Outside the door, the number of corpses had swelled to 4. The sound of their relentless pounding growing more frantic. Bai Yi flicked the slime from the blade of his knife and stepped out of the shelter. In the instant 4 corpses lunged at him, he fired a shot, sending the foremost one's skull flying. The putrid brain matter arced through the air. Shepherd's mercy, damaged. Upon entering the sanctuary, the overwhelming sensation of disorientation dissipated, replaced by a profound sense of reassurance. Bai Yi cast a glance at his status panel. Bai Yi, health, age, 30. The average values for adult attributes are 3. With a maximum of 10, strength, 55, mental, 91, constitution, 55, psychological state, anxiety 47100. Upon reaching 100, all abnormal status effects will double. Insanity will diminish at double the rate. Sanity, 100,100. Abnormal status, peace of mind, lament of the departed, talent, steel-spined will. Effect 1, active upon activation, as sanity decreases. The rigidity index of your spine increases, rivaling that of steel. Both strength and constitution will significantly enhance, with a maximum increase of 3-fold, lasting for 10 minutes. Afterward, sanity lost will be fully restored, entering a cooldown period of 12 hours. Effect 2, passive when your sanity plummets to 1, sanity is forcibly locked, exempting you from all negative states, while your consciousness will endure immense suffering. The pain diminishes as sanity is restored, and pain ceases when sanity exceeds 30. The information panel now included 2 new categories, psychological state and abnormal status, while the previous slot for abnormal status, Lost Wanderer, had transformed into peace of mind. Chapter 15, Log Update. Bai Yi examined the log. Peace of mind 1. Exemption from certain abnormal states 2. Psychological value within the sanctuary increases by 5 per minute 3. Sanity recovery speed, 104. Permanent sense of direction, ability to perceive the sanctuary's orientation, can be sensed even outside the sanctuary. Everything unfolded with astonishing rapidity. Merely disabling the novice protection nearly led to Bai Yi's demise within the sanctuary. After cautiously surveying his surroundings and confirming the absence of immediate danger, he opened the log to review the latest updates. On the first page, precautions were noted. Novice protection period ended. 1. Cognitive protection disabled. The system will no longer provide players with basic cognitive protection. You will face the fog directly. 2. Abnormality shield disabled. The system will not expel any aberrations, and aberrations will also be able to see the player's sanctuary. 3. Sanctuary isolation disabled. Players may be subject to attacks within the sanctuary. 4. Basic resource supply ceased. All beasts in the wild will transform into aberrations, and no new beasts will spawn near the sanctuary. 5. Sanctuary upgrade unlocked. 6. Personal panel now includes psychological and abnormal state attributes. 7. Forum, square, and channel updates. 8. Guild and team functions unlocked. 9. Log now includes sections for guilds, teams, abnormal states, and aberration compendium, a total of 9 updates. The initial entries elucidated the reasons behind Bai Yi's recent peril, while the latter introduced new functionalities. Bai Yi continued to flip through the pages. The second page detailed the weather, including the specific time, while the third page contained information about the shelter, stone villa, level, 5, durability, 2000, storage capacity, 1000, 5 stones expand 1 unit of capacity, traits, none, upgrade, iron 100 or special items. Upon using special items, the shelter will transform into a special shelter. Description, during the novice period, you may take it easy. Recycling box unlocked. Recycle the bodies of aberrant creatures for corresponding missed coins. Decomposition, wishing, and recycling can only be chosen one at a time. Special items? Upon seeing these few words, Bai Yi instinctively thought of that piece of flesh. He intended to retrieve the flesh after reviewing the logs. As for the recycling box, Bai Yi glanced out the window. At some point, a box stood silently across from the wishing well, resembling a clothing recycling bin from Earth. He would study it further later. The third page contained personal information that he had previously perused, so he passed it over. The fourth page revealed the forum, where posts were categorized into 4 sections: combat, survival, shelter, and weapons tools. The posts were still present, yet none had been updated. Bai Yi clicked on the update notification. The forum was open every night from 8 to 10 o'clock, during which players could view the uploaded posts. The fifth page displayed the plaza, also accessible only from 8 to 10 o'clock each night. However, Aside from player trading, a new system shop had emerged. Though its inventory was limited, it confirmed a piece of information. System shop. Permanent teleportation scroll, 100 mist coins. Temporary teleportation scroll, 200 mist coins. Last for 10 hours. Shelter fusion scroll, 10,000 mist coins. Fusion will not trigger isolation syndrome. These 3 items conveyed 4 pieces of information. 1. Players could now meet one another. 2. The permanent teleportation scroll was cheaper than the temporary one, suggesting that the permanent option was more perilous, possibly related to isolation syndrome. 3. Players' shelters could fuse, and the steep price likely indicated that the benefits of fusion outweighed the drawbacks. 4. The system had introduced mist coins, which would undoubtedly become the primary currency for trading among players. During his contemplation, a familiar sensation washed over him once more. Bai Yi, growing accustomed to the experience, summoned the thousand throats shadow from his throat and swiftly crushed it. He casually tossed it into the recycling box, and a mist coin flew out, which Bai Yi deftly caught. It was a round, pure white coin, seemingly composed of mist, yet possessing a certain weight. As he toyed with the mist coin, Bai Yi recalled their previous agreement, which stated that he needed to join Wang Zi's team. However, he was uncertain whether Wang Zi had faced any attacks or if their team had suffered any casualties. Bai Yi navigated to the channel page, specifically the 6th page, where he found that the global channel had been restricted, accessible only from 8 to 10 in the evening. The regional channel, however, remained operational, with a coverage area of 1,000 square kilometers and a participant count of 63,100. Notably, the regional channel had introduced a coordinate display. This is quite absurd, Bai Yi mused. At that moment, the regional channel buzzed with activity. Damn it, have you all encountered an attack? Indeed. We faced something called the thousand-mouthed shadow. If it weren't for my mirror, I would have fallen prey to that creature. It seems we are experiencing the same assault. The 37 individuals must have perished due to their inability to locate the aberrant entity. I too came perilously close to death, but I caught a glimpse of the channel, and I am immensely grateful to that brother. It appears they only encountered the thousand-mouthed shadow. Bai Yi's lips twitched in frustration. Why was he always so unfortunate? Having also encountered a corpse? Had it not been for his quick reflexes, he would likely be facing a siege by the undead now. Without further ado, he continued to browse for updates. Individual messaging had not been restricted. Group chats were included within personal messaging. Bai Yi, are you still alive? Wang Zi, not dead. Bai Yi, good. Let us discuss the rest later. Wang Zi, all right, dog brother. The 7th page displayed the guild and team functions, which Bai Yi could not access since he had not joined any. It merely indicated the registration fees. Guild, 500 mist coins for up to 100 members, with an additional 10 mist coins required to expand the capacity by 1. Team, 100 mist coins for 10 members, with an additional 50 mist coins for each added member. The 2 methods corresponded to distinct survival strategies. The guild relied on sheer numbers, while the team pursued an elite approach. Interestingly, establishing a team proved even more costly than forming a guild, suggesting there were additional factors at play. Bai Yi recalled that Wang Zi and her group were likely opting for the team route, and he personally favored that as well. A guild with too many members could inevitably lead to disputes. The 8th page detailed abnormal statuses, listing 1. Lost soul. Upon leaving the sanctuary, a mental evaluation will occur. Mental points will resist for a duration, after which 1 point of sanity will be deducted per minute. Current mental points, 91. Resistance duration, 91 hours. 2. Wailing of the dead. Occurs daily from 22 to 6 o'clock the following day, deducting 2 points of sanity every hour. Current mental points, 91. Hourly deduction, 18. No deduction if mental points exceed 10. 3. Where my heart finds peace. Grants immunity to certain abnormal statuses. Within the sanctuary, mental restoration occurs at 5 points per minute, with a restoration speed of 100 for sanity. Permanent sense of direction. Ability to perceive the sanctuary's location. Only displays the abnormal statuses encountered by the player. The 9th page cataloged the aberrant entities, listing only 2 types. 1. Thousand-mouthed shadow, an amorphous black mass, its surface randomly displaying biological orifices to consume sound, with swallowed sound waves converting into thermal energy loss. 2. Putrid humanoid, abbreviated as corpse and unknown, decaying humanoid creature, exhibiting swift movement and possessing a clustering trait. They are drawn to one another. Individual corpses may undergo mutations. At this point, Bai Yi had gained an understanding of the recent updates. The sudden increase in difficulty filled him with a sense of urgency. He needed to upgrade his shelter promptly. With this thought in mind, Bai Yi approached the storage room and retrieved the mass of flesh and blood. The log vibrated. Special item, endless proliferation of flesh and bone fragments, can be used to upgrade the shelter. Chapter 16. The nest of flesh and bone. Part 1. Note: utilizing the endless proliferation of flesh and bone fragments to upgrade the shelter will grant the trait flesh. Bone. Note: this may entail unknown risks. Note: upgrading the shelter with the endless proliferation of flesh and bone fragments will animate the shelter. 3 consecutive warnings appeared. Yet Bai Yi did not waver. On one hand, he lacked sufficient iron to upgrade the shelter. On the other, he understood the significance of this mass of flesh, which could greatly enhance his chances of survival if used for the upgrade. Would you like to upgrade the shelter? Yes. This time, there was no blinding light. As the flesh melded into the floor of the shelter, the entire structure trembled. New bone panels formed a honeycomb-like support structure within the flesh walls. Their surfaces covered with a translucent membrane, revealing a pulsating network of blood vessels beneath. The ceiling displayed rib-like bone rings, while the floor was carpeted with the derived flesh, teeming with tiny, writhing tendrils. Is this truly a shelter? Bai Yi and Xiao Bai had long since fled outside, standing there, staring vacantly. It was no wonder they were apprehensive. The previous scenes had indeed been quite terrifying. While inside, Bai Yi had felt as though he was being consumed. As he gazed at the shelter, now entirely transformed into a grotesque amalgamation of flesh and bone, he swallowed hard. Suddenly, a log notification appeared. Detected beginner alchemy, fragment. Would you like to fuse? Bai Yi hesitated for a moment, then selected yes. Immediately, the log vanished. He looked at the nearly upgraded shelter and kicked Xiao Bai. Xiao Bai, clear the way. A woo. Xiao Bai's wolfish face displayed an exaggerated, anthropomorphic terror. It cowered behind Bai Yi's legs, refusing to budge despite his persistent tugs. Useless. I'll do it myself. Bai Yi muttered as he cautiously advanced, his heart racing with anxiety. If the shelter did not accept him, it would be a rather significant predicament. Tentatively, he reached out to touch the door frame. The initially rigid bones suddenly softened, rubbing against his palm like a feline. The moment he withdrew his hand, the frame reverted to its stark, bone-white texture. Quite accommodating, indeed. Feeling slightly reassured, he lifted his foot to cross the threshold. As the sole of his boot sank into the fleshy carpet, countless tiny tendrils immediately extended, ensnaring his shoe. Release. The tendrils recoiled towards the ground with an electric jolt, even amiably shifting to present a pair of bony slippers. It was only then that Bai Yi realized their intent was to prompt him to change his footwear. With the reassuring absence of danger in the shelter, his previously anxious heart finally relaxed. Just as he was about to retrieve the logbook from the table, to his astonishment, the log appeared to scuttle over as if it possessed legs. Bai Yi's eyes widened in disbelief. The log had undergone a remarkable transformation. What was once a leather-bound book had now morphed into a grotesque tome of flesh and blood. The cover was composed of rigid skeletal structures, entwined with a mass of blood-soaked, writhing tendrils. It was these very appendages that had facilitated the log's movement. The former pages had been replaced by thin membranes of flesh, yielding a surprisingly pleasant texture to the touch. As Bai Yi concentrated, the log automatically flipped open to reveal the shelter's information. Meat network bone nest, oocyte. Level, 6. Blood flesh, 10001000. Bone, 10001000. Capacity, 0200000. Traits, blood flesh. Bone, upgrade, blood flesh, 010000. Skeletal, 05000. Facilities, workshop, modification room, digestion chamber, kitchen, bedroom, bathroom, storage room, water storage. Flesh mycelium carpet. Description: maintain a safe distance if you wish to avoid engaging in any bondage play. Unlocking anomalous state. Insulation of protection. Insulation of protection. While within the shelter, players will not suffer unwarranted attacks, can only defend against attacks with no causal relation to the player. Upon witnessing the activation of the insulation of protection, Bai Yi felt a slight easing of his vigilance. He then began to explore the details of the shelter. So many new facilities had been added, his curiosity piqued. He decided to visit each one. At that moment, as if responding to an unspoken command, the flesh beneath his feet elongated and proliferated, with the bones beneath the meat carpet multiplying frantically. In mere seconds, an ergonomically designed chair, crafted from flesh and bone, materialized behind him. Bai Yi chuckled. He discovered he could issue commands to the shelter merely by thinking. He then settled back into the chair, eager to see how the shelter would guide him on this tour. Countless small tendrils began to wriggle rapidly on the carpet, and he, along with his chair, began to glide smoothly across the room. Astonishing. Bai Yi was genuinely taken aback. However, before departing, he did not forget to command, "Bring Xiao Bai in and lock the door." In the next moment, a tendril shot out to seize the head of the sneaky Xiao by peeking through the door frame and dragged it into the room. The door slammed shut, and the noise abruptly ceased, the soundproofing remarkably effective. Bai Yi approached a door marked with a sign reading, "Workshop." The door then opened automatically, and the chair was moved inside. He observed that the former holographic screen had now transformed into a combination framed by white bones, with a translucent membrane serving as the display, while the mechanical arms had morphed into bony claws. The surface of the flesh membrane revealed characters composed of tiny flesh buds. Blueprint memory. By placing the production blueprint upon a scanning platform made of neural cells, it enables the creation of items without the need for the original blueprint. The production consumes flesh and bone values. Equipment assimilation. Consuming flesh and bone values. Existing weapons can be modified into flesh weapons, with a quality rating of exquisite. Those below exquisite can be upgraded, while those above exquisite cannot be transformed. Bai Yi's eyes brightened. These two functions implied that as long as he possessed blueprints, he could mass-produce exquisite equipment. He hurriedly placed the exquisite stone draft blueprint and the Tang Dao blueprint, damaged, onto the platform. Both blueprints had a durability of merely 1 left. Bai Yi had originally intended to reserve them for future use, but he did not anticipate their immediate utility here. The scanning was completed swiftly, and the weapons were recorded. Bai Yi opened the results. Bone pickaxe, materials, 75 flesh, 100 bone, quality, exquisite durability, 100 reparable in the workshop, description, a pickaxe crafted from unknown bones. Possessing a 50 chance of double resource drops when mining, white bone Tang Dao, materials, 100 flesh, 200 bone, quality, exquisite durability, 100 reparable in the workshop, description, a Tang Dao made from unknown bones that inflicts a bleeding effect upon striking a target, rendering healing potions ineffective for 10 minutes. Upon testing, Bai Yi discovered that the dried meat in his storage could not be used for crafting. He then recalled the corpses outside. Suddenly, the original 2-story villa appeared to shrink slightly, as the flesh mycelium spread from the shelter to the 4 decaying corpses below. Tentacles writhed, and the bodies were lined up, sequentially transported to the digestion chamber. Afterward, the flesh mycelium retracted, returning the shelter to its original state. Shortly thereafter, a message arrived from the storage room. Current flesh, 1041,000, bone, 1021,000. Would you like to construct? No. Knowing that the corpses could be decomposed made matters much simpler. Here, there was no shortage of decaying bodies. Bai Yi decided against construction for the moment, opting instead to explore other rooms. The flesh bud pushed a chair and walked towards another room. Chapter 17, Flesh and Bone Nest, continued. Bai Yi entered the transformation chamber. From his logs, he learned that the transformation chamber was derived from basic alchemy. The chamber was compact, containing only a screen, an operating table, and a medical pod, all constructed from flesh and bone. Text began to scroll across the screen, introducing the functionalities to Bai Yi. Quality organ fusion. The digestion chamber extracts high-quality organs from living organisms and integrates them with the shelter. Upon fusion, the shelter will possess the respective organ. Current organ slots, 45. Up to 5 different organs can be fused, and organs can be removed at any time. Currently fused. Eyes, from a corpse. Ears, from a corpse. Nose, from a corpse. Mouth, from a mutated corpse. Bai Yi had just finished his observation when the shelter eagerly showcased its new organs. The walls and floor were adorned with countless eyes, noses, ears, and mouths. All the eyes were wide open, the restless eyeballs darting back and forth, while the mouths opened and closed, emitting shrill shrieks reminiscent of that decaying corpse. You behold an extraordinarily bizarre room. Sanity 15. Bai Yi found himself at a loss for words to describe the shocking spectacle before him. At the very least, he was profoundly shaken. Stop. From now on, no unauthorized display of new organs without my command. He bellowed, his anger boiling. Had he not known this was his own shelter, he would have stormed out with a blade in hand. Once normalcy returned, he continued his inspection. Basic biological modification. The biological genes entering the digestion chamber will be recorded. Additionally, physical modifications can be performed, enhancement up to level 12. This function consumes flesh and bone values. Basic medical care. Provides bodily treatment for organisms without altering their form, treatment through basic flesh technology. These capabilities were undeniably formidable, signifying that Bai Yi no longer needed to fear injury, as he could now administer treatment himself. His emotions oscillated wildly today. He had earlier been anxious about the increased difficulty following the system update, yet now he was exhilarated by the shelter's upgrades. At this moment, Bai Yi's anticipation for the subsequent facilities grew even stronger. The digestion chamber resembled an assembly line, dismemberment, extraction, digestion, and transportation all in one seamless process. He merely glanced over it before moving on. The storage room was akin to the previous warehouse, though its capacity had expanded to 5,000. The water storage room was a new addition, currently empty save for a small amount of water. Bai Yi estimated that if the water storage room were to be filled, it would suffice for him and his wolf for approximately 3 months, which was quite substantial. The kitchen featured only a single window, where a screen allowed him to select the corresponding food, limited to meat. Bai Yi opted for a beef-flavored steak, and shortly thereafter, a steaming plate of steak was presented through the window. As the blade gently sliced through the caramelized crust of the steak, rich juices oozed forth like amber, casting an enticing sheen on the bone plate below. The aroma of grilling wafted into the air, revealing an interior of gradually transitioning salmon-pink flesh, marbled with delicate patterns reminiscent of fine stone. Bai Yi took a bite. The moment his tongue made contact, he first encountered the crisp shell's slightly bitter, charred essence, which was soon enveloped by the velvety smoothness of the meat. The concentrated flavor of the meat unfolded layer by layer with each chew, culminating in a mineral saltiness from sea salt that lingered in his throat. Ah, delicious. Bai Yi had long since forgotten the last time he had savored such intoxicating cuisine. Tears streamed down his cheeks, and he fell deeply in love with this shelter. Wait. In the midst of his reverie, Bai Yi suddenly pondered. Where did this beef come from? He set down the plate and scrutinized the screen with great care. The beef-flavored steak left Bai Yi in a moment of realization. So it was indeed beef-flavored. He had wondered where the beef could possibly come from in this place. The sound abruptly ceased, and an ominous feeling crept over him as he gazed at the exquisite dish before him. If it wasn't beef, then... With a grim expression, he opened his log. Current flesh 10, 391, 000, bones 10, 201, 000. Ola 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 ola. Bai Yi furiously punched the wall of flesh, his fist striking down with the intensity of lightning. How dare you serve me rotten meat? The flesh writhed, revealing 2 eyes rolling back in their sockets and a mouth that drooled incessantly. Meanwhile, at the dining table, Xiaobai had been drawn to the steak by its enticing aroma, his mouth watering profusely. Xiaobai, you can't eat that. Just as Xiaobai was about to take a bite, Bai Yi intervened, swiftly snatching the steak away and shoving it into his own mouth. I haven't had enough yet. If you wish to eat, go find your own. What does it matter what kind of meat it is? Out of sight, out of mind. As long as it tastes good, that's all that matters. After a hearty meal, Bai Yi contemplated heading upstairs. He settled into a chair by the staircase and was about to rise when a tentacle adorned with eyes halted him. The tentacle shook its eyes at him, and suddenly, the staircase began to transform. The steps vanished, replaced by a slanted escalator reminiscent of a shopping mall on Earth. Thus, Bai Yi continued to sit comfortably as he ascended, the fine tentacles on the chair's backrest rhythmically undulating. This is truly remarkable. This chair even has a massage feature. Bai Yi couldn't help but marvel. The second floor was modest, consisting solely of a bedroom and a bathroom. The bedroom was merely an ordinary space, furnished with a bed of flesh, and that was all. The bathroom, however, was rather advanced. A polished piece of white bone served as a mirror above the sink. The toilet was also crafted from bone, though the seat was made of warm flesh. At the bottom of the toilet, an eye opened, and upon seeing Bai Yi approach, the lid and seat automatically lifted. After using the restroom, tentacles emerged from the inner walls to clean themselves. Oh, Bai Yi's eyes widened in astonishment. He had never encountered such an intelligent toilet. The waste was directly funneled through pipes underground, serving as nourishment for plants, truly eco-friendly. Due to most of the rooms being on the first floor, the villa appeared small at the top and large at the bottom. Bai Yi decided to rearrange the layout. The first floor would now serve as a storage room, a water reservoir, and a kitchen, while the second floor would be transformed into a workshop, a modification room, and a bedroom. He designated 2 bathrooms, one on each floor. The wishing well was relocated to the grand hall on the first floor, and the recycling bin was placed in the digestive room. During this time, Bai Yi attempted to have the shelter recycle the corpses of 2,000 throat shadows, only to be informed that non-flesh items could not be recycled. Consequently, he discarded the bodies into the recycling bin, receiving 2 mist coins in return. Bai Yi thoroughly experienced all the functionalities and found himself quite satisfied. Particularly, he was enamored with the medical pod. Lying within it proved to be even more comfortable than a bed. Consequently, Bai Yi disassembled his bed and commissioned another medical pod to be placed in his bedroom. Simultaneously, he discovered that all facilities within the shelter consumed flesh and bone resources, which could be replenished through the remains of creatures. Once everything was set, Bai Yi nodded contentedly and opened his log, intending to fulfill his promise and join Wang Zi's team. As Bai Yi upgraded the shelter, various exceptional shelters began to emerge simultaneously in other parts of the Misty Land. Amidst the falling snow, a crystal iced villa stood majestically. Amidst the crashing waves, a massive ship raced across the sea. Within the depths of an abyss, a flickering little cottage clambered upward. Churches, temples, and a variety of structures appeared in the mist. Of course, the The majority of individuals, lacking special items, could only progressively upgrade their iron shelters. At that moment, in a dense forest, Wang Zi held a sapling nervously and pressed the upgrade button. Chapter 18. Joining upon opening his personal chat, Bai Yi noticed that Wang Zi had left him a message. Wang Zi, dog brother, I was right, wasn't I? Wang Zi, you must not forget our agreement. I've already boasted about it. Bai Yi, since players can indeed meet, I shall keep my promise and join you. Wang Zi, fantastic. I'll invite you into our team chat. Wang Zi invites you to join the unnamed group chat, agreeing. Player Bai Yi joins the group chat. Wang Zi, welcome dog brother. Zhang Zhen, welcome dog brother. Li Zihua, welcome dog brother. Wei Fun, welcome dog brother. Tang Zheng, welcome dog brother. As Bai Yi entered, 5 messages appeared simultaneously, leaving him somewhat taken aback. As for the nickname dog brother, Bai Yi had long since ceased to resist. He had been thoroughly bewildered by the myriad of memes and jokes from the younger generation on the forum after a decade. Bai Yi, hello everyone, I am Bai Yi. Let us look out for each other. Wang Zi, hee, don't worry, dog brother. I plan to have you protect me. With the lively presence of Wang Zi, the atmosphere in the group quickly became familiar. Bai Yi also gleaned the names and specialties of the group members. There were 8 individuals in total, including himself. 2 members remained unseen, while the other 5 were Wang Zi, female, age 21, specialty in gardening. Zhang Zhen, male, age 45, specialty in resource searching. Li Zihua, male, age 19, specialty in medicine. Wei Fun, female, age 33, specialty in clothing production. And Tang Zheng, male, age 27, specialty in combat. The 2 unseen members were Xiesu, male, age 22, specialty in information provision, and Mu Mu, female, age 20, specialty in weapon crafting. Among them, Tang Zheng, like him, had just joined the squad, but he was recruited by Zhang Zhen. Bai Yi's impression of him was that he was straightforward and rather naive. Tang Zheng exclaimed, brother dog, have you truly reached a dual attribute of 10? Bai Yi replied, not yet, it's a talent ability. Tang Zheng responded, oh, so once the talent is unlocked, it can reach 10? Bai Yi confirmed, yes. Tang Zheng continued, brother dog, when we meet again, could you spar with me? I wish to gauge the disparity between my abilities and those of someone with 10 points. My strength is. Bai Yi rubbed his forehead, realizing that within a few minutes of acquaintance, Tang Zheng was already revealing his vulnerabilities. The person who left the deepest impression on Bai Yi, however, was Zhang Zhen. The reason was simple. Zhang Zhen was extraordinarily wealthy. According to him, his talent allowed him to survey a certain radius for minerals, equipment, and other useful items. This enabled him to clear out all valuable resources during the novice protection period. This old fellow was now fabulously rich, and Wang Zi's shelter was upgraded thanks to his resources. Including the cost of unlocking the squad, Zhang Zhen generously took care of it. He planned to trade some basic supplies for mist coins after the plaza opened tonight, intending to use it as public funds for the squad. Bai Yi and Tang Zheng were left in awe, exclaiming long live Uncle Zhang, while the other teammates had long since grown accustomed to Zhang Zhen's financial prowess. After initially establishing trust with the squad members, Bai Yi glanced at the time and realized it was already noon. He intended to hunt some corpses in the afternoon, as he was quite eager to obtain the basic body modification in the modification room, which could elevate his physique to the limits of humanity or even beyond. The only drawback was its exorbitant cost. Bai Yi checked and found that to raise both strength and constitution to 12 points, he would need 100 units of flesh and 1,000 units of bone. Given that a single corpse could provide 10 units of flesh and 5 units of bone, it meant Bai Yi would have to slay 210 corpses, which was undeniably a monumental task. It would be best to start early. Bai Yi declared, I am going out to hunt some corpses. While you chat, remain vigilant and upgrade the shelter to level 6 as soon as possible to unlock the insulation shield. Zhang Zhen assured, no doubt, as soon as the update was released, we upgraded the shelter. However, we have not been able to contact Xiao Xie and Xiao Mu. I am unsure of their situation. Wang Zi reassured, don't worry, Uncle Zhang. Xiao Mu is destined for good fortune, and Xiao Xie is a disaster that has survived for millennia. They will be fine. Uncle Zhang replied, I hope so. After Bai Yi finished his statement, he closed the log and refrained from participating in the ensuing conversation. The shelter's functions were exceedingly powerful, yet each required a substantial amount of flesh and bone. Bai Yi was also reluctant to let the shelter's flesh and bone values drop below 1,000. The flesh and bone values represented the shelter's durability. At 0, the shelter would perish. Thus, for a brighter tomorrow, he resolved to strive forward. In the mist, Bai Yi and Xiao Bai cautiously approached a corpse. The decaying corpse lay at the center of the road, while Bai Yi and Xiao Bai huddled in a corner. They were approximately 1 to 2 kilometers away from the shelter, and this was the first corpse they had encountered. As the ghastly figure meandered closer, Bai Yi grasped his tang knife, preparing for a stealth attack. Suddenly, he sensed Bai tugging at his pant leg. Whipping around, Bai Yi was confronted by another corpse emerging from the mist. The moment he laid eyes on it, it too noticed him. With a horrifying roar, the corpse surged forward with alarming speed, charging at Bai Yi. That dreadful cry attracted other corpses lurking on the road. Curse this damned fog. Bai Yi cursed under his breath, then angled his knife to evade the corpse's assault, while simultaneously slashing sideways. The creature's head separated from its neck, tumbling to the ground. Swiftly retreating to the corner, he prepared to strike again as the next corpse emerged, severing its head with one decisive blow. After hoisting the body, they hastily departed, aware that more corpses were gradually encircling them. Though the term corpses might resemble zombies, they were, in fact, a type of aberrant demon devoid of infectious capabilities. Visibility in this fog-laden world was perilously low, and Bai Yi relied entirely on Bai's warnings to navigate around the gathering hordes of corpses. This is inefficient. Standing at the entrance of the shelter, Bai Yi fell into contemplation. Due to the congregational nature of the corpses, solitary ones were a rarity, meaning Bai Yi could only scour the periphery of the clusters for isolated targets. They had to remain vigilant. Should multiple corpses spot them, a tide of the undead would ensue. Moreover, Bai Yi needed to transport the slain corpses back to the shelter. Mere moments ago, while returning, he and Bai had encountered a small group of 6 corpses head-on. Caught off guard due to Bai carrying a body, they had no time to prepare. Although they managed to escape, the body was lost, and only 2 bullets remained in their possession. Now, he had to devise an efficient method for dispatching the corpses. To avoid the hassle of transportation, it would be best to do so in the vicinity of the shelter, where the flesh and blood fungus could reach. Bai Yi surveyed his surroundings, and suddenly, a brilliant idea sparked in his mind. Chapter 19. The corpse processing line. A remarkable scene unfolded amidst the ruins of the city. As a man fled from a pursuing corpse toward a white structure. This is impossible. The corpse is far too swift for me to outrun. Next time, I shall let Bai take the lead. Bai Yi ran desperately, feeling as though his lungs were ablaze, while the distance between him and the corpse continued to diminish. Fortunately, the shelter was close at hand. From afar, the rotating eyes atop the shelter detected Bai Yi's silhouette, and the once impenetrable walls of bones swiftly opened a passage. Without hesitation, Bai Yi plunged into the gap, which rapidly sealed behind him. The corpse arrived too late, relegated to scratching at the outer walls in vain. Crush it! As Bai Yi issued his command, the smooth walls swiftly extruded a multitude of sharp-boned spurs. The unprepared corpse was instantly transformed into a pincushion, meeting its demise. However, Bai Yi felt no joy at the sight before him. Instead, he gazed sorrowfully at the shelter's panel. Flesh, 10, 395, 000. Bones, 9, 601. 000. The recent strike had consumed 50 points of bone value, while a single corpse yielded merely 5 points. Bai Yi's heart ached. It seemed that unleashing the shelter's attack without sufficient flesh and bones was not a prudent strategy. What if I simply trap the corpse instead and take care of the killing myself? With determination, Bai Yi decided to experiment. He approached the wall and commanded, "Bind me. Do not let me move." Instantly, the bony wall revealed countless small openings, from which an array of fleshy tendrils surged forth. Bai Yi struggled to free himself, but in the next moment, he ceased his resistance, allowing the tendrils to manipulate him. He realized that when he fought against them, his flesh value diminished at an alarming rate, while the consumption slowed dramatically when he stopped struggling. Flesh, 10, 315, 000. Bones, 9, 601. 000. It appeared that relying on the shelter to eliminate monsters was impractical. Perhaps I must level up a few more times. Bai Yi waved his hand, watching as the tendrils gradually retracted and the openings sealed. Suddenly, an idea struck him. He rushed inside the shelter. Create a small opening, right here at my eye level. The wall complied, cracking open, allowing Bai Yi to observe the outside world through 2 small holes. He then retrieved his Tang Dao, pressing the blade against the wall, which obediently created a gap wide enough for the sword to strike. Feasible. After a few practice swings, he reached a conclusion. The next crucial step was to lure a corpse over, after which he would need not concern himself further. Due to the clustering behavior of the corpses, the one he attracted would continue to draw in others, allowing Bai Yi to establish an efficient processing line with just 1 corpse outside the shelter. With the plan firmly in place, Bai was tasked with enticing the corpse. It wasn't that Bai Yi was unwilling to go, after being chased for so long. He had yet to recover. Thus, a familiar scene unfolded once more, though this time, it was not Bai Yi being pursued, but rather a one-eyed white wolf. Bai silently fled, wishing to howl, but Bai Yi had instructed it to remain silent to avoid attracting more corpses. Indeed, two legs cannot outrun four. Observing Xiao Bai's silhouette emerge from the fog, Bai Yi reflected. The remainder followed the same steps, although this time, Bai Yi paid no heed to the corpses outside. With the shelter reaching level 6, the corpses' attacks no longer inflicted any damage, and Bai Yi stood within the wall, peering through the small opening to observe the outside world. The characteristics of the corpses are indeed quite troublesome, as one after another, they emerge from the mist, approaching the walls of the sanctuary. Whenever a new corpse arrives, Bai Yi would swiftly eliminate the one that was scratching at the wall through a narrow opening. He would then redirect the new corpse's ire, luring it to continue its futile assault on the wall. It was not that Bai Yi wished to retain more corpses to increase productivity. Rather, he feared that an excessive number might incite unforeseen calamities, thus opting for a method that, while less efficient, prioritized safety. Time passed in Bai Yi's relentless endeavor, and before long, dusk fell. After dispatching the corpses outside the wall, Bai Yi concluded today's operations. From 1:30 in the afternoon until now, 5:30. He had tirelessly worked for a full 4 hours, yielding a bounty of 237 corpses. His hands ached from the toil, yet he found little joy in his success. For the corpses did not respawn at a consistent rate. Instead, their emergence became increasingly rapid. Initially, it took 7 to 8 minutes to attract a single corpse, but soon this interval dwindled to mere seconds. The mounting number of corpses was becoming a dire concern. With a grave expression, Bai Yi gazed intently into the mist. And for a fleeting moment, he felt as though he pierced through the haze, envisioning a surging tide composed of the very corpses he faced. When soldiers come, one must stand firm. When water comes, one must bury it in soil. It is time to focus on self-improvement. Dismissing further contemplation, Bai Yi called upon Xiao Bai, and together they entered the modification chamber, as he intended to replace Xiao Bai's eye. Flesh, 34, 095, 000, bone, 21. 811, 000. At Bai Yi's urging, Xiao Bai reluctantly climbed onto the operating table, vividly recalling the last time Bai Yi had treated its wounds. With a plaintive tilt of its head, Xiao Bai gazed at Bai Yi, exuding an air of pitifulness. Bai Yi, without a glance, issued the command, commence. This modification will consume 240 flesh. As the anesthetic coursed through Xiao Bai's system, it fell into a deep slumber. Subsequently, appendages and bone blades emerged from beneath the operating table, each performing its designated task. One set pried open Xiao Bai's eye socket, extracting the decayed eyeball and cleansing the hollow cavity, while another extracted genetic material from the eyeball, injecting it into a nearby culture medium that resembled a canister. With the introduction of the genetic material, a small morsel submerged in the liquid swiftly began to divide and differentiate. In mere minutes, an identical dark golden eye rapidly took shape. How exquisite! Observing the softly glowing golden pupil in the dim environment, Bai Yi felt an impulse to acquire a pair for himself. Sensing Bai Yi's thoughts, the screen nearby displayed the message. Iris gene expressing color has been recorded. It can seamlessly integrate with any biological eyeball. Ha, I knew I was right about you. Bai Yi rubbed his hands together in excitement, contemplating the prospect of acquiring a dark golden pupil for himself during the modification. The remaining steps were routine, transplanting the eyeball, suturing the ocular nerves, and then awakening Xiao Bai. Xiao Bai, filled with delight, turned his head back and forth, surveying the surroundings with his new eyes. He then dashed to Bai Yi's side, circling around him, occasionally climbing onto him to lick his face. At that moment, the log vibrated, revealing that Xiao Bai's attributes had appeared on the previously blank third page of personal information. Chapter 20, Transformation and Basic Blood and Flesh Alchemy. Xiao Bai, Snowfield Wolf Healthy, Subordinate. Age, 6, Strength, 7, Mentality, 75, Death has shattered your limits. Constitution, 7, the Snowfield Wolf's limit is 7. Psychological state, normal. Rationality, 200. Abnormal state, my heart finds peace. The Lament of the Deceased. Talent, Snowfield Howl, active, effect 1, consumes rationality, 1 per second. Causes snowfall within a radius of 10 meters, 10 mental points. Within this range, hostile units undergo a rationality check. Current rationality of 200 results in failure. Upon failure, it deducts 100 points of rationality per second from the enemy's current rationality. Additionally, those within this range experience effects of cold, slowing physical movements. Effect 2, within the talent range, allied units' rationality recovery speed increases by 200, while shielding against certain abnormal states. Maintaining a stable psychological state. Allies and enemies determined by Xiao Bai's active judgment. Talent has just awakened. Description, it is willing to sacrifice everything for you, even its life. Xiao Bai's attributes may not be high, yet they had reached their limits. with his mentality having directly surpassed them. Given his remarkable talent and impressive rationality of 200, he proved to be exceptionally powerful in controlling the situation, dealing damage, or providing support. Bai Yi, satisfied, patted the wolf's head before lying down on the operating table. Commencing basic physical transformation, iris color change surgery. This transformation will last for 15 hours. Would you like to proceed? Just as Bai Yi was about to confirm, another message suddenly appeared. The final part of basic alchemy has been converted into basic blood and flesh alchemy. Would you like to learn during the surgery? Bai Yi had initially thought that basic alchemy had vanished, completely transformed into basic blood and flesh modification, and was taken aback by this unexpected delight. Without hesitation, he selected all options. This transformation consumes 2,360 blood and flesh, 1,150 bones, current blood and flesh, 809, 1000, bones, 1030, 1000. The operating table began to rise slowly, and a membranous sheet extended from above, connecting with the table to form a sealed space. A yellowish-brown nutrient solution was injected within, and before Bai Yi could be anesthetized, he curiously observed these changes. At that moment, a mask floated gently toward his face, and a slender tentacle pointed at the mask, then at Bai Yi's face. Understanding the implication, Bai Yi donned the mask. The tentacles within the mask elongated, entering through Bai Yi's orifices, gradually making contact with his brain. Initially, Bai Yi experienced a slight sensation of nausea and suffocation. However, before long, he felt an unusual sense of comfort, his body feeling weightless, as if he had returned to the embryonic stage. At this moment, the extending tendrils had seamlessly integrated into Bai Yi's cerebral cortex, severing the connection between his brain and the external world. Subsequently, waves of strange power surged into Bai Yi's brain through the tendrils, leaving imprints beneath his cerebral cortex. Bai Yi understood that this was the primary flesh alchemy post-transformation. Knowledge that typically required rational elixirs to comprehend was ingeniously circumvented by the sanctuary through this method. As Bai Yi absorbed the knowledge, simultaneous alterations were occurring in the external world. His body was meticulously disassembled, with each bone, muscle, an inch of skin being systematically dismantled according to its original placement. Countless tendrils were diligently transforming various parts of his being. The bones saw an increase in density, while simultaneously expanding numerous honeycomb-like cavities, enhancing their load-bearing capacity and sturdiness without altering his weight. At the joints, in addition to connective tissue, a new type of fibrous cartilage was introduced, fortifying the joints against damage. After extracting muscle cells, stronger and more perfect cells were cultivated and subsequently replaced, resulting in increased explosive power and faster lactic acid decomposition. Blood vessels and the heart underwent reinforcement and pressurization, enabling blood to flow more swiftly and enhancing metabolic capabilities. Each neural cell's neuronal terminals were interconnected by nanoscopic filaments, allowing electrical signals to be converted into neural signals with unprecedented speed during transmission, facilitating the rapid movement of synaptic vesicles among these filaments. The operation lasted for 15 hours. The tendrils and bone knives retracted entirely, and nutrient fluid began to slowly drain out through small openings on the operating table. After disinfection and purification, this nutrient fluid would be recycled for reuse. The mask was lifted. With a hissing sound, as the flesh membrane receded, a dense white mist billowed upwards. Bai Yi opened his eyes, his dark golden irises profound and indifferent. With a gentle exertion of his arms, he lifted himself into the air and, after a smooth descent, dressed himself and exited the transformation chamber. The sudden enhancement of his physical attributes did not evoke any sense of unfamiliarity. During the procedure, with the sanctuary's assistance, Bai Yi had undergone simulated physical training within his mind. With a flicker of thought, Bai Yi summoned his attributes panel. Bai Yi, health, age, 30. The average value for an adult in each attribute is 3. With a maximum of 10, strength, 12, mentality, 91, constitution, 12, psyche, normal. Only negative psychological states displayed. Rationality, 100,100. Abnormal state, my heart finds peace. The lamentations of the deceased. Talent, steel spine will affect 1. Active upon activation. As rationality decreases, the hardness index of your spinal column increases, rivaling that of steel. The enhancement of strength and physique will experience a remarkable increase, reaching up to 3-fold, lasting for a duration of 10 minutes. Upon conclusion, one will be guaranteed a full restoration of lost sanity, followed by a cool-down period of 12 hours. Effect 2. Passive when your sanity dwindles to a mere 1. It will forcibly lock your sanity, granting you immunity to all negative states. However, your consciousness will endure immense suffering, which will diminish as your sanity is restored. Once your sanity exceeds 30, the suffering will cease. Knowledge acquired. Basic flesh alchemy. Equipment. None. Only displayed when carried. Description. An unknown species cloaked in human skin. Thus, Bai Yi underwent a complete metamorphosis. However, the enhancement of physical attributes was not Bai Yi's greatest gain from this experience. Basic flesh alchemy. Bai Yi gently stroked the head of Xiao Bai, who had been vigilantly guarding the entrance of the transformation chamber. Alchemy variant. Basic flesh alchemy 1. Boiling blood. Upon activation, 5 points of sanity will be consumed each second, causing your blood to boil and ignite. During this combustion, your body remains in a peak state, and your blood becomes flammable. 2. Flesh and bone transformation. Consuming sanity. This ability allows you to convert the flesh, bones, your body comes into contact with into bone, flesh, with the amount of sanity consumed depending on the scale of the transformation. Pending learning. Indeed, although the requisite knowledge of alchemy has been implanted in Bai Yi's mind, the sheer magnitude and complexity of the foundational knowledge render his learning exceedingly arduous. It is akin to understanding a mathematical formula. Each letter is familiar, yet the amalgamation is incomprehensible. Bai Yi now possesses a wealth of knowledge, yet he is unable to decipher it, and he cannot freely converse with others. For in the land of mist, knowledge is toxic. Others may not grasp the concepts before succumbing to permanent madness due to the rapid decline of sanity. Fortunately, the existence of the sanctuary aids Bai Yi in conducting interpretative learning within his mind. He acquired the 2 basic spells of basic flesh alchemy in this manner. Time has progressed to 9:40 a.m. on the following day. During these past several hours, Zhang Jun has successfully unlocked the team, with only Bai Yi yet to join. Simultaneously, Bai Yi's private messages have become a chaotic jumble, as members from the newly formed team inundated him with numerous messages. Prince Yi is in danger, dog brother. Come quickly. Chapter 21. The first gathering. Bai Yi raised an eyebrow. Had they already procured the temporary teleportation scrolls? He opened the group chat and swiftly skimmed through the previous messages. Xiesu and Mu Mu had both responded in the group, with Xiesu having encountered danger but fortunately survived. Mu Mu faced a minor issue, which has also been resolved. Following that were the usual introductions, along with messages calling for his attention, messages he had naturally not responded to as he was engaged in surgery at that time. Then came the evening at 8 o'clock, when the forum, plaza, and channel were unlocked. After gathering 500 mist coins through trading, Zhang Jun successfully unlocked the team, and the others joined in succession. This morning at 8 o'clock, they resolved to convene at Wang Zi's sanctuary to deliberate on future developments and the functionality of their team. Bai Yi mused about the gathering capabilities of the team as he agreed to join, responding in the group chat. Zhang Jun invites you to join the unnamed team. Do you accept? Yes. Bai Yi has joined. Unnamed. Bai Yi. I was delayed by some matters, just finished. What has happened? Xiesu. Wang Zi's sanctuary is under siege by corrupted corpses. Bai Yi. Hold on, I will be there shortly. With a mere thought, the Tang Dao and revolver resting in his workspace were levitated by tendrils and brought before him. In the meantime, Bai Yi explored the newly unlocked team functionalities. Team. Unnamed members. Xiesu, Zhang Jun, Wang Zi, Tang Zheng, Li Zihua, Wei Fu and Mu Mu. Bai Yi. 810. Team skills. Unlocked. Members cannot inflict fatal damage on one another. Description. A well-rounded team configuration. Unlocks the Watchful Aid and the Portal Gate. Watchful Aid. Rational recovery speed increased by 10. Injury recovery speed accelerated by 5. Significant enhancement of psychological stability. Portal Gate. With consent, members can access each other's sanctuaries through the gate, with no limitations on usage. Teams can teleport to one another, and by extension, guilds should also be able to do so. Overall, this appears to be more advantageous than temporary teleportation scrolls. The system seems to favor player collaboration. Bai Yi contemplated as he stood before the newly appeared door in the hall. The portal gate was unremarkable, constructed from flesh and bone. And as he placed his hand upon the handle, the names of team members automatically materialized in his mind. Selecting Wang Zi, the opposite side immediately displayed that the request had been approved. Bai Yi swung the door open, revealing a dense white mist obscuring the view beyond. Xiaobai has arrived. Let us meet our teammates, Bai Yi announced, stepping into the fog. At that moment, within a sanctuary formed from intertwining plant roots, team members were scattered throughout the conference hall, some standing, some seated, some anxious, and others composed. Dog brother is here. Wang Zi suddenly raised her head, having just accepted Bai Yi's request to visit. In the next instant, the portal gate opened, and he emerged from within. The tall man stood like an unsheathed weapon. His black hair slightly disheveled, and beneath sharply defined brow bones glimmered 2 dark golden eyes, which seemed to harbor flames. 30 years had matured his visage. Replacing youthful softness with a steady demeanor, his slightly pallid skin was clad in a black tactical shirt. The rolled-up sleeves revealed his muscular forearms, and a silver revolver, glinting with metallic sheen and speckled with traces of blood, was tucked at one side of his combat trousers. In his right hand, he held the Tang Dao, straight as a ruler. Behind him, a white wolf appeared, slowly materializing. Its silver-white fur glistened with clarity, while its dark golden pupils resembled solidified metal. The powerful limbs supported a height nearly akin to that of a human. The slightly raised arcs at the joints of its claws exuded a palpable sense of strength. And even at rest, its tail maintained a vigilant, subtly arched posture. Tang Zheng stood in a daze, fixated on the sudden appearance of a man and a wolf, neglecting the cigarette that was perilously close to burning his fingers. The reactions of others were similarly astonished. It was no wonder, for Bai Yi's mature demeanor was indeed intimidating, emanating a sense of reassurance simply by standing there. Bai Yi briefly surveyed the individuals present, attempting to associate them with names that floated in his mind. Noticing Bai Yi's awkwardness, a composed middle-aged man with a well-maintained physique approached him, extending a hand. "Brother Dog, it's a pleasure to finally meet you. I am Zhang Zhen." Bai Yi reciprocated the gesture. Subsequently, Zhang Zhen began to introduce Bai Yi to the others. "This is Xie Su," he indicated a young man with an inexplicable smile. "This is Wei Fun," he gestured to a gentle woman. "This is Li Zihua," he pointed to a shy, somewhat reticent boy. "And this is Tang Zheng." He introduced the imposing figure of a muscular man standing at 190 centimeters. Lastly, "This is Mu Mu," he indicated a girl clutching a cup of water. As Zhang Zhen made the introductions, Bai Yi greeted each person in turn, accepting the cigarette that Zhang Zhen offered him. "You must be quite familiar with Wang Zi." Bai Yi nodded slightly, recognizing her as the one who had brought him into this situation. He had seen her likeness in the photos she sent during their conversations. After all introductions were complete, Zhang Zhen clapped his hands. "Xiao Wang, please explain the situation to Brother Dog." Wang Zi nodded, first sending Bai Yi a screenshot before recounting the events. "An hour ago, everyone arrived sequentially. Before we began, I took out the already planted cherry tomatoes and went outside the shelter to wash them. Tang Jing offered to help. But as soon as we stepped out of the shelter, we triggered an abnormal state, and the surrounding corpses surged towards us, overwhelming the shelter. This state persisted for 10 minutes, after which the number of corpses ceased to increase. Currently, over half of the corpses have wandered off, while others, drawn by the clustering phenomenon, continue to arrive, maintaining a dynamic count of 300 to 400 outside. Fortunately, Wang Zi upgraded to a special shelter, which allows us to absorb nutrients from the ground to restore the shelter's durability. Otherwise, we wouldn't have withstood the initial assault. However, the surrounding nutrients are nearly depleted, and these corpses persist in their relentless assault on the shelter. After grasping the situation, Bai Yi opened the log. Isolation, within 10 minutes. Surrounding anomalies can detect the player's location and pursue them. He checked the information panel, noting that the abnormal status, exile, had been triggered, while isolation had not. Just then, Wang Zi's anxious voice broke through. "Brother Dog, the shelter is about to collapse. Xiego said you have a solution." Noticing Bai Yi's gaze, Xiesu managed a somewhat awkward smile. "One person going out will not trigger autism," he added. Bai Yi nodded, producing a lighter and, with a hint of clumsiness, ignited a cigarette which he placed between his lips. Approaching the entrance of the shelter, he commanded, "Open the door, I shall go." Smoke billowed from Bai Yi's mouth and nose. "Eliminate them all." Chapter 22, Slaughter Outside. Hundreds of decaying corpses awaited. "Brother Dog, you and I shall go, Prince Yi. You are truly brave." Tang Zheng intended to advise Bai Yi to wait a moment, but Prince Yi had already obediently opened the shelter door. In an instant, the horde surged through the entrance. Bai Yi extended a hand, lightly tapping the forehead of the foremost corpse. "You have activated the large-scale flesh and bone transformation technique. Sanity 80. Warning, your sanity has fallen below 20. You are succumbing to madness and cognitive distortion. Exemption granted." The transformation initiated from Bai Yi's fingertips, as the bodies of the clustered corpses before him began to contort in unnatural ways. Subsequently, the brutal metamorphosis commenced. The blood and flesh of the corpses fused uncontrollably, transforming into a grotesque amalgamation. Flesh intertwined and then morphed into a stark, white skeletal structure. Within mere seconds, a twisted passageway of countless transformed bones materialized before Bai Yi. "Close the door tightly. Do not emerge," he instructed, inhaling deeply from the cigarette, the nicotine dulling his pain. Then, like a cannonball, he plunged into the horde of corpses. You behold the distorted skeletal structure. Sanity 2. Is this still humanity? Tang Zheng gazed at the skeletal corridor, where the faces of the corpses were faintly discernible, swallowing hard in disbelief. The others were no better off. Although Prince Yi believed Bai Yi would surely have a plan, the scene before them was overwhelmingly shocking. She opened her mouth to speak, but words failed her. Bai Yi's presence is our fortune, Zhang Zhen exclaimed. Bai Yi shielded his head with one hand as he crashed into the horde, the tremendous force shattering the corpses before him. At that moment, he found himself amidst the throng, surrounded by a relentless tide of decaying bodies. Maintaining his composure, he wielded his tang knife with precision, cleaving the approaching aberrations in twain with ease. Corpses continued to fall, yet the next moment brought an even greater wave of fearless attackers. Their simple minds harbored but one thought: to tear apart this human before them. Gradually, as the relentless onslaught continued, the spaces available for Bai Yi to evade grew increasingly scarce, and his body began to tire. This cannot continue. Brother Dog will be overwhelmed by the horde. Tang Zheng watched the unfolding chaos anxiously, pacing restlessly yet too fearful to step outside. Wei Fun, her expression filled with concern, gently urged, "Trust Brother Dog. If he dares to venture out alone, he must possess a means." With a decisive stroke, Bai Yi swung his tang knife. Yet it did not slice through the corpse as effortlessly as before. Instead, it became lodged in its neck. The continuous slaughter had left the blade marred with numerous nicks and imperfections. Bai Yi decisively released his grip and swiftly kicked the decaying corpse aside. Boiling blood. As the alchemy of flesh and blood commenced, Bai Yi's sanity plummeted to a mere 1, thereafter remaining unchanged. He disregarded the incessant warnings from the system. For at this moment, all his willpower was devoted to enduring the agony. The last remnants of smoke from his cigarette filled his lungs, and through the haze, the grotesque visage of the corpse, along with the system alerts, began to intertwine, only to be violently torn apart by him. Bai Yi's blood surged beneath his skin, simmering with fervor. He could even scent his flesh releasing the aroma of roasting meat under the intense heat. Lacking any weapon, he raised his hands. And with a mere touch of his fingers, the flesh and bones of 2 corpses morphed and transformed into 2 pale bone blades. The gusts generated by these bone blades as they slashed through the air ignited the remnants of the corpses, crafting a bizarre scarlet web of flames within the thick fog. The number of corpses diminished rapidly in the wake of Bai Yi's slaughter, and increasingly, more of them, including the mutated ones, diverted their attention from the shelter to pounce upon him. Suddenly, Bai Yi felt a gust of wind sweep past him, and in the next instant, he was sent hurtling backward as if struck by a tremendous force, crashing violently into the corpse behind him. Realizing the peril, he swiftly altered his hand position and spun his body with great intensity. The rapid rotation imbued the bone blades with formidable kinetic energy, cleaving through the encroaching corpses, severing them in twain. Bai Yi then adjusted his stance and landed gracefully on his feet. Yet, the moment his toes touched the ground, the sound of rushing wind returned. His pupils constricted to mere pinpoints, and at last, he discerned the appearance of his assailant, a grotesque corpse, its remarkably stout thighs constituting 80% of its form. This time, instead of delivering a simple punch, the corpse raised its elongated hand, intending to pierce directly through Bai Yi's body. Although Bai Yi's body could not match the speed of the corpse, his modified reflexes had already calculated the imminent point of attack. With a sharp crack, accompanied by the crisp sound of bone snapping, the mutated corpse's fingers were severed. In contrast, Bai Yi's abdomen revealed a ghastly white bony texture, having transformed the flesh into solid bone just before the assault. While this strike incapacitated one of the mutated corpse's hands, Bai Yi found himself at a disadvantage. Its speed was simply too swift. The instant the corpse vanished from his view, he shouted, "Xiao Bai!" A wolf's howl pierced through the mist, and to his astonishment, snowflakes began to gently descend within a 200-meter radius. Xiao Bai's golden wolf eyes ignited with a blinding brilliance, and the falling snowflakes, upon touching the corpses, did not melt into water but instead permeated their bodies. The remaining 100 or so corpses moved increasingly slowly, their surfaces rapidly encased in thick layers of ice. The long cry of the snowfield has commenced. Bai Yi's gaze was already fixed upon the mutated corpse. As his speed momentarily diminished, he sprang forth with a powerful leap, charging at the abomination with unrelenting ferocity. Without the slightest hint of mercy, his twin bone blades descended in a swift arc. The mutated corpse was cleaved into 3 segments. Collapsing onto the ground, Bai Yi knelt on one knee, the relentless use of alchemy exacting a tremendous toll on his psyche. Although his mind had been forcibly locked in rationality, the dual sensation of mental and physical rending intensified the suffering of Bai Yi, already tormented by his innate gifts. The number of corpses surrounding him had dwindled to under 100, while Xiao Bai's talent had activated for 30 seconds. To ensure Xiao Bai's safety, Bai Yi had stipulated that each activation of the talent would last for 100 seconds. With 70 seconds remaining, he resolved to conclude the battle. Without relying on his talents, Bai Yi had come to a clearer understanding of his limits in combat. From this point onward, he intended to hold nothing back. Steel Spine will activate. Steel Spine will activated. Current rationality 1100, gaining a threefold augmentation. Due to his rationality having plummeted to 1, Bai Yi spared himself the effort of actively deducting it. His attributes had surged to astonishing heights. Strength, 3012. Constitution, 3012, failing to reach 36. Bai Yi speculated that 30 might signify a new threshold. As his attributes skyrocketed, his physical resilience ascended to an unprecedented level. His spine emitted a metallic grinding sound, and sharp bony protrusions formed beneath his skin. A powerful force coursed from his spine throughout his entire being. With a subtle shift in his stride, Bai Yi's speed approached that of the recently encountered mutated corpse, moving so swiftly that a normal human eye could no longer perceive him. From the perspective of those within the shelter, Bai Yi first vanished from his original position. Then the surrounding corpses began to lose their heads, one after the other. The entire sequence resembled a silent performance, bloody, eerie, yet imbued with a peculiar aesthetic. In a mere half-minute, nearly 100 once vibrant corpses had been rendered headless. Thus, the 300 to 400 corpses that had caused immense trouble for Wang Zi's special shelter were entirely decimated by Bai Yi alone. Chapter 23. The elixir of rationality restoration. With the slaughter at an end, the snowflakes began to cease their descent. Outside the shelter, a scene of utter devastation unfolded. With severed limbs and dismembered corpses strewn about, occasionally interspersed with the twisted bones wrought by the alchemical arts. Thick, viscous blood had soaked the soles of his shoes. And the architect of this chaos was rummaging through the heaps of remains, occasionally lifting an arm or a leg. When Bai Yi returned to the entrance of the shelter, he cradled a collection of mutated organs from the corpses. These were the aberrant organs of the mutated corpses he had selected, due to the overwhelming disarray at the scene. He could not recover all the remains, but chose to gather a few significant specimens to take back for his shelter's nourishment. Unbeknownst to him, the scene he took for granted inflicted profound harm upon those within. Witnessing the macabre spectacle of a madman selecting dismembered limbs, Prince Yi felt her tongue twist in confusion. Internally, she screamed, "I knew it. From the moment the wolves had appeared, I sensed something was amiss. This individual is not quite right." The latter, feeling a twinge of guilt, nodded slightly. Suddenly, a series of knocks echoed through the air, causing everyone to shudder. They exchanged glances, each looking to Prince Yi for guidance. "Why are you all staring at me?" she muttered, her irritation rising. "Where is everyone?" "Prince Yi." Bai Yi's knocking grew more insistent, evolving into a frantic pounding. Believing that the occupants were in peril, he unsheathed his blade just as the door swung open. Inside and outside, they stared at one another in astonishment. Bai Yi casually discarded the bone knife he had just summoned, turning to enter the sanctuary. As he stepped inside, the overwhelming stench of blood surged in with him. Each person he passed instinctively stood at attention, and as he glanced at them with curiosity, he made his way to the portal, depositing the collected organs back into his refuge. Next, he approached Zhang Zhan, whose eyes were nearly shut from the acrid scent of blood. Resisting the urge to flee, Zhang Zhan looked at Bai Yi with a gentle demeanor. Bai Yi, slightly uncomfortable under the scrutiny that seemed to pierce his very essence, cleared his throat. "Cough, cough. Uncle Zhang, do you have any cigarettes?" "Oh, yes I do," Zhang Zhan replied with relief, producing a pack and offering it after a moment's hesitation. "Here, take the whole box." "Thank you, Uncle Zhang." Bai Yi reached out, but upon seeing the blood dripping from his hand, he hesitated and wiped it on his clothing. Unfortunately, the fabric was already soaked, and this action only resulted in more blood on his hands. Observing this, Zhang Zhan unhesitatingly pressed a cigarette into Bai Yi's palm. "Bai Yi, there's no need for such formality. Now that you're part of the team, we're all family." Bai Yi paused, nodding in acknowledgement before extracting a cigarette and accepting the flame Zhang Zhan offered. Their interaction eased the tension within the group, as everyone recognized that Bai Yi remained the same despite the circumstances, dispelling the earlier unease. However, their exchanges grew somewhat cautious. As the immediate danger subsided, the members began to deliberate their future plans. Bai Yi sat quietly, smoking in silence, the pain slightly alleviated by nicotine. His once ferocious golden eyes now appeared more tranquil under its soothing influence. The white wolf lay beside Bai Yi, its tail gently caressing him, seemingly attempting to alleviate his pain. Tang Zheng observed Bai Yi smoking one cigarette after another and was about to intervene when Li Zihua, standing nearby, restrained him. He then approached Bai Yi, inquiring, "Brother Bai, are you in considerable pain right now?" Bai Yi looked up in surprise at Li Zihua. "Although I am merely 19, both my parents are physicians. I advanced through the medical university and am now an intern in clinical medicine," Li Zihua explained. He proceeded to elaborate on some of Bai Yi's symptoms, concluding that he was enduring significant suffering. What could be the cause? At that moment, Li Zihua resembled the doctors Bai Yi had previously encountered. It was a matter of innate talent, coupled with a lack of rationality, resulting in pain. Faced with a professional, Bai Yi ceased to conceal his condition and spoke candidly. Li Zihua's expression turned to one of understanding, and he asked Bai Yi to wait while he dashed back to the shelter. Within moments, he returned, carrying a bowl and vigorously stirring its contents. Presenting it to Bai Yi. This is a rationality recovery elixir. Quality, premium. Description, gradually restores 30 points of rationality upon consumption. A novice's concoction for practice. Without hesitation, Bai Yi swallowed it whole, only to instinctively feel the urge to expel it the next second. Quick as a flash, Li Zihua pressed his hand over Bai Yi's mouth, exclaiming, "Brother Bai, this is quite expensive." Bai Yi rolled his eyes and forced the elixir down, then took several sips from the water that Siesu offered him. Rationality 70-100. Rationality 11100. Rationality 34100. As the pain dissipated, Bai Yi's taut nerves finally relaxed. A faint smile gracing his lips as he sincerely thanked Li Zihua, saying, "I am truly grateful." Li Zihua appeared somewhat bashful, scratching his head. No need for formalities. "Brother Bai, if thanks are due, they should go to Sister Wang. All the raw materials for this elixir were provided by her." Nearby, Wang Zi chuckled, "Big guy? Let me tell you, the vegetables and herbs in my shelter have been thriving. I'll bring you some fruit to taste later." Bai Yi shook his head with a smile, having noticed the shift in how everyone referred to him. He spoke up, "Since we are all part of the same team, there is no need for excessive formality. I am merely a few years older, so you may continue to call me dog brother. As for Uncle Zhang." Bai Yi glanced at Zhang Zhen, pausing briefly to swallow the words little dog and little white that almost escaped his lips. "You may call me Bai Yi. My wolf is named Little White." With the introductions and the changes in address among the group, a fundamental trust within this small team began to take shape. Wang Zi graciously suggested, "Let us head to the conference room and resume the meeting that was interrupted." "Indeed, time is of the essence," Zhang Zhen concurred. The conference room was located on the second floor, sparsely furnished. The walls were composed of hardened plant roots, and in the center stood a massive round table fashioned from solid wood. As the crowd settled in, Bai Yi stood by the window, gazing outside in a trance. "Dog brother, what are you looking at? Come sit down." Bai Yi turned his head, his face etched with a grave expression. "The fog has come." Noticing the puzzled looks from the others, he clarified, "The black fog." Chapter 24, A Brief Meeting, Part 1. With Bai Yi's words, everyone turned their gaze outside. They observed that the once dense white mist was now speckled with dots of black, which were visibly increasing in number. "Is that black fog?" Wang Zi asked hesitantly. "I don't know, but I'm afraid this is the danger we are about to confront." As the black fog continued to swell, Siesu silently calculated in his mind. In no more than 5 hours, the black fog will completely replace the white mist. "It seems we are running out of time." Hearing Siesu's words, Zhang Zhen's expression grew exceedingly grave. "However, we cannot forego this meeting. The establishment of our team requires certain rules, or we will inevitably become a burden." "Indeed," Bai Yi nodded in agreement. "It is now 11:17 a.m. Let us expedite our discussion and prepare ourselves accordingly afterward." The group nodded and swiftly took their seats. The previously relaxed atmosphere vanished, replaced by an undeniable tension and unease on each face. Everyone present recognized a crucial truth. The formation of the team did not guarantee their safety. The fog would relentlessly push players forward, and should they be caught, the price could very well be their lives. Surveying the expressions of his comrades, Zhang Zhen spoke up, "Let us keep things simple. We will primarily focus on 3 aspects: division of labor, trading, and information sharing. Let's begin with the division of labor. I will start. My shelter is a standard one, and my talent is resource gathering. I can provide a substantial amount of basic resources, along with some outdoor equipment and special items, though the latter depends on luck." After Zhang Zhen finished speaking, Li Zihua, seated to his left, chimed in, "My shelter is also a standard one, and my talent and specialty are related to medical care. I can only perform basic treatment for external injuries, and am currently researching some fundamental potions." As he spoke, he produced 2 types of potions, both of which Bai Yi recognized. They were the wound healing injection he had previously purchased from Wang Zi and the mental restoration elixir he had just consumed. Due to the abundance of raw materials, the injection has a considerable production rate, but its effectiveness diminishes for individuals with attributes exceeding 9 points. I am researching a higher quality injection and have made some progress. As for the mental restoration elixir, I just concocted it, and its production rate is quite low. I will continue to improve it to increase the yield as soon as possible. Listening to Li Zihua, Bai Yi nodded inwardly. Having a doctor in the team was indeed fortunate, and for Bai Yi, Li Zihua's mental potion would prove exceptionally beneficial. Upon reflection, Bai Yi spoke, My sanctuary possesses the ability to heal physical injuries. As long as one draws breath, revival is possible. After a brief pause, he continued, Zihua, you might consider developing some temporary restorative potions for emergencies. Additionally, I believe your primary focus should be on researching rational recovery drugs. The utilization of various skills and talents often demands a consumption of mental acuity, yet we remain unaware of how to enhance this capacity. Upon hearing Bai Yi's assertion regarding the healing capabilities of his sanctuary, Li Zihua's eyes gleamed with intrigue. Yet he recognized that this was not the moment for probing deeper. Understood, brother dog. I shall moderate my thoughts in this regard and endeavor to create a temporary injection to suppress wounds. Concurrently, I will devote more energy to researching mental acuity. As Li Zihua concluded his remarks, Wang Zi eagerly interjected, my sanctuary is called the Seed of Life. At present, it appears as a mere seed, yet to sprout. With my talent complementing my sanctuary, the herbs I cultivate are nearly ready for harvest every few days. I have already shared the specific types in the group. Feel free to reach out to me if you require any. Oh, and if you venture outside, do keep an eye out for plant seeds of any kind. I can provide them to you at cost once they yield produce. Following Wang Zi, Tang Zheng appeared somewhat bashful after hearing the previous speakers. As for me, my sanctuary is an ordinary one, and my talent lies in combat. He continued, I can only engage in fighting, and my attributes are merely approaching their limits, far from Brother Dog's prowess. As he spoke with diminishing confidence, he contemplated withdrawing from the team when Zhang Zhun interjected. Little Tang is a man of great loyalty, and with his background as a special forces soldier, he possesses abundant survival and combat experience. It is only after observing him for several days that I chose to invite him into our ranks. This statement highlighted Tang Zheng's strengths, effectively silencing his doubts. Special forces, you say? Then you must be particularly adept with firearms? Wei Fan inquired at this juncture. Tang Zheng replied somewhat glumly, yes, I was the best shot in our team and the most knowledgeable about firearms. However, we currently lack any weapons. In response, Wei Fan produced a blueprint. Tactical pistol blueprint quality, good durability, 12 description, a basic tactical pistol equipped with 7 rounds of ammunition. The pistol's firepower is limited, and with only 7 bullets, once they're expended, they cannot be replenished, she remarked. Gazing at the blueprint before him, Tang Zheng was overjoyed. Fear not. My talent is within firearms. I will not lack for ammunition. He then shared his ability in the group. Unlimited firepower, active consumes mental acuity to replenish bullets. The greater the mental expenditure, the more formidable the bullets become. 1 point of mental acuity equates to the lethality of a 7.62 caliber bullet. Such a powerful talent poses a significant threat to Bai Yi, should he acquire a firearm. The next individual to speak was Wei Fan, who had just provided the blueprint to Tang Zheng. She is a gentle woman. I am but an ordinary sanctuary, endowed with the talent of garment creation. I possess the ability to craft protective attire and transfer the skills of equipment. However, the latter does not guarantee a success rate of 100%. It depends on the compatibility between the 2 pieces of gear. The higher the compatibility, the greater the likelihood of success. Should anyone require my assistance, feel free to seek me out. Wei Fan spoke in a calm and measured tone, her demeanor unflustered even amidst perilous surroundings. Next was Xiesu, who spoke with slightly accelerated cadence. My unique sanctuary is called Yuxiang. As for its functionalities, I have yet to fully comprehend them and require further testing. My inherent talent can be considered a form of precognition. Despite Bai Yi's earlier suspicions, hearing Xiesu admit it left him somewhat incredulous. Could it truly be utilized at will? Xiesu offered a wry smile and shook his head, explaining that it was not currently usable. During a previous activation after the protection period ended, he had overheard certain things he should not have, drawing the attention of an imperceptible presence that nearly cost him his life. Yet, this misfortune led to a fortuitous outcome, as his mental limits were shattered and his rationality doubled. Imperceptible? Is it akin to the unseen? Are they of the same ilk? Upon hearing those words, Bai Yi fell into contemplation. No wonder you were silent for so long, Wang Zi mused. Would a breakthrough in mental capacity augment rationality? Xiesu shook his head, citing insufficient cases to determine whether it was mere coincidence or inevitability. Bai Yi recalled Xiao Bai, who had also surpassed mental limits, with a rationality score of 200. It must be inevitable. Xiao Bai too had transcended mental boundaries, achieving a high rationality. I am even inferior to a dog. In response, Tang Zheng, somewhat vexed, thumped his head. Owl. Oh well. Xiao Bai protested in discontent. However, Bai Yi's focus lay elsewhere, pondering Xiesu's words. Precognition, precognition. Have you glimpsed our future? What lurks within the black mist? What can be disclosed? You already know. That which cannot be spoken, inquiring will yield no fruit, Xiesu replied. lifting his gaze and fixing Bai Yi with an enigmatic stare, placing a finger to his lips. Knowledge is toxic, and prophecies can be fatal. Chapter 25. A Brief Conference. Part 2. Bai Yi fell silent, his dark golden pupils flickering with uncertain light. It was Muumuu's turn to speak. She appeared to be a shy young girl, rarely seen engaging in conversation, quietly sipping water on the sidelines. Noticing the silence, she mustered her courage and said, "My sanctuary is an ordinary one, and my talent allows me to enchant equipment, bestowing an additional skill upon it." Upon finishing, Muumuu seemed to feel liberated and took a sip of water. What a formidable ability. "Muumuu, are you quite thirsty, drinking so much water?" Li Zihua, who had been silent, suddenly remarked, observing her with the cup in hand. "It's nothing, Zihua, just water. I have plenty here. Muumuu, feel free to drink as much as you like," Wang Zi declared with generosity. At this moment, Bai Yi remained oblivious to these thoughts. His exterior was calm, yet tumultuous waves surged within him. He cast a glance at Zhang Zhan. Was his fortune truly so remarkable? The individuals he recruited seemed to possess redeeming qualities, forming a team that appeared nearly flawless, with each member complementing the others perfectly. How had Zhang Zhan achieved this? As if he had foreseen their talents. A sudden flash of insight struck Bai Yi. He slightly turned his head, his peripheral vision catching sight of another individual. If the ability to foresee the future belonged to Xiesu, everything would make sense. What an astonishing gift. One could only wonder how much he truly comprehended. "Brother Dog, it's your turn." Wang Zi's voice jolted Bai Yi back to reality. Now, it was his moment, the last one to present. Special shelter, flesh and bone nest. A functional shelter that can record crafting blueprints, proactively synthesize equipment, and boasts a quality of excellence. It can enhance the quality of weapons, also up to excellence. The only drawback is that the weapons are made from flesh and bones. It can perform external injury treatments and bodily modifications. The treatments have been previously mentioned. While modifications can transcend human limits, with the current limit being a strength and physique of 12 points. After a brief pause, Bai Yi added, "It can also synthesize various animal-flavored meat patties." Upon his words, a profound silence ensued. Everyone was rendered speechless, astonished by the formidable capabilities of Bai Yi's shelter. Each feature, when considered in isolation, was remarkably practical. Such abilities, Bai Yi possessed a total of 4, or rather 5, if one considers food as a category. Zhang Zhan, somewhat taken aback, rubbed his forehead. Creating, enhancing equipment, healing, and bodily modification. What an extraordinary shelter. He then turned to Tang Zhong, saying, "Xiao Tang, why not give the blueprint to Brother Dog? Let him assist you in crafting a fine-quality pistol. You can negotiate the price among yourselves." Hiss. Xiesu could not help but gasp. A modification that breaks limits. "Brother Dog, is your current strength and attribute indeed at 12 points? Bai Yi accepted the blueprint handed to him by Tang Zhong, nodding. Yes, this limit should increase with the shelter's upgrades. He then continued, "If anyone does not mind products made from flesh, I can accept blueprints of fine quality or lower. And I will provide you with the corresponding quantity of durable weapons and maintenance services at no charge. Bullets can also be supplied," Bai Yi added, addressing Tang Zhong. Li Zihua, intrigued by the modifications, inquired, "Brother Dog, can other players also undergo modifications?" "Indeed," Bai Yi replied affirmatively, observing the excited expressions of the crowd. However, he doused their enthusiasm with a dose of reality. The costs of modifications are quite expensive. Merely enhancing a single attribute requires dozens of corrupted corpses. The higher the attribute, the steeper the price. And this is merely the cost price. Furthermore, at present, I require a substantial amount of flesh and bones to upgrade the shelter. I currently lack excess resources for modifications or equipment crafting. After a moment of contemplation, Bai Yi added, "However, if you are in a hurry, you may come to my place for an examination to ascertain the costs. You can then procure the necessary materials for the modifications. I will not charge any additional fees for the equipment fabrication. As for the materials, any fresh corpses with flesh and bones will suffice." The group understood, and it became clear why Bai Yi was so fervently interested in the organs of the deceased. Once everyone had introduced themselves, Zhang Zhan clapped his hands and spoke. "We are now acquainted with each other's specialties. Should any issues arise, feel free to discuss them privately. Now, let us address the second matter, trade. As you can see, each of us possesses unique skills, but within a small team, direct demands can often lead to unfairness. The most valuable assets are those that are given freely. Therefore, even within our team, unless in exceptional circumstances, we should refrain from relying on one another for free resources, as this is fundamentally unhealthy. My suggestion is that internal transactions should be conducted at a rate of 60% of the plaza's trading value." As soon as Zhang Zhan finished speaking, Tang Zhong chimed in. "Uncle Zhang is right. We cannot offer assistance without compensation, or I would be taking undue advantage of everyone, which weighs heavily on my conscience. He then turned to Wei Fun and asked, Sister, what is the price for your schematics? I will settle the payment with Miss Coins later. Wei Fun smiled and waved her hand. I agree with Brother Zhang's sentiments, but let this take effect after the meeting concludes. Otherwise, if we were to recount the exchanges from before, it could take us a day and a night. The others nodded in agreement. Then it is settled. As for the final matter, it pertains to information sharing. I hope that everyone will keep the group informed of any news or discoveries to minimize the risks of information gaps leading to casualties. As he spoke the last sentence, Zhang Zhun cast a significant glance at Xiesu. The latter raised his hands and smiled wryly. I have said all I can, and I have been quite cautious. If I were to divulge anything I shouldn't, we would not just face casualties, we could face complete annihilation. Hearing this, Zhang Zhun shook his head in resignation. Let us not dwell on that. Instead, let us conduct a basic exchange of information. With that, he uploaded all the data from his journal regarding the aberrant entities and unusual states. The others followed suit. After sharing, Bai Yi noted that while the unusual states were all the same, there was one new piece of information regarding an aberration. Decaying mire gazer, a mass of bulbous eyeballs protruding from the swamp, covered in a tar-like membrane. Gazing upon it induces muscular fibrosis. This was the aberration encountered by Wang Zi upon her arrival, which she dispatched with a swift stomp while her eyes were closed. Li Zihua's voice broke the silence once more. Moo, did you not encounter that bizarre yet feeble aberration when you first arrived? Startled by the mention of his name, Moo instinctively sat up straight, gripping his cup tightly. And no, I listened to Brother Xie and upgraded the moment I had the chance. Oh, at this point, Xiesu also sensed something amiss. Typically silent Li Zihua seemed to be interrogating Moo today. Xiesu and Li Zihua exchanged a swift glance, and in that fleeting moment, Xiesu discerned the profound worry etched in Li Zihua's eyes. Is there an issue with Moo? Xiesu mused inwardly. Yet he maintained an impassive facade as he took the initiative in the conversation. Moo, your reactions are rather swift. Moo's complexion flushed crimson in an instant. Her voice barely above a whisper. I warn you, Xie Dog, do not tease Moo. Wang Zi threatened with a fierce intensity. Understanding the gravity of the situation, Xiesu gracefully withdrew, signaling Li Zihua with a glance, entrusting the matter to him. Ahem, well then, we have concluded our discussions. Let us promptly attend to our own affairs, for the encroaching dark mist shall not linger for our convenience, Zhang Zhun declared, clapping his hands. Wait. Our team has yet to be named. Tang Zheng's words halted the group. A name? Indeed, what are your thoughts? Dawn Squad, Wang Zi exclaimed, her fist clenched in excitement. Daybreak? Li Zihua suggested. Apocalypse Iron Fist, Tang Zheng proclaimed, raising his thumb. Ahem, how about Survival Squad? Zhang Zhun proposed dryly. Return through the mist. May we survive to find our way back to our homeland, Wei Fun offered. Echoes of ashes, Xiesu added, signifying the faint reverberations left by the mist. Persistent and resounding. I will defer to everyone's opinion. Moo looked at the expectant gazes around her. Bai Yi remained silent for a long while before finally uttering two words, loneliness. All right, I find Xie Dog's name quite appealing. Wang Zi deftly alleviated Bai Yi's discomfort. The others nodded in agreement, with Bai Yi displaying the most resolute affirmation. You have renamed the group chat to Echoes of Ashes. Thus, let us hope that Echoes of Ashes endures, leaving behind our faint reverberations. Let us persevere. Together. In unison, Chapter 26, Parasitic Variant Demon. As the meeting concluded, Wang Zi began to clear away the decaying corpses outside the shelter. Sister Wang, allow me to assist you, Moo volunteered, stepping forward. Little Moo. You cannot take this from me. It was my departure from the shelter that precipitated the corpse attack, Tang Zheng hurriedly interjected, his guilt weighing heavily upon him. However, Moo, do not compete with Tang Zheng. Let him atone, Xiesu remarked, having quietly appeared behind her. He then guided Moo towards Bai Yi. Come, let us accompany Brother Xie and Brother Zihua to the Dog Brother for some testing, to ascertain the enhancement costs and strengthen ourselves as soon as possible. Bai Yi was already at the entrance, accompanied back to the shelter by Li Zihua, Xiesu, and the gently guided Moo. Among them, Li Zihua and Moo were simply there for testing, while Xiesu had coordinated with Bai Yi to trigger loneliness. Bai Yi aimed to gather more flesh and bone in the limited time remaining, as he was about to depart. Bai Yi pointed towards the myriad of fireflies dancing within the sanctuary and inquired, May I take a few with me? Of course, that is no problem. At 12:45 p.m., the mist outside had transformed into a shade of darkness. Bai Yi returned to the sanctuary, soon followed by Xiesu and a few others who entered through the portal. You observe the animated flesh and bones. Rationality 3. Su and Li Zihua stood transfixed before the sanctuary, which was comprised of blood and bone. The delicate tendrils sprawling across the fleshy carpet beneath them rendered them hesitant to step forward. Ah! Moo emitted a shriek, turning to flee. No, it's all right. Do not be afraid. It is non-aggressive. Come inside, Bai Yi reassured, demonstrating his words by stepping firmly onto the flesh carpet. The tendrils stretched out in a seemingly affectionate manner, entwining around Bai Yi's ankles. Witnessing this spectacle, Moo nearly fainted from fear, while Su's expression was no less troubled. Quickly retracted. You frightened them, Bai Yi admonished softly. After initially being taken aback, Li Zihua soon accepted the bizarre setting, crouching down with keen interest to touch the tendrils on the carpet. Incredible. How does it move? Is there a nervous system within? Can it feel? A barrage of questions left Bai Yi at a loss for answers. He could only divert the topic forcefully, leading the trio to the modification chamber to check the costs. As they proceeded, Li Zihua wandered curiously, occasionally reaching out to touch this and that. Once Su discerned that the tendrils posed no threat, he too relaxed. Only Moo remained, huddled behind Su, eyes tightly shut, murmuring, Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid, they are non-aggressive. They soon arrived at the modification chamber, with Su and Li Zihua being the first to begin testing. Just as Bai Yi was preparing to start, his log vibrated, and Su sent a message. Su, could we make the testing process a bit more complicated? Ideally. A deep scan would be best. Bai Yi felt a stir of intrigue within, though his expression remained inscrutable. He understood that Su's request was not without purpose. There had to be some ulterior motive behind it. Casting a glance at Su and Li Zihua, whose expressions had turned serious, Bai Yi noted their furtive glances towards Moo, who still kept her eyes tightly shut. Bai Yi grasped the unspoken understanding and proceeded with the modification process as planned. Li Zihua reclined on the operating table, watching as it gradually elevated, the surrounding flesh membranes unfurling, followed by the infusion of nutrient solution and the emergence of the mask. Such a grand display, Li Zihua remarked, directing a teasing look at Bai Yi, who affirmed with a nod. Very well. Observing the tendrils writhing within the mask, Li Zihua inhaled deeply before placing it upon his head. The spectacle had reached a significant juncture. Bai Yi glanced at Su, who discreetly gave him a thumbs up. The remaining task was to assess physical attributes and evaluate the modification costs. The measurements of Strength 79, Constitution 73, perfectly aligned with the data provided by Li Zihua. The assessment concluded swiftly, followed by a notification. This modification consumes 1,600 flesh and 800 bones. After receiving the exact costs, Li Zihua expressed his gratitude to Bai Yi and subsequently stepped aside. Next was Moo, who hesitated, saying, Can I skip the test? I don't wish to undergo it. We must all be tested. Dog Brothers modification is currently the fastest method of enhancement. In the Misty realms, possessing even a modicum of strength increases the likelihood of survival. Su proclaimed with noble conviction. All right, fine. Moo obediently ascended the surgical table. As before, the table elevated, the flesh membrane descended, the nutrient solution was infused, and the mask was donned. Now we can talk, right? What's wrong with Moo? Why are you two so wary of her? Bai Yi inquired after Moo lost consciousness beneath the mask. I don't know, Su replied, shaking his head. Don't know? Bai Yi raised an eyebrow. Su gestured with his eyes for Li Zihua to elucidate the reason. Li Zihua stroked his chin, stating, Although this is our first encounter, her behavior is no different from what I've observed in the group, except for her excessive water consumption. Drinking water? In stressful situations? It is indeed a beneficial way to alleviate anxiety, isn't it? Bai Yi questioned, noting Moo's apparent timidity. That is true, but she drinks far too much. Li Zihua explained. He was the first to arrive at Wang Zi's sanctuary, with Moo being the second. Since her arrival, she had been incessantly consuming water. By normal standards, an individual requires merely a few liters of water per day. However, since entering the sanctuary, Li Zihua had observed her ingesting approximately 20 to 30 liters. Due to the unusual circumstances, others had not noticed this anomaly, but Li Zihua's understanding of the human body prompted him to keep a watchful eye on her behavior. Bai Yi nodded in understanding and then turned to Su, asking, Did you foresee anything? No, I truly cannot utilize my abilities at the moment. Su replied with a wry smile. However, upon Li Zihua's observation, it is indeed evident that Moo has been persistently drinking. Dog brother, can you investigate her body? Are you suggesting that Moo is parasitized? I am uncertain. Bai Yi refrained from further inquiries and controlled the tendrils within the mask. As a minuscule eye opened at the tip of a tendril, the appendage then began to navigate through Moo's body, transmitting images from various regions via neural cells to the screen. As the visuals evolved, the expressions of Bai Yi, Su, and Li Zihua grew increasingly grave. Upon reaching Moo Moo's brain, even Bai Yi could not suppress a gasp. The once pink human brain had vanished, replaced by a multitude of translucent worms, crowded together. Writhing in the dim light, Li Zihua and Xie Su stood in silence, their expressions betraying their turmoil. From the moment they met, Moo Moo had appeared untroubled. Yet unbeknownst to them, her mind had been devoured by the alien creature. It was not that Moo Moo had evaded danger, she had perished long before this encounter. The entity they communicated with was the alien brain-sucking slug. Chapter 27. Solitude. Moo Moo had died, a fact beyond dispute. A shy young girl had met her in the very moment the novice protection period concluded. The proximity to death stirred profound emotions within Bai Yi. This was not a mere game. In reality, death was absolute and final. Xie Su and Li Zihua were struck harder by this tragedy, burdened with guilt. For Moo Moo had been the last member to join their team. Despite their brief time in the Misty Land, a deep camaraderie had formed among them. Brother Dog, do you think I have protected them too well? Xie Su spoke, his tone tinged with bitterness. Yes, Bai Yi replied without hesitation. Not just Moo Moo, in my eyes. Wang Zi, Zhang Jun, Wei Fan, and both of you lack a reverence for the Misty Land, a sense of impending danger. Your talents have led you to navigate the novice phase with ease, but now, as Xie Su's abilities become less reliable, your carelessness has been laid bare. With eyes reddened, Xie Su reflected, those embroiled in the chaos are often blinded to the truth, while onlookers see clearly. Brother Dog, you are right. We must actively seek out danger to survive. Otherwise, it is only a matter of time before we succumb to this bizarre Misty Land. He turned away, unable to bear the sight of the writhing alien within Moo Moo's mind. We have shared much, Brother Dog. Thank you for your words. Please grant Moo Moo peace. I will address her situation in the group chat. With that, Xie Su took the silent Li Zihua by the hand, and they departed the transformation chamber. As Bai Yi exited, he found the two seated on a grotesque sofa, their heads bowed in silence. He had already gleaned the messages from the group chat. Wang Zi was inconsolable. She did not blame Li Zihua for failing to discern the danger sooner, instead reminiscing about the days when she and Moo Moo had supported each other through the logs, as if wishing to keep the timid girl alive in the hearts of her teammates. Beyond this, the chat remained eerily quiet, everyone engulfed in melancholy. Bai Yi uploaded an image and description of the alien, brain-sucking slug, a translucent mollusk that infiltrates the host's brain via the ear canal, gradually consuming the host's mind and taking its place. After sending the message, he refrained from engaging them and instead ventured to the kitchen to fetch 2 pieces of steak. Let us eat. We have important matters to attend to soon. The two looked up at the appetizing steaks, accepted them, and began to eat heartily. Thank you, Brother Dog. By the way, where did you get this beef? It is not beef, but rather beef-flavored meat patties. Oh, is it not beef? It resembles carrion. Xie Su paused, glancing at the equally ravenous Li Zihua and the merely observant Bai Yi. Aren't you eating? I just finished. Li Zihua appeared oblivious to their conversation, his focus solely on the meat patties, the rising steam masking his reddened eyes. Ha! Xie Su initially chuckled coldly before bursting into hearty laughter. Ha! Bai Yi remained silent, quietly observing the two. After a while, Xie Su finally ceased his laughter, wiping away the tears it had brought forth. Truly, Dog Brother, you possess profound insight. In this absurd world, who cares about the nature of the meat? The mere fact that there is food is a blessing. He then resumed eating, intermittently jotting notes in his journal. Bai Yi, unperturbed by these matters, felt a twinge of emotion at the reduction of their ranks, yet remained resolute in his objectives. As for the other teammates, he had faith that Xie Su and Li Zihua would relay the necessary information. Although his current companions seemed somewhat inexperienced, Bai Yi believed that once they fully acclimatized to the foggy lands, they would become formidable allies. At 13:35 in the afternoon, the black mist had spread considerably. After replenishing their food supplies, Li Zihua bid farewell to the two and returned to the shelter, while Bai Yi and Xie Su approached the entrance. Dog Brother, I have comprehensively outlined the general effects of autism. I primarily wish to ascertain the specific range of its activation. Let me go first, maintaining a certain distance from the shelter. Afterward, you can emerge, and I will return, thus allowing us to confirm the approximate range. Dog Brother, allow me to proceed. I can measure the precise distance. I have undergone relevant training, and my wingspan has been calibrated, with my stride fixed. Amidst a flurry of explanations, Bai Yi grasped only a fraction, yet the scene felt eerily familiar, as if he had experienced it before. What is your forum name? Unperceived, Bai Yi suddenly realized that Xie Su was the player who had measured the duration of dawn by his heartbeat. Subsequently, he acquiesced to Xie Su's proposal and invited Xiao Bai to accompany him. In the thick fog, Xiao Bai could serve as a danger alert. Bai Yi, meanwhile, remained quietly in the shelter. Shortly, Xie Su sent a message. Dog Brother, I am now 300 meters from the shelter. You may come out. Upon hearing this, Bai Yi stepped outside. Nothing occurred in his status bar, and autism did not trigger. After informing Siesu, he began to retrace his steps. 250 meters, 200 meters. 150 meters, 100 meters. Suddenly, the words autism appeared quietly in the status bar. Bai Yi felt as though he were being scrutinized by countless eyes. An unsettling sensation enveloping him. In the distance, Siesu had already returned, and Bai Yi swiftly pulled him into the shelter. Dog brother. Understood. Bai Yi comprehended Siesu's intentions and ventured outside once more, returning to pull Siesu out again. Siesu complied throughout the ordeal, as decaying corpses began to approach. After the experimentation had nearly concluded, Siesu returned while Bai Yi stepped out of the shelter. He aimed to enhance the shelter's flesh and bone value before the corpses could form a horde, just to be safe. Current flesh, 8,031,000. Bone, 10,281,000. The foremost decaying corpse charged towards Bai Yi, who did not hold back and unleashed his full firepower. Blood boiling. Bai Yi's blood surged once more as he reached out to touch the approaching corpse. You have used the flesh and bone conversion technique. Rationality. 12. The decaying body began to twist, stretch, and reshape, transforming into a white bone broadsword. Bai Yi leapt forth, his boiling blood leaving a crimson trail in the mist, as he ruthlessly cleaved through the oncoming corpses. As he executed his efficient slaughter, the blood and flesh mycelium on the ground busily collected the remains of the corpses. The killing was brief, as the corpses surged like a tide. Bai Yi retreated back into the shelter. Bai Yi. Health. Age. 30. Strength. 12. Spirit. 91. Constitution. 12. Psychology. Greed 72. 100. Rationality. 33. 100. Abnormal status. My heart is at ease. Insulation barrier. Lament of the dead. Solitude syndrome. 949. In a mere 11 seconds, Bai Yi had returned. And the shelter was now completely inundated with corpses, even the roof crawling with them. Current flesh, 11,091,000. Bone, 11,811,000. The recently supplemented 30-odd corpses' flesh and bone began to diminish slowly under the tide. Bai Yi stood silently until every inch of the shelter was overrun with corpses before coldly uttering, "Crush them." Chapter 28. Exploiting the bug as Bai Yi's words resonated. The entire shelter began to gather power. A series of swift sounds echoed. The skeletal walls and ceiling of the shelter erupted with sharp bone spikes. The horde of corpses piled upon the shelter was instantly pierced, resembling a honeycomb. Subsequently, the bone spikes slowly retracted, causing the corpses to tumble to the ground. Soon after, the mycelium blanket surrounding the shelter stealthily extended its tendrils, pulling the bodies underground to transport them to the digestive chamber. Current flesh, 11,091,000. Bone, 8,811,000. This strike consumed a total of 300 points of bone, equivalent to the skeletal remains of 60 corpses. However, the number of fallen corpses exceeded 600 or 700. In other words, this single strike yielded by E6,000 points of flesh and 3,000 points of bone, a transaction that was undoubtedly profitable compared to the previous losses. Siesu stood by, munching on snacks. Initially, he intended to leave after acquiring the data, but Bai Yi intercepted him, as he was not inclined to settle for a mere fleeting gain. "Brother dog, are you not afraid of attracting something formidable with your current approach?" he inquired. "I have previously surveyed the surroundings and encountered only rotting corpses, not even a hint of the thousand-throat shadow. From my observations, others have experienced the same predicament. I surmise that the difficulty within the Misty realm escalates gradually, implying that before the complete descent of the black mist, more perilous aberrations are unlikely to manifest. This also suggests that once the black mist fully envelopes us, the situation may become exceedingly hazardous, justifying this mechanism. It is an opportunity prepared for us by the system." As he spoke, Bai Yi glanced out the window. The corpses that had just been cleared were now threatening to inundate the sanctuary once more. These are merely my conjectures. The autism phenomenon may indeed attract even more fearsome aberrations. However, to survive, one must embrace a modicum of risk, correct? Indeed, Siesu concurred. "I share your perspective, brother dog. Thus, I shall risk my life and camaraderie. You shall not be treated unfairly," Bai Yi replied with a smile, then gestured toward the reclimbing corpses, summoning forth the bone spikes once again. For a full 10 minutes, Bai Yi diligently repeated this process. Initially, he monitored the sanctuary's panel to ensure that the flesh and bone reserves did not dwindle excessively. However, as the numbers rose, he shifted his focus to the workshop to commence crafting weapons. During this interval, Siesu took the opportunity to thoroughly clarify the triggering conditions for autism and has subsequently shared the information in the group, Autism, within 10 minutes. Surrounding aberrations can detect the player's location and pursue them, range of 100 meters. If players are more than 100 meters apart or within the sanctuary, it will not trigger. If outside the sanctuary and within 100 meters, it will trigger continuously. If players separate or enter the sanctuary during this time, a 10-minute countdown will commence. When the autism timer expired, Bai Yi ventured out to clear the battlefield. Armed with a knife, he systematically dispatched the corpses that had not yet perished, subsequently transporting them with the flesh and bone carpet. During this process, possibly due to the sheer number of rotting corpses he had slain, Bai Yi experienced a fleeting moment of dizziness, a peculiar color momentarily appearing in his vision before vanishing. He paid no heed to such trivialities and continued collecting the heads of the corpses. The cleanup lasted about 10 minutes, and by this time, Bai Yi's sanctuary reserves had reached current flesh, 6,121,000, bone, 2,818, 11,000. With this wave, Bai Yi found himself no longer lacking in flesh or bones, including everything necessary for upgrades, all amassed. Yet, he did not pause. He aimed to maximize his efforts before the black mist fully descended. Thus, with the autism phenomenon triggering anew, another wave of corpses surged forth. At 1502, after 3 waves of autism, Bai Yi chose to cease his endeavors. It was not reluctance that halted him, but rather the encroaching density of the black mist. It was barely 3 in the afternoon, yet the outside world was becoming increasingly indistinct. Bai Yi was engaged in the task of processing corpses, not out of a desire for peril, but rather to amass resources swiftly. Given the current circumstances, it was imperative to embark on other endeavors. Siesu had returned to his shelter a mere 10 minutes prior. Before his departure, Bai Yi had bestowed upon him a tactical handgun, accompanied by 500 rounds of ammunition, a bone dagger, and a bone pickaxe, all newly crafted as a token of gratitude for Siesu's assistance. Within the workshop at that moment, 9 bone pickaxes and 9 bone daggers were displayed, along with a handgun intended for Tangzhong, which also came with 500 rounds of ammunition. These were exquisite weapons. Bone pickaxe, materials, 75 flesh, 100 bones, quality, exquisite durability, 100, reparable in the workshop. Description: a pickaxe forged from unknown bones, possessing a 50 chance of doubling resource drops when excavating. Bone dagger, materials, 100 flesh, 200 bones, quality, exquisite durability, 100, reparable in the workshop. Description: a dagger crafted from unknown bones, inflicting a bleeding effect upon striking a target, rendering healing potions ineffective for 10 minutes. Flesh tactical handgun, materials, 200 flesh, 150 bones, quality, exquisite durability, 77. The durability of firearms denotes the number of bullets. Description: a flesh handgun that induces madness at a mere glance. The magazine is a dimensional one, capable of holding 28 bullets. Upon striking a target, the bullet proliferates, inflicting secondary damage, 1 bone per bullet. Among these weapons, Bai Yi intended to retain only 1 bone dagger and 1 bone pickaxe, opting to sell the remainder, most of which had already been pre-ordered by team members. He glanced at the revolver currently undergoing modification, countdown, 254, before checking his reserves. Current flesh, 188, 0051, 000, bones, 791, 000. The upgrade conditions had been met, yet due to the workshop being in use, an upgrade was not feasible. Bai Yi awaited the completion of the revolver's transformation. The Shepherd's Mercy, damaged, had aided Bai Yi on numerous occasions. Without its support in the early stages, he would have struggled to acquire sufficient flesh and would have had to rely solely on wild fruits for sustenance. However, for Bai Yi now, the revolver's utility was diminishing, primarily due to the limitations on ammunition. Each firing was capped at 4 shots, and generating a single bullet required an hour. These constraints rendered the revolver akin to a delicacy that was unsatisfying yet regrettable to discard. Thus, once his reserves were ample, Bai Yi opted for modification. While the quality of the equipment would not change, he anticipated no longer having to worry about ammunition for flesh and bone products. As he pondered, Bai Yi dispatched the gear ordered by his teammates. Shortly thereafter, they reciprocated with their rewards. Bai Yi glanced at the offerings: 10 pounds of vegetables, 3 spirit rice grains, 2 bottles of rationality recovery potion, and 700 mist coins. Discounted at 40. Original price: pickaxe 500, Tang Dao 700, handgun 500. Bullets 2. Uncertain of what lurked within the black mist, Bai Yi prudently reserved some mist coins for unforeseen circumstances. After placing the acquired items into storage, the modification of the revolver was complete. The once silver body had transformed into a pallid hue, The grip crafted from flesh felt chillingly cool to the touch, providing an exquisite sensation. Blood-red patterns were etched along the barrel, and the previously blocked 5 chambers had been cleared, now cradling 10 tranquil bullets. Shepherd's Mercy, modified, quality, exquisite durability, 1010 description, a powerful revolver reborn. Automatically generates 1 bullet per hour. Upon striking a target, the bullet proliferates, inflicting secondary damage. Each shot has a 5 chance to trigger a tormenting wail, immobilizing the target for 1 second. 10 bones for 1 bullet. Chapter 29. The Descent of the Black Mist. Bai Yi sheathed the revolver, thoroughly pleased with the modifications that addressed all its shortcomings. After wrapping up his tasks, he dared not delay further and proceeded to upgrade the shelter. Would you like to upgrade the shelter? Yes. As the values of flesh and bones diminished, the nest began to contract, tendrils infiltrating various rooms, and the skeletal walls grew increasingly robust. Pressing his ear against the surface, he could hear the continuous flow of flesh within the walls. Flesh-woven bone nest, ovum, level 7, flesh, 1780-051-0000, bones, 740-801-0000, capacity, 2, 52,300,000, traits, flesh, bone, upgrade requirements, flesh, 1, 78,150,000, bones, 740,000,100,000, facilities, workshop, modification room, digestion chamber, kitchen, bedroom, bathroom, storage room, water storage. Flesh, fungus mat. Description, maintain your distance unless you wish to engage in bondage play. Workshop upgrade, increases equipment crafting speed and quantity. Modification room upgrade, raises modification limit to 15 points. Organ slots 1. The genes of powerful beings can enhance the modification limit. This upgrade did not yield any significant changes, merely a routine enhancement. As for level 8, while Bai Yi possessed ample flesh, he had no immediate intention to upgrade, primarily due to a considerable deficit in bone value and the necessity to retain some reserves. Unbeknownst to him, the time had slipped to 1606. Gazing out the window, he noticed that the white mist had completely transformed into black fog. With a thought, the shelter's ceiling emitted a gentle white light, a luminescent organ he had brought back from Wangzi. The illumination brightened the shelter. Yet when the light penetrated the black mist, it elicited no response, as if even light were devoured by the darkness. Bai Yi did not hasten to the transformation room. Instead, he was consumed by an urgent curiosity regarding the nature of the black mist. Approaching the window, he scrutinized the dark haze. Perhaps it was merely an illusion. Yet he sensed that the mist possessed a semblance of life, gradually encroaching upon the shelter. No, it was not an illusion. The black mist was indeed drawing closer to the refuge. Bai Yi's expression grew grave, and an ominous premonition swelled within him, leaving him in a state of profound discomfort as he found himself devoid of any means to counter it. At last, the black mist made contact with the bone-like walls, adhering to them as if it were sticky. Subsequently, a warning alert from the log resonated. Bai Yi quickly checked the status, observing a gradual decline in the shelter's flesh and bone durability. Current flesh, 1780-051-0000, bone, 740-801-0000. The deterioration was exceedingly slow, and Bai Yi remained calm. He accessed his personal information panel, glancing at the abnormal status section. Bai Yi, healthy, abnormal status. My heart is at ease, lament of the departed, insulation of the guardian. Corruption of darkness. Indeed, Bai Yi's suspicions were confirmed. The initial peril brought by the black mist did not stem from unknown aberrations, but rather from these peculiar abnormal statuses. Corruption of darkness. The rate of decay for all food within the black mist is increased by 200%, and the mist will erode the shelter at a percentage rate. The higher the level, the slower the erosion. Level 6, 10 per hour. Level 7, 5 per hour. Level 8, 1 per hour. Level 9, immune. Bai Yi felt a chill. This was undoubtedly a lethal abnormal status for players. Although durability could be restored through various means after reaching level 6, the despairing truth was that no one knew how long the black mist incident would persist. No amount of resources could withstand prolonged consumption, let alone the fact that corruption of darkness would also affect players. Contemplating this, Bai Yi opened the team chat. And as expected, Xiaosu had provided more detailed data. Players could withstand the black mist corrosion for a maximum of 1 minute. It was foreseeable that in the days to come, the cost of the rough iron needed to repair ordinary shelters would soar. With the time-limited opening of forums and squares, one could only speculate how many players would perish in despair. Bai Yi shook his head. Although his special shelter did not rely on such resources, and he had stored an abundance of durability during the final preparation phase, in the unending black mist, where players were confined, it was merely a matter of delaying death. However, I refused to believe that the system would offer no opportunities for players. There must be corresponding measures in place. Bai Yi pondered, and at that moment, the log updated with a series of notifications. 1 event. The black mist has descended. 2 wild treasure chests are about to refresh. Countdown. 11:59. 59. 3. The concept of day and night has been eroded. The Misty Land enters eternal night. 4. System mall updated. 5 players, please explore on your own. It has begun. Upon reviewing the update, Bai Yi did not hesitate and navigated to the system store in the square. System store. 1. Permanent teleportation scroll, 100 mist coins. 2. Temporary teleportation scroll, 200 mist coins. Shields against curses such as the loner for a duration of 10 hours. 3. Sanctuary fusion scroll, 10,000 mist coins, once fused. Will be immune to the curse of loneliness. 4. Weak candlelight, 100 mist coins, once ignited, can dispel the 2 abnormal states of dark corruption and the lost. Remains lit for 1 hour. The store, which originally housed only 3 items, had now added the weak candlelight. Without a moment's hesitation, Bai Yi purchased 10 of them. His 1,000 mist coins vanished, replaced by a neat arrangement of 10 candles upon the table. As he picked one up for inspection, a sense of familiarity washed over him. The more he looked, the more it resonated with him, prompting Bai Yi to ascend to the second floor. As he approached, the flesh table automatically opened a drawer, revealing an identical candle quietly resting within. Bai Yi lifted the candle, which now displayed the name, Weak Candlelight. He had yet to utilize this seemingly ordinary candle, initially because he lacked a lighter to ignite it. Later, after acquiring a lighter, the sanctuary had unlocked the fireplace, and he had set it aside until now. What he thought to be an ordinary candle had unexpectedly become useful. Lost in thought, Bai Yi pondered whether this constituted a hint from the system. However, he did not dwell on it for long, focusing instead on the immediate tasks at hand. He relayed this information to both the team chat and the regional channel. Meanwhile, the regional channel, 58100, buzzed with activity. This black mist has been gnawing at my sanctuary. The durability is depleting rapidly. A candle costs 100 mist coins. Why not just steal one? The lonely wolf chimed in. The candles on the table when I first crossed over are indeed the weak candlelight. Is there still one left upstairs? Thanks for the reminder. I still have mine, haha. I thought it was useless and used it to make a wish. Oh, is Dog Brother also in this area? I've noticed too, Dog Brother. Lead the way. After sending the messages, Bai Yi did not linger for long. After greeting his teammates, he began selecting his gear. His reasoning was straightforward. During the initial onset of the black mist, the dangers were certainly lesser compared to those that followed. He intended to explore the surroundings while the treasure chests had not yet respawned. Chapter 30. Exploration in truth. Venturing out at this moment was not the wisest of choices. Since 9 o'clock in the morning, Bai Yi had already engaged in 2 fierce battles, assisting Wang Zi in defending her sanctuary in the morning and slaying corpses to replenish the sanctuary's flesh and bone values in the afternoon. This left Bai Yi in less than optimal condition. His innate active effects had entered cooldown, and his sanity had just barely returned to 75 out of 100. However, Bai Yi felt the need to verify a certain matter. He did not believe that the countdown for the treasure chest was merely set out of boredom. The 12-hour duration must certainly hold significance. He changed out of his blood-soaked garments and swiftly took a shower to wash away the scent of blood. With a candle in his left hand, a bone knife in his right, a journal at his left hip, and a revolver at his right, he completed this familiar routine. After lighting the candle, Bai Yi stepped into the darkness. The dim light emanated from the candle, enveloping him in a 360-degree embrace. The black mist was driven away, persistently attempting to encroach upon the illuminated area. When thwarted, it morphed into tendrils of darkness that clung to the light. This sight sent a shiver down Bai Yi's spine, further affirming his suspicion that the black mist was indeed alive. Not daring to waste time, Bai Yi began to advance in the darkness. The limited range of light precluded him from bringing Xiao Bai along, leaving it to guard their home. In the shroud of mist, he could not discern anything beyond the light, nor could he determine his direction. He relied on his previous explorations and his sense of the shelter's location to progress slowly. Silence reigned, a silence as profound as death. Throughout his journey, Bai Yi encountered no creatures, neither living nor deceased. As if he were the sole inhabitant of this desolate realm. Mental state. Anxiety 32100. The exploration in the darkness weighed heavily upon Bai Yi, infusing him with immense pressure. He was oblivious to what lay within the mist and what awaited him ahead. The once ubiquitous corpses had vanished, leaving him uncertain whether the absence of danger was due to the darkness or merely his failure to encounter any threats. Thus, each step he took was fraught with caution. Rather than entering the surrounding collapsed buildings, he opted to continue along the spacious roadway. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 40 minutes, 50 minutes. Mental state. Anxiety 54100. He had lost track of the distance he had traversed, estimating his progress only through the timestamps in his journal. After nearly an hour of exploration, the candle was nearly spent, yet Bai Yi had gleaned nothing. Not a single danger had presented itself. The more time passed without incident, the more his anxiety mounted. Gradually, he began to shed his cautious demeanor, replacing it with a fervent search, rummaging through the darkness indiscriminately. As the candle threatened to extinguish, Bai Yi was compelled to halt, sensing an unsettling shift in his emotions. Anxiety 100100. I am being affected. Bai Yi cast aside the chaotic thoughts swirling in his mind, grounding himself to contemplate carefully. It was certain that there was no danger within the black mist at present. With this realization, he opened his journal. In the team chat, Zhang Zhun had already utilized his talent to search. Within a 5-kilometer radius of his shelter, no creatures could be found. Zhang Zhun was now overjoyed, having discovered an iron mine and was frantically extracting raw iron during this interval. I should have anticipated Zhang Zhun's innate talent. Was it perhaps a psychological influence? At the moment the candle was on the verge of extinguishing, Bai Yi lit another one. Subsequently, he ceased his aimless exploration and began to retrace his steps, utilizing the candlelight to enter the building and search. To avoid wasting time, Bai Yi deliberately bypassed ordinary residential buildings, opting instead to scour commercial establishments. Most of the malls were desolate and devoid of any items, their once vibrant shelves now cloaked in a thick layer of dust. Due to the constraints of time, Bai Yi could not conduct a meticulous inspection. He could only perform a cursory examination before proceeding to the next location. After lighting 2 more candles, Bai Yi stumbled upon a locked warehouse in an underground supermarket. The door could be pushed open just enough to glimpse the chain lock securing the handle. He assessed the situation and found his knife could fit perfectly within. Stepping back a couple of paces, Bai Yi swung his knife with force. The chain snapped with a decisive sound. He cautiously pushed open the door and entered. Inside the warehouse, the shelves were laden with food that had long since rotted and molded. Additionally, Bai Yi noticed that the floor was methodically covered with similarly moldy blankets, indicating someone had resided here. Bai Yi continued his search. The warehouse was not extensive, and soon he had completed a full circle. During his exploration, he spotted a table with an open bag of bread and moldy loaves scattered atop it. There were signs of habitation, yet no trace of any individuals remained, not even a corpse. Where could they have gone? This realization sent a chill down Bai Yi's spine. The warehouse door had been locked from the inside, and at least 13 people had lived here. No one had exited, and there were no bodies. Had they vanished into thin air? As he pondered, he meticulously examined his surroundings. He then began to kick aside the bedding on the floor. 1, 2. Upon uncovering the last blanket, a square panel came into view. Bai Yi knocked on it. It was hollow. Grasping a reserved strap, he pulled, revealing a hidden passageway before him. He hesitated only briefly before stepping inside. The echo of his footsteps reverberated through the empty staircase. Bai Yi descended in darkness. Feeling the vast openness ahead, but obscured by the black mist, he could not discern what lay within. Initially, he inspected the surrounding walls. After a complete circuit, he found nothing of note, the only certainty being that the basement had an overall circular structure. Bai Yi ventured further inside, the air thick with a foul stench reminiscent of decomposing animal entrails. As he advanced, the ground beneath his feet shifted from solid to soft, as though he were treading upon flesh. It bore a striking resemblance to a carpet of flesh and fungi. Squatting down, Bai Yi utilized the candlelight to scrutinize the floor. There, he beheld dark red, unidentifiable chunks of meat. He attempted to pierce it with his knife. The blade effortlessly pierced through, yet it encountered no resistance until only the hilt remained. Bai Yi withdrew the sword, finding the chunk of flesh devoid of any signs of movement or bloodshed. This peculiar piece of meat left Bai Yi somewhat perplexed. After a brief contemplation, he resolved to press onward. The appearance of the treasure chest indicated that the system encouraged players to venture forth in exploration. To retreat now would merely result in a demise within the confines of the shelter. Replacing the tang knife with a revolver, Bai Yi advanced cautiously. Before long, he halted, having encountered no attacks thus far. However, he soon realized that, unbeknownst to him, he had already fallen victim to something.